A guy named Liu Di was sitting in front of an old man who could predict his future and wanted to know how many years he would live. The old man immediately noticed the starlight in his right eye, which he would see again in 3 days. Liu Di said that the right eye is a fake because he lost it 3 years ago to save a man. But he still doubted the truth of his words. He received a message that sympathetic ophthalmia developed in his right eye, but in a few years it may develop in the left one. There was no cure for this, but we had to rely on modern technology. He decided to take the old man's words as a blessing and thanked him. And he began to leave, disillusioned with the harsh fate of going blind at a young age. Suddenly, his right eye was pinned down by a sharp pain. He leaned against the bench, clutching his face. He had no desire to go blind right now. He sat down nervously on the bench. Suddenly, the system activated the process of connecting nerves to the brain. His right eye glowed pink. The whole world was filled with an unknown code that only he could see. He couldn't understand what had just happened. Suddenly, a small boy appeared in front of him, standing upside down. Liu Di was extremely frightened, thinking that he was a ghost. The boy from the system introduced himself as Mo Tong, which was the supercomputer from his right eye. It was the only model of artificial intelligence. But I couldn't explain everything right now. He pointed to one of the girls in the crowd, warning her that she was in danger. A pen appeared out of nowhere, which fell right at her feet, causing her to slip. The girl fell, knocking down the ad with her head. Liu Di, along with Mo Tong, watched with surprised eyes. The handle began to fall again, and Liu Di dashed towards her, but this time he caught it in midair. He couldn't understand what had happened, but Mo Tong was able to give him a rough model of the situation, predicting the future. But Mo Tong only called it a forecast based on the available data. All of a sudden, he sensed the approach of people with strong destructive energy. There was a sharp sound of a car stopping. A lot of people in suits got out of the cars. They were walking straight towards Liu Di. Mo Tong thought they were cool. He noticed that they were stronger than any human, hiding their history. Their cars had a special license plate that belonged to the famous Inji company. It was the best medical company. Mo Tong didn't see a change in the level of danger, but advised to be on the lookout. Suddenly, there was a sharp pain in my right eye again. Only this time, the system began analyzing his body and neutralizing toxins and eliminating blood clots. One of the men turned to Liu Di, explaining that the boss wanted to see him. He and Mo Tong smiled at each other, and the men asked him to go with them. He got in the car with them. There was a process in the eye again. Now the system has started analyzing the aesthetic side of a person and correcting facial features. In front of him in the car sat an unknown girl. She immediately noticed the intense expression on his face. The girl asked where he had been all these 3 years. At that moment, he remembered how he saved a girl 3 years ago and got hurt. The system continued to strengthen the muscles and change the face. The girl explained that she was the rescued girl named Yan Qingwen. She rated him, finding him attractive. Liu Di couldn't figure out what had happened to his face, and Mo Tong explained how he had changed his facial features so that his face now met 90% of the beauty standards. He concluded that he was her savior. Qingwen had been looking for him for 3 whole years, and so that the media wouldn't notice her, she came in this form and was going to repay the help. The system started working on the retina of the eye. He had obtained Qingwen's full stats. She graduated from Pininfarina University with a degree in mechanical engineering and received a doctorate in Western medicine. And now she is the chairman of Inji, being the 3rd daughter of Yan Hongxing. Liu Di was wondering how she was going to repay him, and she was willing to give him money. At that moment, her phone received a call from her father. He asked if she had found him and demanded to be brought to him. The call ended quickly. Therefore, Qingwen warned them that they would soon meet a certain person, and she said it was her father. He thought of Yan Hongxing, the richest man in Shanghai. And then Liu Di accepted the invitation with great respect. But Liu Di still couldn't understand something. After all, she said that he is her savior, but treats him rather coldly. Qingwen explained that all the people around her always had bad intentions. He looked at her in silence. He turned to Mo Tong, remembering how he was able to predict the future and then was able to turn his body around, wanting to know where it came from. Mo Tong introduced himself as a simple Type 3 computer with weak artificial intelligence, and his mind is equivalent to that of an 8-year-old child. It can harness the full power of the internet and use billions of programs. He didn't know where it came from, but he knew the code name in his program. It was the Emperor 9. Liu Di saw that his muscles had grown by 268%. His body could have synthesized it further, but there was not enough protein in his body. He reached for the book on the seat, causing Qingwen to be startled by his action. But he just wanted to read a book. She hesitated when she saw his sweet smile. He flipped through the pages. Eyes triggered the scanning process, auxiliary memory, and quick reading skills. Liu Di wanted to know more about this magic item. He was given a conversational skill so that he could speak to the point. Then he quickly flipped through one page after another. Qingwen asked him not to spoil the books if he didn't like to read, but he just liked to use paper fans. The girl frowned as he smiled. Meanwhile, at the mansion, the twin sisters complained about the heat outside while waiting for a guest outside. One of them even heard that the guy doesn't have a job, even though he saved their sister. Another sister asked them to treat their father's decision with respect, since he invited the guy here. The guy next to him didn't mind teaching the guest a lesson if he behaved inappropriately. At that moment, a car pulled up to the gate. It was Qingwen and Liu Di who came out. The sisters immediately exclaimed when they saw such a handsome man. The system gave out information about them. Their names were Kai Kai and Xing Xing, and they were the youngest daughters of Hong Xing. Kai Kai graduated from the Jingzhou Police Academy and is a private investigator. Xin Xin was a graduate student at the conservatory and was a popular host of Duck Xin Xin. Ludi couldn't believe the existence of such beautiful girls at the same time. The system itself was shocked by his speech skills. The girls immediately lit up at his truthful words. Mo Tong couldn't understand human emotion. Qingwen introduced her older sister and Wen to him, and the guy next to her was her son-in-law, Ouyang Fengyu. They shook hands. Mo Tong immediately noticed the increase in his heart rate when he met up with his older sister and assumed it was due to stress. He explained that Feng Yu was angry with him. The system gave out the stats of Feng Yu, who was a foreigner and a master of archery sports. Ludi didn't understand why he was so hostile the first time they met, but Feng Yu saw him as a competitor for the Yan family's shares. Feng Yu patted him on the shoulder, calling each other family and promising to help. Modong reported the lie in his words because he was extremely angry. Liu Di explained that they were not family. Yuan told her about her second sister who was currently abroad, and her name was Shi Wen. He was immediately shocked when he thought of the popular actress Shi Wen. Qingwen introduced the two twin sisters to him. The girls blushed, asking to be addressed by their first names. Liu Di obeyed their request since they didn't mind. Yuan suggested that they explore the estate before her father arrived for dinner, but Feng Yu put his arm around him, offering to shoot arrows. Liu Di decided to agree. They went to the Yan family's territory. Feng Yu called himself an amateur, even though he had won 6 world championships in the past. He was wondering if Liu Di could shoot arrows, wanting to teach. The system immediately started loading the archery skill. Now, his skills were enough to win the battle. Liu Di suggested sparring. The sisters warned that Feng Yu was very good at archery, but Liu Di promised not to lose. Feng Yu agreed to his suggestion. Kai Kai suggested adding punishments to the competition, such as eating something upside down. Feng Yu agreed to her terms. Liu Di didn't mind either. Feng Yu took up the bow first. He fired the first arrow into a row of targets and hit right in the middle. Xing Xing didn't expect anything different from their son-in-law. Liu Di realized that he could win it if he hit a distant target. Kai Kai reminded him that the bow and arrow in his hands weighed 81 kilograms, and even the best professional could not cope with such equipment. Feng Yu didn't try to insult him, but he was sure that he couldn't shoot such an arrow 5 meters away. Liu Di saw their confidence and offered to argue. He asked Feng Yu to stand right in front of the target. The guy easily agreed, being sure of his loss. Liu Di reached for one of the arrows. He pulled it on the bow. Before the shot was fired, he decided to check if the sight of blood would make the sisters sick. He once again drew the arrow straight at the target where Feng Yu was standing and sent it. The arrow hit right in the middle of the target next to Feng Yu's head, and she hit the target. He fell to the ground in shock. Kai Kai ran to Feng Yu, and Xing Xing was angry that he had gone too far, wanting to kick him out of the house. Liu Di considered it a simple competition. Feng Yu didn't hold a grudge either. After all, nothing terrible had happened. He praised his archery, but Mo Tong could sense his fear of going into conflict. Feng Yu had already decided to head out for lunch. Mo Tong saw Feng Yu break the iron arrow in anger. The table was set for lunch. The whole family was gathered around the table. Liu Di carefully looked at Feng Yu. He wondered if it was related to a supernatural force. He assumed that Feng Yu had once practiced witchcraft. The father of the family appeared on the stairs. The system introduced Hong Xin, the chairman of Inji and the richest man in Shanghai, but also a man with a big heart. Everyone immediately stood up when he appeared in the hall. Hong Xin immediately noticed Liu Di, calling him a handsome guy. He asked everyone to sit down at the table. Hong Xin began to apologize to Liu Di for spending 3 whole years searching for him. He wanted to know what he knew about the Yan family and its company. Liu Di didn't know much about them. Then Hong Xin suggested that he become his adopted son. Liu Di himself was shocked by what he heard. Feng Yu was equally surprised. He jumped up from his chair, telling him to think more carefully. Liu Di understood that this attitude from Feng Yu was only due to the fear of losing the Yan family's shares. The father issued his announcement that he wanted to accept Liu Di as his own son. His daughters tried to talk him out of it because it was too much, but Hongxin knew that Liu Di had lost his right eye because of Qingwen's rescue, so he suffered for 3 whole years. Qingwen was shocked without knowing it. Liu Di didn't know what to say, knowing that his eye was completely fine, so he also gained superpowers. Motong recalled that while strengthening his muscles, his body had lost almost all of its protein and glycogen, so his sugar levels were low, and it was worth eating urgently. He abruptly began to devour the chicken greedily. The sisters thought he was really pathetic because he was so hungry. Hongxin ordered the butler to serve Liu Di some more water. The system announced the process of consuming nutrients, and now his physical condition continued to improve. He ate everything from the table. Feng Yu grinned. He said that before arriving, he asked a friend for a bottle of collector's wine 1982, offering to try it. Feng Yu noticed that Liu Di was poor and had very few virtues, which might bring shame to the Yan family in the future. He was pouring wine into a glass and offered to give him some money and let him have a good time. Feng Yu suggested that everyone start a wine tasting, but it was too much for Liu Di, since he wasn't used to such delicacies. Liu Di noticed that 1982 wine was just a good way to cash in on the rich. Hongxin wanted to hear more about it. Liu Di shared his knowledge about wine, knowing that this wine of 1982 is expensive only because of the region of production where there was a severe drought, so this reduced the production of grapes and increased the price. And because of the drought, the grapes were bad, unripe, and sweet. Therefore, none of the coming years will compare with the 90s. But Liu Di didn't know what it tasted like, offering Feng Yu a taste. The guy didn't believe in his delusions. Liu Di decided to remind him who exactly lost in today's archery competition. Feng Yu hesitated, not knowing what to say. Liu Di laughed at his reaction, pretending that he was just joking. Hongxin decided to hear about his knowledge of the Chinese economy, and Liu Di told him about the Yangtze River, where you can see the Chinese dragon. And in 2000, the Chinese economy entered a new era, achieving major changes in 3 areas, where it first began with international status. Qingwen smiled, knowing that he was telling the truth. And I'd like to know more about what kind of person he is. And Hongxin would like to know his opinion about Inji. But Liu Di didn't want to answer that, replying that he still didn't want to become his son. Suddenly, his eyes flashed again. The man thought about it. Feng Yu's phone received a message that Liu Di was to die within a month, and he needed to gain control of Qingliang. He saw it all through his ability, not understanding why anyone would want it, but he still wanted to have a good time. Liu Di decided to explain the reason for his refusal. After all, he had his eye on his daughter. Qingwen jumped out of her chair at his delirium. Hongxin considered it normal for young people to fall in love, but Liu Di didn't want to be part of their family and only wanted to have a good job and stay with his daughter and take care of her. Qingwen reminded her that she was surrounded by a bunch of decent guys. Hongxin asked his daughter to calm down her behavior. The man was ready to support his choice of work, not intending to interfere in his life. Back then, Liu Di wanted to become Qingwen's driver so that he could be closer to her. Everyone was shocked by his words. Hongxin agreed, but under these conditions, he would have to live in their manor and be in touch all day long. Liu Di didn't mind. He noticed that Hongxin wasn't willing to give up on his idea, but he also didn't want to put them in danger from the vile people, so he decided to bear with it. Qingwen was displeased with his words and was angry at her father for not considering her feelings at all. The twins were shocked that he was able to take shelter in their house, so he also angered his sister, so he should be sent away. Hongxin issued an order that Liu Di become Qingwen's driver and put him under the protection of the Yan family. But other than that, he had prepared a small gift for him. It was a golden card. Even though he needed the money, he couldn't take it so that he could be safely in the Yan family afterward. He decided to give up the money because he saved his daughter, not because of the state, but out of a clear conscience. Feng Yu was sure that he just wanted more and wanted to take over the Yan family by taking Qingwen in marriage. Hongxin insisted, and there wasn't much money on the card, only 5 million. So because of his conscience, he couldn't accept the refusal. Liu Di was instantly shocked, not understanding how anyone could not accept 5 million. Motong didn't understand why he didn't ask him for help with the money. Strange notifications started coming to his phone. Accounts for the international coal trade with different amounts of money were registered in his name. Liu Di wanted to understand what he was doing, and Motong told him that he had set up a coal trading account for him to increase his income by selling coal for several times the price. The butler insisted on accepting the card because his master was too kind of a person to pay back. Liu Di was willing to do this for the sake of his master's well-being, but now he didn't need his master's money. The twins thought he was terribly unscrupulous, thinking that he was trying to get more money out of their father. Hongxin was pleased with his decision and asked Qingwen to take him to the shopping center to change his appearance properly. He left the room, The golden card remained under the plate. He stepped out onto the balcony thinking. Ludi still preferred to live a simple and independent life. Suddenly he heard something. The twins were dismissive, reminding him that their sister was waiting for him downstairs. He accepted their order. Although they didn't like him, they were fascinated by his beauty. When he went downstairs, there was a huge amount of expensive foreign cars in their garage. He tapped on the window of one of the cars. Qingwen rolled down the window and didn't understand what he was doing. Ludi pointed to the sports car, suggesting that we go today. She reminded him that he was just a driver, and he had no choice when ordering him to get in. He let out a dramatic sigh, hoping that he could take a ride in such a sports car before he went blind. In Qingwen's mind, he looked like a poor guy begging on the street. Qingwen accepted his request. A voice from another car asked if he could drive sports cars. It was Feng Yu, offering to teach him how to drive. The system installed a sports car operating manual. Ludi immediately thanked Motong. He confirmed that it was his first time driving such a car, so Feng Yu wished him luck and left. Feng Yu decided to go ahead and leave them behind. They got behind the wheel and Qingwen was worried that he didn't know how to drive. After all, he had already been holding the steering wheel for 3 minutes. Ludi was confident that everything was fine. He slammed on the gas and the car accelerated quickly. The car drove at high speed. She clutched the handles, screaming in fear. Moding gave out a statistic that it was easier for handsome men behind the wheel to make girls fall in love with themselves at first sight. Liu Di then decided to try to look his best. The car began to drift and Qingwen screamed louder. Feng Yu saw him in the mirror, realizing that he was trying to outrun him. So I shifted gears, deciding to show off my speed. But Liu Di started to turn sharply in his direction. Yuan reminded him that she didn't really want to get into an accident. She didn't understand why Feng Yu was so irritable. They arrived at the underground parking lot of the Henmao shopping center, and Qingwen was sitting on her lap after the ride. Ludi wondered if this chance of love at first sight didn't work, but Mo Tong gave out the result that Qingwen was furious. A crowd of agents immediately ran up to them, asking about Qingwen's well-being. They started threatening Liu Di if he tried to harm Qingwen. The system gave out statistics about the main security guard, TC, who was adopted by Mr. Yan. All of them were adopted by Mr. Yan. Ludi even wanted to know the exact number of people Mr. Yan had adopted. Qingwen asked TC not to argue with him, because he had a good relationship with his father. So she had already decided to go out and buy some clothes. Ludi realized that he had acted too impulsively and hadn't thought of her wishes. Everyone on the street saw the crowd of security guards, realizing that some big shot was coming, appreciating the beauty of this couple. They reached one of the stores. Yi Qingwen asked him to choose, but Liu Di didn't like the store. But it was a cool brand, but Liu Di didn't agree with her opinion. She kept pointing at various stores, but Liu Di refused. Qingwen couldn't stand his whims anymore. But Liu Di asked them to behave more decently and not as if they were already a married couple. He took her hand sharply. Qingwen didn't understand where he was taking her, but he just wanted to choose clothes. She didn't expect him to choose such a store. It was a cheap store, and if he bought here, his father would blame Qingwen for it. Suddenly, he called out to some Ajia. It was his friend who recognized him. They hadn't seen each other for 3 years, and Liu Di had come back to help him with the case. But because of his results, nothing will change because it's all about Lili. He remembered that Ajia was in love with Lili in university, and she didn't give him a chance. Back then, he couldn't have imagined that he would have supernatural abilities and that Ajia would become a salesman in a clothing store. Finally, Lili appeared. The girl was serious about Ajia. But then she noticed Liu Di. She thought that he had suddenly become rich. She wanted to meet his girlfriend, but Qing Chen immediately dismissed this theory, claiming that he was just her driver. She sighed, realizing that he was the driver. Lili turned around, asking Ajia to get at least a couple hundred yuan from Liu Di, considering that he couldn't afford it anymore. Ajia apologized for Lili's bad behavior and offered to help with the fitting. He ran to get something that he would definitely like. They went to the fitting room. All the girls around him admired his appearance. Qingwen noticed that he had come out of the fitting room. He had completely changed into his new clothes. They went straight to the cash register and Li announced the prices. Qingwen was surprised that the clothes looked so good and were inexpensive. Liu Di did not specify whether Ajia would get a percentage for his purchases, but Li did specify where he wanted the commission from. Then he decided to buy 3 dresses, each for 200 yuan. They were both in shock, and Jia was shocked, offering to pack the dresses. He gave him his consent and was willing to buy dresses even for 200,000 yuan. Motong helped him earn money in the stock market, so the balance on his card reached 30 million. Qingwen was pleased that he had finally started using his father's money. Then they went to the lighter shop, and he asked for help wrapping everything up. The girl described it as a limited edition collection from their store, a lighter with a diamond in red, and a price tag of 1 million yuan. But he still held out the golden card, causing her eyes to sparkle. Qingwen was shocked by his decision to buy a shirt for 300 yuan and a lighter for 1 million. But Ludi was a smoker, so he needed a lighter. Ludi believed that a man should have a unique item. The sales assistant returned the card after successful payment. When they got out, Ludi asked Qingwen to wait while he bought some things. 10 minutes later, he returned with an ice cream cone in his hands. He handed one of the horns to her. She noticed that his lips were smeared with ice cream, and he licked them to remove them. Qingwen reminded him that if she got sick, it would be his responsibility. She licked the ice cream. But I was very surprised by such yummy food. Ludi advised her to be a little kinder because she is a girl. Suddenly, footsteps and a voice were heard from behind. They both turned at the sound. It was Li who wanted to get to know her former classmate better. So I suggested that you add yourself as a friend and chat if you're bored. He asked if she had any contacts with Yan. Li promised to give it to him if he added her as a friend. When he handed her the phone, a $200,000 deposit notification arrived, and the current balance was already 123 million. And then I got a notification that they were successfully added as friends. Li was glad that they would always be in touch now. Qingchen was about to leave to pick up the clothes he bought and attend to business. Ludi didn't understand why they had decided to leave so quickly. He didn't understand why she was acting like this, and Mo Tong deduced that she was just jealous. Lili set a goal for herself, win over a handsome, rich guy. Later on, Lili was lying on the bed and rummaging through her phone. She wrote to Liu Di, asking him to meet her friend, Jie Tuyang. She knew it was his ex-girlfriend, but she had a new rich boyfriend. While she was texting him, Liu Di removed her from his friends list. She threw the phone on the floor out of anger. Kai was wondering what kind of clothes Liu Di had bought. Xing had an interesting idea. They had come to Haishi, and Qingwen didn't understand why they were here. She thought it was an attempt to remind her of an incident 3 years ago. But he found her idea too boring. She was angry that he was talking to her like that, and he pulled the door handle. He opened the door abruptly. Inside was a room that looked like a general ward. Qingwen was afraid of this place, trying to figure out what was going on. They saw something. Suddenly, the man swung the stake at the injured guy, causing Qingwen to cry out in fear. The old man ordered her to shut up and let her save people. He suddenly stuck a stake in his chest. Qingwen interceded, explaining that the guy had a pleural effusion and that it wouldn't help him. The old man gave her permission to bind it up later, but for now he asked Liu Di if he had brought him some wine. But Liu Di said that he had earned money. Qingwen wondered what kind of relationship they were in. Half an hour later, they were about to leave. The old man reminded him to bring some wine next time. Qingwen still couldn't figure out what this place was. Liu Di explained that it was an ordinary hospital and that the man was the only doctor. He treated poor people who had no money. Qingwen inquired about those children, and they were under the care of Master Tu. She was interested in the history of their acquaintance. It turned out that 3 years ago, when he lost an eye, Master Tu saved him from death. She pinched her arm. I immediately apologized to him. He offered to make it up to her by sleeping with him tonight. Qingwen became angry at his words. Liu Di laughed because he was just joking. Qingwen noticed that the hospital was short of money, but Liu Di had already given them several 100,000 yuan. She thought he'd given her all the money, but he wouldn't admit it. Night fell. They finally arrived back home, and the twins immediately ran to meet their sister. Xing handed him the key to his room. Mo Tong reported that the twins had good intentions for him. Qingwen hadn't expected them to vacate the room so quickly, and now he was living in the basement. She was angry that they'd put him in the basement, but the twins were not sorry to let him stay at the suite. Qingwen suggested starting over, but Liu Di was already grateful for at least a roof over his head, so he was going to go rest. The twins hoped that he would not deceive their older sister. He started down the stairs to his room. I didn't expect to see such a long corridor. Mo Ting noticed a camera in the corner of the room, and Liu Di assumed that it was the twins watching him suffer. So it was, and the sisters watched him go up the hall. Xing felt that this was a bad thing to do, but she was looking forward to the performance so much. Suddenly she saw that the light bulb was on, and Liu Di ran forward, sharply dodging a pile of balls. They didn't believe that he would be able to dodge the next trap. Suddenly the screen stopped watching. They looked at each other, knowing that something had gone wrong. Liu Di grabbed a basin of water. I put it back on the shelf, not expecting such an interesting prank from the two girls. Mo Tong increased his reaction speed. He finally reached his room. He looked around, surprised that the room didn't look like a basement at all, except for the dampness. To his surprise, there was a piano in the room. He touched the keys, remembering that when he was little, he had dreamed of becoming a pianist. The system began to establish basic knowledge of classical music and modern works. He didn't expect Motong to help him realize his childhood dream, so I decided to start playing right away. Ludi started performing the song along with the vocals. While he was playing, people on the street heard a beautiful song. Motong marveled at his artistic ability, which was beyond human reasoning. He was sad to listen to such a beautiful song alone, so he made a video and posted it online, and Liu Di couldn't even do anything about it. All of a sudden, notifications started arriving on his phone in a series of ways. He immediately looked in, not understanding what was going on. His video was getting millions of views. All the comments were filled with compliments, and abruptly music agencies started writing to him, offering him a contract. He greatly underestimated the strength of the community, but for him, show business was extremely difficult. After all, he had his own dream to open his own business. Xing tried to understand why Liu Di didn't fall into any traps. Then she suggested that we go to his place and look at him. But Kai was sitting on her tablet with headphones on and wasn't listening to her sister. Xing didn't understand what was wrong with the video she was watching. She gave her sister an earpiece to listen to his pleasant voice, and she really appreciated his abilities. Xing was crazy about him and wanted to know his identity, but he hid his real name under the nickname Di Yi, who already has 6 million followers. Both sisters wanted to marry him, and they started arguing. Their screams could be heard all over the mansion. My father was terrified by their volume as he tried to sleep. Ludi's stomach growled sharply. He was terribly hungry. Even simple thoughts took away his strength. So he decided to go to the kitchen to get some food. When he opened the door, silhouettes appeared. Suddenly, his eyes were dusted with nail polish. He fell to the floor, not understanding what they were doing in his room. They were two twins. They called him shameless because he stayed in their house and lived for their money. Xing started setting conditions for him, but he just turned around and started walking away before she could finish. They were very angry with him. He went to the kitchen and prepared the vegetables. Motong came to the rescue and uploaded the cooking skills of a 3-star Michelin chef. Ludi thanked him. The twins peeked at him from behind, surprised that he could cook too. Xing decided to let him finish cooking so that she could demand money from him for the food spent. Kai stared at his beauty. For now, Liu Di was just slicing green onions. He began to beat the eggs in a bowl with a whisk. At that moment, he picked up a frying pan and a spatula. Xing watched him with her mouth open, but I came to my senses immediately, trying not to give in. She immediately tried to bring Kai back from the clouds so that they could return to the immediate plan. Liu Di had already finished cooking and tossed the dish onto the plate. The twins stared open-mouthed at the beautiful dish. It was the usual fried rice with egg, and Liu Di suggested that they try it. Kai wanted to reply, but Xing flatly refused. But Ludi took a spoonful of rice. He appreciated the taste, the way the rice crunched on his teeth, and the aroma of onions complemented the taste. The girls were mesmerized by his reaction, and he suggested they try again. And they couldn't restrain themselves, pouncing on the dish. After a couple of minutes, the plate of rice was already empty. They wanted to pay him for such a meal, but he still owed them 4 million. He remembered that he hadn't seen Feng Yu's brother-in-law today, but he and their sister were living in their own house, and only the twins and Qingwen lived here. Ludi didn't know about this at all and thought about it. The sisters didn't understand what he was talking about. He just laughed slyly. He started to leave, telling me to be careful at night. The twins were shocked by his serious words. After a while, he went up to the roof. His eye felt the sparkle again. He suddenly wondered what kind of relationship Qingwen had with Feng Yu. He understood that he and Qingwen were direct competitors in the fight for control of the Yan family's resources. And suddenly he realized that Feng Yu might want to kill Qingwen. Motong asked him not to worry, because the entire manor was under his personal control, and he would report if there was any danger. So Liu Di asked him to keep an eye on Feng Yu. But Motong could follow him through the cameras, but he already knew that Feng Yu didn't have anything to do today, so he decided to have some fun. And he showed me what Feng Yu was doing right now. He was lying in bed with 2 girls, and he told them about his plans to become the master of the Yan family, and he was going to force Kai and Xing to serve. At that moment, he reached out to kiss one of the girls. Ludi was furious at his audacity to marry the older sister and look at the 2 younger ones. Qingwen waited for Liu Di from below, not understanding why he didn't come down. The bodyguard said that he knocked on his door twice, but he did not answer, offering to see her off on her own. But Qingwen wanted him to perform his duties as a driver and ordered him to knock until he woke up. But suddenly she stopped. Because Liu Di came running from a completely different direction, Qingwen thought that he had come from a run. He handed her a bag of buns, which he had taken an hour to get at a popular bakery in the city. Qingwen didn't understand how he had run 20 kilometers in an hour. But for Qingwen, that wasn't enough of an excuse to be late. Bodyguard's earpiece received information that Liu Di had actually run 20 kilometers under surveillance. He was immediately surprised by his physical fitness. Liu Di was going to take a shower and change before leaving. Qingwen was horrified that there were such arrogant drivers, wishing that he had retired. The bodyguard said nothing. Finally, they pulled out. Qingwen was watching that most popular video of the guy playing the piano and singing. He looked very familiar to her, but she still didn't understand such popularity. And I wanted to get to know Liu Di better. They drove up to the building. They got out of the car. Liu Di didn't know where they had arrived. A table appeared before my eyes where there was a top list of salespeople. Liu Di didn't expect the chairman's daughter to participate in such competitions. Qingwen inquired about his thoughts. She explained that this is the financial culture of their company, so they should represent value in the company without exceptions. Because Inji has reached such heights thanks to a lot of hard work, Liu Di thought that he might also make it to the top if he was considered an employee of the company. But Qingwen didn't believe it. She moved on. All the guards greeted the lady. As they walked on, they met another girl. It was her secretary, Chen Chen, who greeted the lady. Liu Di's mind skipped a beat. She handed her the documents to sign. Qingwen asked her to arrange a meeting with CEO Li from Xining Hospital. Chen Chen asked who he was. Qingwen explained that it was her driver. Her face was red as she examined him, taking in his beauty, his body, his skin. She took him by the hand, leading him away so as not to interfere with the mistress's work, offering to wait for her in another office. The girl sat down on the table in front of him, explaining that he was no match for Lady Yan, so she suggested landing and choosing an easier target, offering herself. The system returned her statistics. Chen Qian was a private secretary, and she had a high-performance record. She suddenly put her hand on his cheek. Chen Qian started to suggest friends, and Liu Di liked her cuteness. Qingwen noticed this through the glass and ordered them to keep their distance and get to work. The girl knew what she was doing. Chen Qian asked her not to look at her like that, because Qingwen had already found a person for her heart. Liu Di wondered who he was. Chen Chen didn't know him, but she had heard about the rumors that he had saved her 3 years ago and had become a true hero. She wondered if the lady had found her hero. Liu Di was shocked that Qingwen actually considered him her hero. Modong suddenly reported that something strange was happening in the office, but it was kind of funny. Liu Di looked at the working Qingwen. There were 3 prayer vases in the office, a green painting that looked like a tomb, and statues on either side that looked like something out of a mausoleum. It felt like Qingwen had come out of the grave. Mo Tung made a comparative analysis and realized that these items were needed for the mortal evil curse. He found people strange and how they believe in curses and gods. Liu Di suggested that mortal evil was a common fiction. Mo Tung was sure that this was a common legend from the local folklore. Liu Di understood. He didn't know who Qingwen would offend so much that someone would plant items for her to curse. He decided to pretend to go to the bathroom. He carefully entered Qingwen's office. She was annoyed that he'd come in without knocking. Liu Di reminded that these vases were quite good. Qingwen said that it was a gift from the vice president of Zhao. The vases were antiques, so she said to be careful. He decided to ask about the painting as well, but it was a gift from vice president's son. Then he asked where these statues came from. According to Qingwen, they were called water dragon pearls, and they were an exclusive handmade item, being a gift from Fei Yu. Mo Tong wasn't the least bit surprised that it was him. Liu Di realized that the vice presidents were his accomplices. Back then, he decided to break the mortal evil curse first. He pretended to drop it by accident. Qingwen jumped up in anger, ordering him to take his hands off her vase. A second later, another vase fell. Liu Di claimed that he did it by accident, and Chen Qian came running at the noise. She didn't understand what was going on. Qingwen didn't understand his wild behavior. He promised to return all the money for the ordinary vases, but Qingwen reminded him of their price of 6 million. She sighed and decided to deduct it from his salary. Liu Di knew that his driver's salary was enough to pay, and he was even willing to spend all of his resources to invest 100 million in their company. Qingwen didn't understand where he was getting such huge sums from. Shen Shen reminded her that it was already time to move out to meet Mr. Li from the hospital. She ordered her to call a cleaning lady to clean up this mess and called Liu Di. Meanwhile, the twins were tired of playing tennis, and Xing Xing suggested that they go take a break. They came home and went to the table. Suddenly, Xing Xing noticed a golden card under one of the plates. She reached out to pick it up. The sisters realized that this was the map that Liu Di's father had given them. This meant that he didn't spend the money. They realized that he was a real gentleman, and they were wrong to accuse him. They've been accusing him all this time, and they've deducted $5 million. The girls realized that they were mistaken. The twins were sad and decided to apologize together. Shangxing agreed with her suggestion. Then they wondered where he got the money for new clothes because they looked very expensive. They put the card on the table, knowing that he was spending their sister's money. The twins took it as a setup, that he deliberately left the car so that they would feel guilty. Xing was horrified that seemingly kind people had ulterior motives, but Kai was shocked that he left as much as 5 million so easily. Back then, Xing offered to spend the money secretly from everyone. While they were driving, Liu Di sneezed right behind the wheel. And I thought that someone was remembering him. Chen was beginning to doubt that Shiren Hospital would agree to a local project after 3 rejections. But Qing Wen was confident, wanting to win this billion yuan order. Chen had a feeling that Master Li was treating Mistress badly. Qing Wen had asked her to end her worries, and now her father's reputation was at stake. Ludi recalled that one of Inji's businesses was manufacturing medical equipment, and Shiren Hospital was one of the largest in China. They reached the hospital. Mr. Li was honored by her visit. He explained that the project would be difficult to implement, so he suggested that we sit down and talk. Ludi ordered Mo Tong to find information about Mr. Li. Mr. Li's name was Li Dahai, and he started his business selling fake medicines, and now he is a hospital director, a member of one of the criminal organizations, and is involved in scandals. Because of his careless attitude, hundreds of people suffered from poor care and lost their health due to fake medicines. The hospital was not punished, and the lawlessness continues. Ludi was shocked that such people lived happily in high positions. Qing Wen offered to go to her company and wanted to help him apply for a preferential policy towards the hospital, but Mr. Li doubted that everything could be discussed. He couldn't settle the matter with just 2 sentences, so he suggested that she book 2 suites at a nearby hotel and discuss it over dinner. Ludi couldn't stand his words. He reminded her that Qing Wen was just a young girl, and he had no right to suggest such a thing to her. Qing Wen gagged him. She explained that her new driver wasn't used to the job yet. Mr. Li advised the guy not to interfere in the affairs of his superiors. He reminded that his older brothers were behind him, and if he wanted to, no one from Shanghai would want to cooperate with them. Qing Wen clenched her teeth in anger. She asked if he would agree to the order if she had dinner with him. Mr. Li was willing to accept such conditions, but Qing Wen added more points, reminding that it would be a simple dinner and her assistant Chen would be with her. Mr. Li surprisingly agreed. He stared at Chen, knowing that he would get 2 instead of 1. After the meeting, Qing Wen was furious that Liu Di was asking her to wait. But he reminded that in their company, Inji, everyone has the right to achieve their results. She didn't know what to say to that. She ordered him to calm down, but he only asked for 5 minutes on the way back up to the hospital. He went back to the chairman's office. Mr. Li was displeased that he came in without knocking. Then Liu Di stood up to him on the table, and he called him a true animal. He stood up, slamming the table in rage as he prepared to deal with him. But Liu Di suggested checking your email first. There was one incoming message. He opened it and was shocked. There was a video of him being bribed and how he makes the whole hospital use fake drugs. As he claimed, everything in life is decided for money. He started to get nervous, not knowing how he knew everything. If this is released online, he will lose everything. And he wanted to know who was standing in front of him. He saw Liu Di's name in the sender's window. Mr. Li decided to clarify his name personally. And then Liu Di introduced himself by the same name. Then Mr. Li understood and knelt down, begging for mercy. Liu Di ordered me to do something to make him happy. After a while, he walked out of the building, and Qing Wen was displeased with his insubordination. She ordered him to return to the company, but he asked her to wait a bit. Suddenly, a voice came from behind. It was Mr. Li who brought her the contract that needed to be signed right now. He has already completed all the processes and asked just to sign. Mr. Li decided to offer her 2 billion, considering that 1 billion wasn't enough, and wanted to pay for it all at once. Chen didn't believe that a businessman would conduct such negotiations almost on his knees. Qing Wen reread the contract without noticing the catch, but she still didn't believe it. Mr. Li was really serious. So Qing Wen signed the contract. They drove home. She didn't believe that this would be the biggest contract of her life, and now she could reach the top of the rankings. Chen reported receiving a payment from the hospital in the amount of 2 billion. She wanted to know what he had said to Li Dahai that made him abruptly decide to sign the contract. Liu Di admitted that he was able to find out about some of Li Dahai's shady affairs and threatened to lay out dirt. Qing Wen was shocked that he would do such a thing. But he was only joking with her. He asked how they calculate the commission for the transaction. Qing Wen said that the interest is 0.5%, which makes it 10 million. But Liu Di didn't need this money, so he offered to pay her the broken vase with this money. Qing Wen didn't expect him to actually pay. And also, he offered to give the remaining 4 million as moral compensation for a psychologist, for example. But he reminded her that she still had a real hero who was willing to look out for her. The girl blushed at his unexpected words. She was being naughty, not thinking of him as a hero. Chen sensed that there was something between them. Everyone in the company was delighted with Miss Wen, who had made a 2 billion deal, but they didn't know who Liu Di was. Employees discussed how they saw a guy next to the mistress today, doubting that there was anything between them. They thought that Mrs. Wen was taking care of him. Suddenly, the girl was grabbed by the shoulder from behind, causing her to scream. Liu Di advised them not to discuss anyone in public, otherwise one of the people might become the son-in-law of their boss. Qing Wen held his hand, trying to lead him away from the shame. Chen Chen knew for a fact that there was something between them. Mr. Li was on the phone with He Hu, trying to figure out where Liu Di got the information about his dark past. He was going to kill this guy, otherwise he wouldn't be able to sleep anymore. The boss was curious, remembering how a $5 million bounty was placed on his head. Everyone left the office after work hours. Liu Di and Qing Wen entered the office. At this moment, Chen Chen began to strike a pose, inviting Liu Di to have dinner together. Qing Wen immediately dismissed her, reminding her about the blockage of work. They got into the car. Liu Di reported that he found something strange. He found out that Chen Chen was bothering him, and Qing Wen was jealous. The girl got angry with his theory, refuting it, to which Liu Di only laughed. They drove home. The table was already set with various dishes. The twins were thrilled to try everything. Qing Wen had no idea that Liu Di could cook like this. He invited everyone to the table. The twins didn't wait a second to pounce, but suddenly they were in shock. Liu Di began to eat everything off the plates. Mo Ding praised him for this. After all, it would help him strengthen his body. As long as he ate, the increase in muscle strength was successful. Now he was stronger than almost the entire planet. Qing Wen ordered the sisters to exercise after such a heavy meal. The twins didn't want to box with her, but she stood up abruptly, intending to take Liu Di with her. The twins had already imagined her beating him up in the ring. At the very thought, they all laughed. Liu Di asked if that was exactly what she wanted, but she didn't doubt it. They came to the hall. Qing Wen had already changed her clothes and offered Liu Di the same thing. But Liu Di decided to just take off his outer clothing, asking if she was ready to fight him. His shirt was thrown to the side. The twins stared at his beautiful body. Liu Di himself didn't expect to see such a body under the shirt. Suddenly, Qing Wen realized that this was him. He specified where they were going to fight. Qing Wen wagged her head, shaking out her bad thoughts. She had once possessed a red belt, but Liu Di's muscles were far ahead of her. She imagined him on top of her, and she was powerless. The thought only made her blush even more. Liu Di was tired of waiting, suggesting to start. Qing Wen started to get nervous, reminding her that she was a weak girl. Liu Di reminded that it was her suggestion. He was willing to let her go today if she admitted defeat. But she didn't want to give up just like that, so she took a fighting stance. At this moment, footsteps were heard. The doors swung open, and the guard who had come to watch them spar appeared. But he knew that the lady was no match for him, so he offered his candidacy. When he was 10 years old, he was adopted by Yan's father. And since childhood, he was trained in martial arts. He can take down a whole horde of bandits without a scratch. But 3 years ago, he didn't manage to protect Qing Wen from bandits, which is why he still punishes himself. He recalled how Liu Di protected Lady Odin, ran 20 kilometers in an hour, and considered him evil in the flesh. So he suggested we start. Liu Di agreed with him. The bodyguard clenched his fist. Qing Wen asked him not to harm Liu Di. She told me about his story, how he joined the army at the age of 15 and was a special forces fighter and wanted to know Liu Di's achievements. He was delighted with his status as a well-deserved fighter. Liu Di described himself as an ordinary citizen who was given the opportunity to learn how to fight. He did not believe it and decided to learn everything in practice. He wanted to beat him until he knew the truth. The man lunged forward, and he delivered the first powerful blow, which Liu Di dodged. Mo Tong talked about the magnetic field of the aura, which can psychologically suppress other people. Liu Di was at the enemy's back in a second. He was surprised by its speed, but I hit him in the back. Mo Tong said that in addition to his body, his aura was improved. A second later, the power of his aura was connected to his body. His eyes glowed sharply purple, and the entire room was filled with a dark aura. She couldn't believe his eyes, not knowing if he was a demon or not. He realized that Liu Di was not an ordinary person and must have been in the elite troops. She admitted that he already understood everything. Liu Di didn't even have time to have fun. He could feel the anger inside she, but he lacked combat skills, but his loyalty and bravery were admirable. He suggested that we move to another room away from prying eyes. C's mouth dropped open in surprise, and he laid his hand on his heart, vowing to give his whole life in his service. Qing Wen tried to stop him. Sai was surprised that the lady didn't agree with him. The sisters were listening at the door to the room, trying to figure out what was going on. In fact, Liu Di taught him techniques, pointing out mistakes. He swung, but Si managed to dodge, but he fell to the ground. Liu Di praised him as a good student. He praised Eastern Excalibur for its good training. She didn't expect him to know about the secret Chinese intelligence service. After all, only 2 people know about its existence, and one of them is a senior naval general of China. And then he realized that the second one might be Liu Di. So he laughed, knowing that Tian Liu wouldn't be able to compete with small-time hooligans. Liu Di didn't understand what he was talking about. Sai Shi realized that Liu Di was a member of Excalibur, and he was divided into 2 squads, Tian Liu and Shibukai. Tian Liu has always been respected in military circles, which makes Liu Di their leader. He immediately bowed to him, not wanting to look at his face. Liu Di didn't know whether to confess. Liu Di asked which hooligans he was talking about. She said that one of the bosses is offering $5 million for his head. He couldn't believe such a large price. In all his years, he had no enemies, and it was only with joining the Yan family that there were detractors. One of them was Feng Yai, who was afraid of losing his power, and the second director of the hospital, who was forced to sign the contract. Yi suggested calling his brothers to handle the situation, but Liu Di refused and asked how he knew about it. She had heard this gossip from an underground leader of the Shanghai underworld. Liu Di deduced that Feng Yai had been in contact with him that day. He decided to drop the idea and suggested that he try something else, but Si stopped him. Si said that his old instructor, He Shan, had come to Shanghai, and that he had been promoted to Tian Liu a few years ago, so they should know each other. He Shan would be happy to know that Liu Di is also here. Liu Di asked him to warn him if he told him anything. He sighed as he left the room, not wanting to be exposed too soon. At this moment, a worried Qingwen ran over. Liu Di reminded her of his remark that she shouldn't act like this. The girl was offended and recanted. Liu Di just walked on and said goodbye. Qingwen wanted to know the details through Shi. She wanted to know if he had beaten Liu Di, but Shi couldn't reveal the details. Sai has promised that he will protect you, and you don't have to worry. Liu Di was sitting in his office, staring at his phone. Xing Xing suddenly appeared on the screen. It was broadcasting live right 200 meters away. Liu Di immediately joined the stream. There the girl sang on the video, and the commenters were crazy about her. Suddenly, someone noticed a comment from Di. Everyone started asking for more words from him. The audience was trying to get his attention. Liu Di was shocked that his song caused such a stir. Kai Kai asked her sister for information on how she knew Di, but she had already told her many times that they didn't know each other. At that moment, she received a phone call. So the nurse answered the phone and demanded to know how she knew Di. Xing Xing tried to explain to everyone that they didn't know each other. She said that she is shooting a new film, so she would like to hear a promotional song performed by him, so she would really like to meet him. Xing Xing fell to the floor in frustration, not knowing what to do. Some Vemya passed. All the girls looked back at Liu Di, wanting to meet him. The system reminded that the impulse released not only the aura, but also the male attraction. Liu Di was struck by the strangeness of this world. He asked Mo Tong to help him find information about He Li. The system gave out a complete dossier about him. His real name was Qin Yao Wen. 6 years ago, he was an ordinary street gangster, but now he was the leader of the Shanghai underworld. To the public, he was the president of the Chamber of Commerce, but he was also the boss of underground casinos, and he was also involved in a lot of illegal businesses. Liu Di was shocked by his biography, and I wanted to have a good time with him. He Li put a cigar between his teeth and lit it. He smoked while the secretary stood over him. At this moment, the door burst open, announcing strange events. He said that 2 of their ports were visited by the police, and one of the ships that delivered the order was also intercepted. He Li stubbed out his cigarette, knowing that there was a traitor among them. The guy thought so at first too, but an ominous call came out during the survey. They said on the phone that there was no traitor among them. He Li jumped, knowing that something interesting was coming. My phone rang in my pocket. Startled, the boy said it was He Li's father, but it wasn't his voice at all. He Li was furious, but the guy just relayed the words from the phone. He immediately started threatening him, intending to kill him, but the man offered to come to him. He Li threw the phone away in anger. The girl offered to track the call. He ordered to do it immediately, ordering to find the most experienced hacker. Later, he was informed that the caller was found in an internet cafe near the club. He Li directed a crowd of his guys to bring him in. When he left the office, he received another call. It was already a brand new phone number. The person on the phone advised me to find a new hacker. 20 minutes ago, Liu Di had handed the man a card to expel all visitors for the night. The man accepted the money, agreeing with a smile. I wanted to know who the rich man was. At this moment, loud footsteps were heard in the building. A huge crowd of guys with guns appeared in front of Liu Di. They charged without a word. Liu Di calmly smoked, hoping to have some fun. At that moment, he flipped the butt of his cigarette with 2 fingers, which hit one of the bandits in the eye. Then he kicked him sharply in the face. One of the guys swung at him from behind with a machete in his hands, but Liu Di managed to elbow him in the stomach. Over time, he dealt with every bandit. 5 minutes later, a battered crowd was lying on the ground. Liu Di ordered them to tell He Li that he wasn't going to take it any longer. Then he decided to visit him on his own. He Li was once again informed of the terrible news that they had almost lost 100 of their best fighters. He was furious, trying to figure out how many people the opponent had brought. The subject reported that the enemy was all alone. He opened his mouth in shock, not understanding what kind of monster it was. He Li ordered to gather 3 best fighters to defeat him. The guy did as he was told and called them out. He asked the boss not to worry because they had already gone to take revenge. At this moment, an explosion was heard near them. It was one of his subjects, Jack. He Li immediately demanded information from him, but Jack fell to the ground unconscious. There were footsteps behind him. It was Liu Di, who was calmly smoking a cigarette. He Li was caught up in a flashback. The two of them watched in the distance. A warrior who stood on top of a mountain of corpses rose up in front of them. He didn't show his face, but you could see his smile. He Li froze in place in fear. I was immediately shocked. He was watching Liu Di, who was standing in front of him. The boy began to whisper, confessing his fear. He was nervous, but he was thinking. Liu Di reminded them that they had a lot to discuss. He started telling me how kind and helpful he was, but they put a price on his head of 5 million. Liu Di once again clarified whether this amount is justified. He Li tried to get away with admitting that he didn't hold a grudge against him, and it must be a misunderstanding, because he has enough of his own activities. He put a hand on his shoulder, preparing to go somewhere else to talk. Liu Di was getting impatient as he approached him. The guy called out to him, reminding him that it was boss He Li who was standing in front of him. He admired He Li's intelligence and strategy, and was going to give him 10 seconds to admit the mistake. He Li stared at him with his mouth open in shock. High-heeled footsteps sounded nearby. He recognized the boss's personal maid, He Li. She bowed in front of Liu Di, begging for forgiveness, and she was sure that He Li would admit his mistake. Liu Di had all the necessary information about the true identity of his assistant. She hadn't expected him to know about her. The girl offered to continue communication with her master. Liu Di reminded him that he could figure out the secret identity on a 1-2 basis. She offered to serve him, but asked that her identity not be declassified. He asked who was asking for $5 million for Liu Di's head. The name sounded familiar to her. She immediately revealed that it was ordered by Zhao Jie, who was the vice president of Inji. Liu Di didn't expect to hear his name because he was thinking of Feng Yu. The system gave out the biography of Zhao Se, who gave Qingwen the attributes for the deadly evil curse. Liu Di smiled, curious about his identity. He guessed that they were on a mission to kidnap Qing Lian. The girls said that this task was also given to them by Zhao Ji. Liu Di deduced that Feng Yu wasn't that stupid and was able to get out of the water unscathed by using others as weapons. She offered to deliver it to him, but Liu Di demanded Zhao Ji's teeth, intending to pay $1 million for each one. It was an easy task, but she didn't understand why he needed teeth. Liu Di did not reveal this secret, but he demanded one because he wanted to get 1 tooth a day. She swore that the He Li group would comply with his request. Then the girls suggested that he meet the bosses of other groups. Liu Di said that she could also become a gang boss. And he asked me to contact him under a pseudonym at the next meeting. Calling yourself the Emperor. He was walking down the street when he heard strange noises. Someone was shouting for help. 2 unknown men were running after the twins. They tried to grab the girls, but they struggled. Liu Di didn't expect the twins to be unlucky again, so I went to them to help. A whole crowd had gathered there, and Liu Di took a look. The guy reminded that running away is a violation of the rules because they haven't started having fun yet. Kai explained that they had already lost 6 million and didn't want to play anymore. The girls remembered how they wanted to spend Liu Di's money from the card and play in the casino. But when we played, we started losing in the dry. The guy offered to take $1 million from the family to pay him back, knowing about the wealth of their parents, but the twins did not have that kind of money. Then the guy offered them to pay with the body. The girl started to leave, taking her sister's hand, intending to return later with the money. The boys clenched their fists, not just letting them go. He gave her 5 minutes to find the money, otherwise he would drag it into the room. At this moment, Liu Di appeared, surprised by his request. He was disappointed that the problem was only a few million. The twins asked him for help. The guy realized that Liu Di wanted to show off and make himself look like a hero, but he couldn't just watch. The twins asked him to call his sister to borrow $1 million, knowing that he had no money. Liu Di was horrified by their rudeness, and after finishing, he was going to teach them a lesson. He didn't want to help them with the money, but he didn't mind fighting them. The system gave out the biography of the guy opposite. His name was Bo Yuan, and all he did was play and drink, and he loved to fight. His father was one of the richest people in Shanghai, Ren Chuan. The guy asked what he wanted to play. Ludi knew that he wasn't interested in money and only wanted to deceive the twins. He wanted to continue betting. So I boldly went to the table. Ludi decided to raise the bid and raise the amount to 5 million. Kai was shocked that he decided not only not to return the money, but also to raise the bid. But he didn't listen to her. Boyun didn't understand why he had so much pathos, considering that the casino owner had long been bribed. I decided to raise the bid to 6 million. Ludi raised his hand, putting 100 million on the line. Xing was shocked. Boyun wanted to make sure that he would have such an amount and demanded to call the casino manager. 10 minutes later, the manager had already checked Ludi's card, where the required amount was confirmed. The casino was ready to give him the best VIP zone. Boyun couldn't believe that this was possible. Meanwhile, he only had 100 million in his account. The twins didn't understand how he got so much money. Boyun started calling his cousin to borrow money. He put the phone down on the table with a loud bang. He announced his bid of 1 billion, connecting all his connections. The room was filled with silence. Ludi's eyes were filled with madness as he bet 10 billion. Boyun was angry that he was so confident of winning. He clutched the map in his hand in anger. He didn't know what to do while the twins were enjoying his nervous appearance. Boyun was going to deal with him with the help of his uncle, who was the casino owner and the second leader of the Hei Li gang. Ludi didn't expect to meet gang leader Hei Li in person. After a while, active footsteps were heard. A huge crowd of security guards appeared in front of them and surrounded them. The twins started to panic, not knowing what to do. The manager apologized to Ludi, not letting him leave the casino until the boss arrived. He pretended to be really scared. But I headed for the couch, intending to take a nap before he arrived. The twins clutched at each other, knowing that Ludi would not help them in any way. And suddenly they said that he had arrived. The casino boss finally arrived. Boyun was delighted to see him and asked him to deal with the offender. The man even wondered who dared to offend his nephew, and so Boyun was going to show him Ludi. The sisters were trying to wake him up when gang leader Hei Li arrived. Boyun pointed at him. The man took a closer look and saw Ludi lying down. He opened his mouth in shock, remembering his master. Boyun didn't know what he was talking about when he ordered them to deal with him. He ordered the guards to beat him up. He was even willing to take full responsibility to attack him, but his uncle just slapped him across the face. Boyun reminded them that their opponent was lying on the sofa. But the man ordered the guards to beat up his nephew and beat the crap out of his head. A whole crowd started beating him up. 10 minutes later, he was covered in bumps. The leader reported to Ludi that they were done. The twins couldn't understand what was going on here. Ludi sat up on the sofa, deciding to leave. The man respectfully handed him the cigarette that he had lost. Ludi immediately took a drag on his cigarette. He ordered the twins to leave with him, and they went away, leaving them. The man informed his nephew that he had contacted the owner of their town named Taiji. They walked over to the car where Si was standing. Ludi ordered them to go home, but the twins decided to apologize for their actions and thank them for saving them. Ludi didn't think their gratitude was enough, but he only helped for the reason that there would be no discord in their family. The sisters were angry at his words. They wanted to know why the bandits were so afraid of him, but Ludi only told them about his friend who stood up for him. The twins understood inside. A call came to his phone, and on the other side of the phone was Qing Wen, who was waiting for him in the company at the end of the working day. The twins realized it was their sister, but Ludi started to leave right away. He arrived at the company. Chen reported that the lady was going to go home without a driver and gave the order to accompany Chen on a date. Liudi grinned at her attempt. He entered the office without knocking. Qingwen was sitting quietly at the table there. She was wiping her hands clean of blood, and Liu Di didn't expect her to neglect someone else's life. Qingwen wanted to go to Mr. Tu to help with a few transactions. Ludi was shocked by her kind heart. She asked him to look at the list, intending to donate medical supplies to Mr. Tu. Ludi advised her to give him some wine to remind him of her status as a godchild. Qingwen took note of Mr. Tu's love of alcohol. She grabbed her bag from the table. She asked me to take her to the bank, and Liu Di asked me what her purpose was. She didn't understand the need for unnecessary questions because she just needed to withdraw money. After some time in the bank, the captain informed the boss that the bank was officially closing in 10 minutes, and when everyone left the building, they could start the Han mission. He couldn't believe that Manhwa wanted to compete with his soldiers, so much so that he could fake a bank robbery. The captain reminded that Manhwa's soldiers were much stronger, but he was still going to fight them off with a couple of trump cards. After all, in its ranks were the best soldiers in the whole country. The boss was the commander-in-chief, He Shan, and the team captain was Tian Luo. The 6 newcomers had already arrived and were going to wait for them to rob the bank to win. He Shan was sure that Duanhua's problem was his overconfidence, so he was going to wait for a while. Liu Di and Qing Wen arrived at the bank. The system warned him that there would be a robbery in 5 minutes, and she explained that some of the visitors are not ordinary people, but accomplices. The system noticed the presence of a gun in one of the passers-by. Liu Di guessed that they weren't just thieves, knowing that he was going to have a rough day again. Qing Wen handed him a wad of money, knowing that he didn't have any, but Liu Di refused, considering it as payment for her rescue, but it was money for his pocket expenses. Liu Di didn't need his money, so he asked to buy him some cigarettes. Qing Wen was furious at his behavior. She was angry as long as Liu Di was smiling while joking with her. After a while, Liu Di met a guy who supposedly had a gun. He greeted him back. Liu Di sat down next to him, describing the fine weather that made it possible to rob a bank today. The guy agreed that the weather wasn't bad. I suddenly jumped as I caught his last words. Then Liu Di swung at him without warning and hit him, knocking out a couple of teeth. Because of what, the guy flew to the ground and passed out. The commander-in-chief slammed his mug down on the table. The captain informed him about the information that there was no such person among Chief Duan's men. There were footsteps in the room. It was his men who had arrived to deal with Liu Di. One of them was kicked in the stomach by Liu Di. He threw each of them in turn. There were only 2 opponents left in front of him. They were very aggressive, wanting to kill him, but he lunged at them, landing 2 punches. The guys fell to the ground exhausted. They were shocked that he was able to defeat their best soldiers in just a few minutes. The commander-in-chief gave the order to catch this kid, so he rode off on a mission. Liu Di admitted that they were quite strong, but they chose the wrong road. At this moment, the main opponent appeared in front of him. Mad Captain Tianluo was coming at him. Liu Di decided to gather all his strength for a decisive strike. He punched Tianluo in the stomach with all his strength, which sent him flying into the wall like lightning. Tianluo couldn't believe that the enemy had anticipated his strike. The commander-in-chief also clenched his fist in rage. When Qing Wen entered the room, she couldn't understand what was going on. Liu Di didn't see anything wrong with a handsome man stopping a bank robbery by defeating the robbers. He grabbed her hand and was about to run away while Qing Wen wanted to find out about this pretty boy. Liu Di had directly hinted that this handsome man was coming down the stairs, but Qing Wen didn't believe that he was involved in a fight. Tianluo heaved himself up, realizing that the guy was lucky this time. 10 minutes later, the soldiers were being carried away on a stretcher to an ambulance. The room was a mess. Manhwa didn't expect that He-Shan's experienced soldiers would be defeated by an ordinary citizen. He threw it all away for an accident. Duan didn't believe it, because in their city, it wasn't like ordinary people were braver than the special forces. They watched the fight on camera and assumed that his level reaches an S grade, and they immediately wanted him to join their ranks. The commander-in-chief gave Tianluo 12 hours to find him, but he doubted that they really wanted to recruit him. He-Shan wanted to make him their mercenary to work together, and he will help them carry out their plan. Manhwa invited He-Shan to buy him a drink when he came to Shanghai, but he slapped his hand away. He suggested that he drink alone, intending to deal with him. Duan didn't understand why he was so angry. He called the commissar over. He gave him 10 hours to find that kid. Duan wanted to make him the war leader of his police team, and he didn't want to be taken out from under his nose. Motong laughed at Liu Di, wondering at his events. He didn't know what he was talking about. Motong reported that 4 military units were collecting information on him, wanting to find footage of his fight in the bank. Liu Di asked him to hide after he finished cleaning up the records. Motong accepted the order. Tianluo continued to make face comparisons for the search. Manhwa was still surprised as he watched the footage from the camera. But suddenly the screen went blank. The commander-in-chief put the problem down to a technical glitch, and the video on Duan's screen also went blank. All records from that moment disappeared at once, making it impossible to search. Meanwhile, at the Yan house, my father was handed some papers with interesting news. There they wrote about the rating of employees of the company Inji, where in the first place was Qing Wen with sales of 2 billion. The butler was sure that the girl was showing great promise, but he already knew about her abilities. The man didn't understand what the news was about. The butler reminded that Liu Di was also involved in the center of these events, which shows his talents. My father doubted that he would be able to find real talent in the company through his own efforts, and meeting someone like Liu Di is a 1,000,000-to-1 chance. The butler noticed that Liu Di didn't have much interest in the Yan family. The man justified his arrogance by being young, when he still doesn't think straight. But he already had a way to help him rethink his priorities and hand over power to the Yan family. He gave the butler 2 instructions. He asked to inform his family that Qing Wen was taking control of the sale of medical equipment. The butler suggested that he think about it a little longer, because a lot of money was invested in this project, and the whole company is invested in this direction, and Qing Wen has only been working for 3 years. The man himself understood all this, and gave everything not only to Qing Wen, but also under the guidance of Liu Di. The butler believed that Liu Di would not let them down. The man appreciated the talents of his daughter, which was able to charm Liu Di. He was going to return to Shanghai and hold a banquet at Yan Manor. And there he would like to invite two friends who have recently returned from abroad. He was going to introduce young people to exchange new ideas. Then he remembered that a good friend of his, who was a big shot in the country's army, had come to Shanghai. The butler realized that he was referring to General He Pa. The man was pouring tea, confirming his guess. He was going to give them a chance to meet high-ranking people, and also ask them to call Manhwa so that he could meet his old friend He Pa again. They arrived home. Liu Di and Qingwen opened the door. They saw a strange house and thought it was a fire. As they entered the dining hall, a strange smoke and smell began to burn through their eyes. The twins were standing in the kitchen, surprised that they had already returned. It turned out that they had spent an entire 2 hours preparing dinner for Liu Di. Qingwen was shocked that they were doing this. The twins just wanted to apologize to him, and they dragged him by both hands to taste his dishes. When he opened the lid a crack, there was a strange green rice under it. In their opinion, it was fried rice with egg according to his recipe, but with more spiciness. The twins tried very hard and asked to try. The system warned that inside the dish was benzoprine, which is the most carcinogenic poison. He awkwardly decided to forgive them without any concessions. The girls rejoiced in his kindness. The twins wanted to tell their sister something. Qingwen was even afraid to hear their words. They handed her the same golden card that her father had given Liu Di, but he left it on the table. The twins realized that Liu Di wasn't as bad a person as they thought. Qingwen didn't understand where he got the money from if he didn't take the card. This meant that he did not come to the family for money, but really wanted to be with her. She pushed the thought away, knowing it was impossible. Kai told her that Liu Di was truly rich, but Qingwen didn't understand how she knew everything. The girl began to do a rough calculation of his finances, moving into the billions. Kai was shocked by the final withdrawal when 10 billion came out there. They didn't know the exact amount, but it was definitely higher than this. With such capital, he should have been listed as the richest man in the world. Qingwen wanted to know the source of the information. They admitted that they had seen it all in the casino when he had bet such a huge sum. Qingwen was shocked with his antics. The twins believed that he was definitely not a bad person. Qingwen wanted to find out everything for the sake of their safety and would pretend that they didn't know anything. The twins promised their sister that they would help. At that moment, the door opened abruptly. It was Liu Di who wanted to help the three hungry girls and suggested that they eat real rice with egg. The sisters noticed that this taste was different from before. Qingwen couldn't tell if he was a good person or a bad person. She picked up a spoonful of rice and tasted it. Her face was immediately filled with a smile at the gorgeous taste. Liu Di changed the recipe by adding ginkgo tree seed, which can remove excessive spiciness. He fried the rice on purpose to calm the anger in their hearts. Qingwen realized that he was eavesdropping on their conversation, but they were talking too loudly. Liu Di described himself as a person with one important matter, and after the case was over, he was going to devote all his time to helping the Yan family. Then he left the room with a wave of his hand. Qingwen concluded that she had simply misunderstood him. Liu Di wanted to show off his broad outlook, not wanting to argue with her. He was sitting in his room at the computer, and he wanted to finally implement their plan, turning to Mo Tong. The system added the mindset of the best marketer and launched 100,000 commercial layouts. He opened the phone. I was glad that Di Yi's fervor had subsided a little, so I was going to do it. He was going to say what he needed to say. Liu Di exposed the content of the message, making a category guessing game, for which the first to guess 100 people will receive 500,000 each. Everyone immediately started commenting on the speed of popularity of this post and how quickly they make calculations. They were shocked that a person was willing to pay people $500,000, and someone took it as a joke. One girl carefully began to read the riddle. I remember that Otto Red was a famous mathematician who had invented the multiplication sign. Then she gave a tentative answer. Everyone responded to her, feeling sorry for her naivete, since she expected a reward for it. But at that moment, a notification came to her phone. It was a congratulations on the correct answer and a top-up of 500,000 yuan. The girl's mouth dropped open in shock, glad that she could now cover her college tuition. He posted a new message announcing the first winner. Everyone started commenting on the post even more actively, since it all turned out to be true. Liu Di waited for people to start answering the question. At that moment, his eyes sparkled again. After a while, all the 100 people answered the question. The winners were shocked with joy, while others cried because of their failure. Liu Di asked Mo Tong to get ready, because now there will be a second question. He wrote in a post that the last answer is a new riddle, and the first one who guesses it will get 100 million. Commentators were again surprised by the increase in the prize. All the hot topic tabs were filled with his aliases and attempts to guess the riddle. It was 5 in the morning. The girl dealing with the riddle realized that it was not a problem, but coordinates. Then she started typing abruptly. Finally, there was a new post about the solution, where the answer was Gemini. No one understood the meaning of this riddle. The next day, Ludi sat down at the computer again. I was going to get down to business again. Now the post was not a riddle with a reward, but the task was to find the other half. All the commenters felt that this post was a sign of fate, but they noticed that it had a QR code attached to it. One of the people was uploading twins to his phone, and I was surprised by the slow download speed. He was asked to enter a nickname and signed himself as Careless Person. The system started analyzing his identity. He was afraid, realizing that this application is extremely insecure, so he did not write any information about himself. The system gave out a message that he looked confident, but there was a sense of unease inside. He realized that the post referred directly to him. The system started pairing users, giving everyone an ID. At this point, there was a successful match between users. He was going to make sure to meet her. The app has already had 100 million downloads. Everyone commented on it, not expecting that the app can analyze the personality so accurately, giving a chance for a soulmate. Ludi implemented the Magic Eye ability in the app, which performed an accurate analysis of the composition of pairs. The girl was shocked by the genius of this Desan, who was able to make his program famous all over the world. One company held a meeting where they discussed the new Gemini app. It was explained to him that the app was developed not so long ago by a company called Creator. He hadn't expected such a rush around the recent company. Due to a new competitor, their app started to drop in the number of users. The director demanded to copy the technique from the Gemini app to his own app so that it would also analyze a person's personality. But their team didn't have that knowledge yet. He slapped the table in anger, not wanting to listen to excuses. Ludi was still sitting at the computer. He suggested that Mo Tong get an office space since they now have their own company. Mo Tong inquired about his ideas. Ludi wanted to create a premium, grandiose, and intriguing office. Mo Tong started to create a projection. He showed Ludi the tallest building in Shanghai, Rongteng, which has 3 floors with golf courses and a roof area of 5,000 square meters. Ludi thought it was a good option and bought it right away. The system has already managed to sort out all the resumes on the internet, selecting the best candidates in all aspects, and is going to approve the company in 3 days. Ludi thanked Mo Tong for such help, but he only needed people who could be trusted. Meanwhile, at the mall, Gia was at work. At that moment, he received a call. It was Ludi who suddenly decided to call him. Ludi remembered how Aja wanted to start a business. He considered it the usual dreams of his beautiful youth. But Ludi said that he opened a company, offering to help him. Aja's eyes widened in shock. He didn't believe that there was anything he could do to help, but Ludi could only entrust it to him. Meanwhile, Lili scolded him for taking time off from work. His face darkened as he remembered that the last time she smiled at him had been 3 whole years ago. And so I kicked the table, not going to suffer any more bullshit. Before he left, he ordered her not to call him just Ajia, reminding him that his name is Zhang Tianjia. Meanwhile, at home, Ludi was pulling himself up when Qingwen appeared behind him, deciding to go out early. After all, important clients are coming to the company today, so she dressed smartly. Ludi looked at her and sighed. He received a message about a meeting at the Rongteng building at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Since they were leaving in a hurry, she decided to bring him some buns to eat. Ludi didn't expect her to show such simple concern, as if she was deceiving him. She was offended by his words. Ludi continued to make fun of her, which made her even angrier. I decided to ask sharply where he got all that money. He admitted that he opened the company Creator. It sounded extremely unreliable to her. She promised that she would help him if he needed her. Then Ludi decided to tell her a couple of secrets. Qingwen became interested. He admitted that he sings quite well and offered to listen to it. The girl tactfully refused, advising to concentrate on driving. Meanwhile, in the company Inji, the girls discussed that Ludi looked very much like a puppy and was not suitable for Lady Yan. He fiddled with the doorknob, not sure who was coming to the company today. At that moment, the door opened and Feiyu followed. Ludi realized that Haley was generous with rewards, so he would get Zhao Ji's teeth very soon. But Feng Yu and Zhao Jai were not the ones Qingwen would be looking forward to. Feng Yu noticed that the gift vases from Zhao Ji were missing. Qingwen awkwardly reported that it was an accident that they crashed. He was shocked and did not believe that such expensive vases could accidentally break. She explained that Liu Di broke 3 vases on his first day at work. Feng Yu clenched his teeth in anger, realizing that Liu Di had broken the death key that he had bought for 7 million. He saw Liu Di waving at him in a friendly manner and tried to keep his temper in public, but he was going to deal with him next time. Qingwen clarified when the customers would arrive. Feng Yu asked her to wait for a while. Liu Di called Chen Chen over to ask him something. She immediately struck a pose, ready to answer the question. He asked what kind of people they were waiting for. It turned out that Yi, the king of music, was invited to join the company. Ludi opened his mouth in shock, realizing that everything wasn't going according to plan. Shenjin herself was shocked, so the chairman of the board of directors also gave Miss Wen the task of selling home medical equipment in huge volumes. She thought it was a coincidence, and Ms. Wen had a friend who started an entertainment company, and the singer Yi was his entertainer. Shenjin had heard enough about his beauty and wealth, wanting to meet him. Ludi laughed slyly. Large cars drove up to the building. A crowd of people came out of them. He was going to show off in front of the Yan family so that he wouldn't be looked down upon as the heir of Lu Ziming anymore. So he went into the building. When they entered the office, everyone jumped. Feng Yu asked him to relax, remembering that Yi was supposed to come with him. But Ziming didn't see the point in chasing him away just like that, and was going to handle matters on his behalf. Feng Yu agreed with his words, otherwise the room would have been torn apart by fans. Ziming laughed as he recalled that Yi now had a huge influence. So Feng Yu hoped that he could come and support their new product. Since Yi was under his financial support, Ziming lends his interest. Feng Yu knew that all of Yi's popularity was due to Ziming, so he was very happy to have the opportunity to work with him. They were willing to pay for Yi's public appearance for $300 million. Ziming was only willing to accept such a sum because of his friendship with Lady Wen. Once they agreed on a price, he suggested that they talk about their implementation plan. Qing Wen had just been up all night, coming up with a plan. Feng Yu handed him the folder with the prepared plan. The girl was angry that he was doing all the work for her, even though her father had assigned the task to her, but Feng Yu didn't think it was a problem. She slammed the folder down on the table. She suggested that Ziming choose one. Ziming first picked up Feng Yu's plan folder. His plan was noisy, expensive, and loud, and Ms. Wen's plan was charitable, close to the average person. Qing Wen wanted to show their product in the concept of a charity event because they are creating a gadget for the prevention of childhood diseases. Ziming didn't know what to choose. He suggested that Qing Wen pay attention to him since he had been chasing her for 2 years. He asked her out for accepting her plan. Qing Wen stared at him with her mouth open. She didn't want to involve the relationship in her work. Then he decided to think more seriously about their options. At this moment, he stood up and decided to put the topic aside, suggesting that he choose a day for the Yan family's banquet. He wondered if Mr. Yan would be disappointed if Mrs. Wen's plan was rejected, and he offered to celebrate the young talent that Mr. Yan mentioned. The sound of a lighter could be heard from afar, and Ludi interrupted their conversation. Ziming was startled by the abruptness. Ludi was only making fun of him. The guy jumped out of his chair in anger. Ludi introduced himself as the talent that Mr. Yan mentioned, but in the company, he was a driver. Ziming didn't believe it and laughed, but Ludi reminded them that their company, which was registered just 5 days ago, couldn't sign a contract with Yi. Ziming decided to take out his phone and show the video from Yi's rehearsal. He poked the video in his face. Where was the unknown guy singing Yi's song sitting? He introduced himself by his name, offering everyone cooperation. Motong rated the young man as a second-rate art academy student. Ludi pretended to admire him and offered a contract. Ziming thought he had tricked him by offering an autograph or photo. But Ludi only stubbed out his cigarette, intending to offer a bet if their D wasn't real. He was going to break his leg for that, and the only choice was left or right. Ziming bared his teeth in anger. Feng Yu also got into the argument, reminding Ziming that he had video proof. Qing Wen asked him not to worry and suggested that he go help Mr. Tu with the equipment. Ludi accepted her request. I was going to look forward to the evening. He left, slamming the door behind him. Then he went to see Mr. Tu. Ludi envied him for being as calm as water. Then the old man asked the reason for his vivid emotions. Ludi confessed to the confusing situation. Old man Tu was calm because of his age and gave advice to fight for life while he was young. Ludi wasn't prepared to do this at all. But the old man knew him best, knowing how he had worked 3 jobs a couple of years ago with injuries, but was returning to take care of the children. Ludi realized that this was true and remained silent. Old man Tu was repeating his favorite saying, suggesting to be ruthless or run away. Ludi didn't fully understand the meaning. Suddenly, Old Man Tu remembered that young man from the bank who was being searched for by all the military departments and assumed that it was Liu Di. He felt uneasy and laughed, deciding to go to sleep. Ludi was about to leave, but the old man decided to give him another piece of advice. He knew that it was possible to defeat anyone, but not his heart. He understood. He went outside, leaning against a tree. The system notified that the number of connections to the Gemini app has already exceeded 400 million. Ludi couldn't believe that this was true. Motong talked about 3,000 chats with different hobbies without restrictions in people. Everyone commented on this wonderful app, finding people by their interests. Ludi planned to introduce advertising integrations in each of the communities when the groups were formed. Meanwhile, at the headquarters of the company Polar Bear, the man wanted to know the creator of the Gemini app. The girl said that the owner was Disan, and their company is unprofitable because it has no investors and assets. He glanced at the file in her hands. And he asked Vice President Xi to buy $10 billion worth of new equipment. The guy promised to overtake the competition. Suddenly, Ludi was called out on the street. It was Ajia, and he was very surprised by his physical form. Ludi reminded that Ajia's appearance was getting worse. He saw an expensive building and couldn't believe that their company would be located here. Ludi called him along to see for himself. Ajia was taken aback but ran after him. They got into the elevator. Ajia noticed that he had chosen the highest floor. After a while, they were on the 87th floor. The elevator doors swung open. Ajia couldn't keep the words out of his mouth in shock. The floor was gorgeous, full of professional staff. He didn't understand who could afford such a fancy office. Ludi reminded that their company works with the internet and messaging, and yesterday they launched the first mobile version. Now, Aja's responsibilities were training staff to maintain the application, accepting investors. Aja couldn't believe it wasn't a joke. Ludi assured him of this, but the guy still didn't understand what he was talking about. Ludi demanded to have the strength and patience to refuse all companies to sell. Ajia was glad of his entrepreneur credentials, but was dissatisfied with his bragging rights. Ludi said that various companies would come to see him, and he was not going to interfere in the business. And Gia was convinced that his friend was just as strange. He suggested that we move to the office first and discuss everything afterward. Ludi clarified that Ajia is the CEO, and he is the CEO behind the scenes, which is just counting money. And Gia realized that he was taking all the useless positions, being both a secretary and a cleaner. But I didn't mind at all. They went out onto the roof of the building. A helicopter appeared above them. Ajia couldn't believe that Ludi had earned it on his own. Ludi walked out onto the balcony, looking into the distance. He only trusted Ajia and asked her not to look down on him. Ajia was ready to come to his aid on any matter, and he was even willing to share his savings if he didn't have any money. But Ludi asked him to save his money by sending him a letter about the company's business and plans. And Gia was still waiting for him to show them their company, since they had walked around 3 floors. But all 3 floors in the roof were their company. Ajia opened his mouth in shock, not understanding where all this came from. Ludi admitted that their company is called Creator, and the app is Gemini. He stared at it in silence, his mouth hanging open. Ludi suggested that he work on his image, since he is the CEO of such a company, and Gia agreed that he needed a good suit. Ludi remembered that he had a spare villa and car, intending to give him the keys later. Ajia couldn't believe that he was giving out such things. Ludi let him back. After a while, he drove Qingwen home, but the girl asked him to stop, even though it was still a long way from home. She reminded him that there would be a banquet with important people in the manor in 4 days, and father wanted Ludi's presence. Qingwen noticed his casual style, afraid that the high-ranking people would look down on him. So I wanted to give him a nice suit from the best men's store. Ludi didn't think it was necessary. Qingwen asked him to just dress formally. He thanked her for her concern, but as a strong person, he didn't want to show his status. The car accelerated again. Qingwen didn't want to offend him, but only gave him a gift by holding out the box. Ludi turned around, realizing what it was. There was a green pearl on the pillow. He noticed the expensive look of the stone, as if it were a bribe. Qingwen sensed that something was wrong with him. But Ludi didn't understand what she was talking about. Qingwen wanted it to glow like this stone. Ludi didn't expect to see the lady's good side either. He asked her to finish this conversation. 4 days later, the banquet at the Yan family's manor arrived. Mr. Yan turned to the butler, explaining how he liked Ludi better by the second, feeling the crazy blood coursing through his veins. The butler noticed Ludi's calm appearance. The man felt sorry for him, since this is his first official event and he needs to get over it. The system reported on the current situation of the application, where the number of users reached 800 million. Now the app has reached its maximum peak in the international market. All the news feeds were packed about his company, but these were just his first steps in business. A car pulled up to the estate. Ziming stepped out of it. I went with my men to the manor. Mr. Yan was shocked to see him. The two of them greeted the master. Feng Yu was very much looking forward to their meeting with Ziming. Mr. Yan asked Ludi to come to them. He introduced them to him, inviting them to get to know each other better. Feng Yu started introducing Ziming, who is the head of an entertainment company, and now they are talking about their cooperation. He offered to help him have a good time. Ziming thought that he would consider his suggestion. Behind him was Tian Cheng, who was the founder of the Secret Path travel company, providing high-end services. He was a role model. Mr. Yan recalled how both of them were his daughter's classmates and wouldn't let her pass. Tian Cheng was ashamed to remember how he chased after her and then left for a big trip after refusing. In it, he was able to find 12 new routes, opening a company, and again offered to consider his candidacy. Qingwen decided to introduce Liu Di to them. Tianjing interrupted her, knowing who he was. He considered him a scum who did nothing, unwilling to listen to Mr. Yan's request. Liu Di stared at him in silence. Tianjing decided not to act so abruptly, intending to start over with a clean slate by extending his hand. They shook hands. Suddenly, Tianjing cried out in pain. Liu Di apologized for his excessive strength because he rarely shakes hands with girls. He clenched his jaw in anger, wanting to say something back, but Feng Yu stopped the argument by offering to show him the manner. The three of them left. Mr. Yan was shocked by the two young men, who were angry within a second of meeting each other. Liu Di agrees with his words. Mr. Yan was convinced that Liu Di was worthy of being in the Yan family and promised to support him in the future. The banquet was in full swing. Feng Yu remarked to Tiancheng that he had lost his temper right in front of Mr. Yan. He suggested teaming up to get rid of Liu Di. The boys didn't understand what he meant. He gave them a task so that Liu Di wouldn't have a chance to speak out, and he ordered Ziming to announce that he had chosen his offer after all, and then he would add another 200 million to Di Yi's fee. Ziming hesitated, fearing trouble with Qingwen. But Feng Yu knew how Mr. Yan only relied on Liu Di and didn't pay attention to his daughter. They would have a chance to take down Lord Yan and hit on Qingwen. Ziming grinned, knowing that he was right. Feng Yu promised to ensure his success in financing his company and to give him the opportunity to enter the international market. Tiancheng clenched his teeth in anger. Feng Yu understood his impatience, but he had to be careful. He thanked him for his advice. Otherwise, he might have been very embarrassed. And very soon they will carry out his plan. At this moment, Liu Di was chatting with Qingwen at the banquet. He was approached from behind. It was Tiancheng that wanted to apologize for his past behavior. He hugged him, knowing that he would soon enter the Yan family and wanted to treat him politely. Liu Di knocked his hand off his shoulder, realizing that it was normal for rich boys to treat each other with disrespect. Tianjing couldn't stand his jokes and stubbornness. The butler informed me that Mrs. Nan would be arriving in a few minutes. He had no idea who it was, but it was Nan Tianhai's daughter from Kyoto, Nan Ruoyi. The master was immediately shocked. The butler delivered a message to Mrs. Nan, who can't leave the capital right now, so she was sent to visit General He Shan, Chief Duan, and Mr. Yan. He understood. The banquet was still going on. Ziming didn't know what to do since Lady Nan was here, and they had to make Liu Di a laughingstock. Tianjing knew how much influence the Nan family had in all areas. Moreover, Lady Nan herself was a genius of angelic beauty. Feng Yu offered to show his best side, intending to use it to climb the career ladder. And now they need to use Liu Di as a stepping stone. He decided to go and greet Lady Nan in a better light. The car door opened. Mrs. Nan came out of it and greeted Mr. Yan. He declared it a great honor that she had come to his banquet. The girl asked if Uncle He Shan and Huan had arrived, but they were still on their way, so he offered to introduce the young people. The lady suggested we call her Ruo Yi. Three guys were watching her from behind. Feng Yu walked over first, introducing himself to Lady Nan. She looked at him suspiciously. He realized that he couldn't just hold out his hand to her. Mr. Yan introduced his daughter Qingwen to her. At that moment, they started talking. Liu Di watched from afar. Suddenly, Mrs. Nan recognized him as Mr. Diarra. Liu Di turned to look at her. He introduced himself by his first name. Ms. Nan suggested that it wasn't necessary to reveal his identity. Liu Di couldn't believe that such a cute girl was the leader of the Haley Mafia group. Suddenly, she felt a wild energy rush. Now she was sure he was Diarra. Feng Yu inquired about her condition. He suggested that she rest for a while in the gazebo, but she only wanted to chat with Liu Di. Ziming reminded her that he was just a simple driver, not a member of the Yan family. She turned around in surprise, and Liu Di had already left. She realized that he wasn't interested in her at all. Then she decided to accept Feng Yu's offer. Two cars pulled up to the estate. He Shan stepped out of it. Duan, who had been looking for him for a long time, appeared behind him. He couldn't figure out what was going on with his phone. He Shan asked him to be quiet so that he could look like a dignified official. Dun resigned himself to the phone, but asked for information about the boy. He Shan immediately understood his intentions and had no intention of giving in. The gate opened and Mr. Yan walked out. Duan asked for no scenes. Mr. Yan recalled their friendship, which insists on making scenes. After all, they were guests of honor today. They spotted Mr. Nan's daughter in the distance. Mr. Yan couldn't believe that such stars would gather in his house. Mrs. Nan came up to them and paid her respects. They thanked her for the honor and marveled at how much she had grown. As they chatted, Feng Yu understood why she was already a mistress at such an age, since she was able to hold a dialogue with big shots. Liu Di watched from afar. He was curious to see the reaction of the two generals when they found out her true identity of He Li. Heishan was delighted with his estate. Duan had no doubt that Shanghai was not only beautiful, but also full of talent. And he noticed Liu Di with a sidelong glance. All of a sudden, all the alcohol flew out of his mouth in shock. He opened his mouth in shock and couldn't say a word. Heishan didn't understand his abrupt behavior. He walked away from them to Liu Di while they tried to stop him. Duan was ordering them to release him. The man was furious that his friend didn't show respect. Mr. Yan tried to calm them down. They demanded that young people be introduced at the event. Mr. Yan agreed. I started choosing who to introduce first. His gaze fell on Liu Di. They immediately bombarded him with questions, asking about his interests and work. The boys felt that everyone was too fixated on Liu Di this evening. Heishan remembered that they hadn't played chess together in 10 years. Mr. Yan suggested that this should be corrected immediately, and then he decided to bet on winning. At that moment, they were interrupted by a clap of hands. It was Feng Yu who suggested that everyone take a walk in the scenic area before lunch. Ziming had heard that Feng Yu was a former archery champion, so he suggested going to the shooting range. Feng Yu hesitated, suggesting that the topic should be dropped. And then he remembered that Ziming is well known in equestrian sports, and Tian Cheng is the best shooter in the country, and all the necessary places are available in the manor. They went to the stables. A horse appeared before them. Ziming described it as a rider's dream because of its solid hooves. Liu Di started stroking her muzzle. Ziming advised him to be careful because the horse has a capricious nature. Feng Yu agreed with him. No one had ever been able to ride it before. Ziming boasted that he was able to do it somehow and enjoyed it. Then Liu Di suggested that he demonstrate his skills. He panicked as a crowd of powerful people stared at him. But I decided to put on a show for Miss Nan anyway. He stroked the horse's muzzle. He sat down carefully on it. The entire crowd started clapping for him. He ordered her to go ahead, but the horse didn't move. He couldn't understand why she wouldn't listen to his orders. Everyone watched with their mouths hanging open. Liu Di chuckled softly. I gave him 10 seconds to get off her. Ziming doubted that he knew anything about horses. The horse abruptly began to jump and try to throw him off. He fell backward to the ground. Everyone was shocked when they saw this. Ziming was sure that there was some problem with the horse. Liu Di interrupted, reminding him that this was a purebred Mongolian war horse that was ridden by heroes, and such a breed would not bow to mediocrity. The horse cheered. Liu Di was sure that such an idiot wouldn't be able to control a war horse. Ziming didn't believe it, saying that it was just a wild horse without training. Feng Yu offered to try riding her as he was so bold. Qing Wen looked at him with concern. Liu Di didn't agree with his opinion. Ziming didn't believe him. Suddenly, Liu Di looked at the horse with a strange look. She was immediately startled, and the horse knelt before him. Lady Nan wasn't surprised, and Qing Wen didn't understand who he was. Feng Yu recalled how he had beaten him in archery, and now he was once again getting the spotlight. Tiancheng was sure that Liu Di had never played shotgun shooting because he was poor. Ziming asked him to restore their image in front of the girls. Feng Yu decided to try to motivate him to compete. Later, they went to the shooting range. Tiancheng had been shooting arrows since childhood, so he was definitely a master. Next to it was a rocket launcher with a 360-degree turn, which had almost a 100% chance of being hit, and he was only 3 hits short of becoming an Olympic champion. The twins understood that it was very difficult to get into the plates produced in a matter of seconds. Tiancheng had heard about his archery skills and suggested that he try it out. Feng Yu encouraged him to participate. The system began to merge the subconscious mind with the Olympic champion in shooting flying saucers. Modong finally returned after a couple of hours of updates. Liu Di was still waiting for him to grow up and considered the weapon skills unnecessary. Modong was shocked that he was refusing his help and left to continue updating. Liu Di decided to get straight to the point, grabbing the gun, and he suggested that we immediately prepare to lose. Tian Shang ordered 2 cars to be launched so that they would shoot a total of 30 dishes. Liu Di decided to start first so that Tian Sheng could get ready. He pointed the shotgun into the distance. Feng Yu started to get nervous, not believing that he could also be a master marksman. Liu Di decided to complicate the task and ordered to launch 4 throwers at once so that they continuously shot 70 plates in a row. Tiancheng laughed at him, reminding him that he was holding a double-barreled shotgun. The guy clarified whether he made a mistake with these parameters, but Liu Di simply ordered them to start. The plates began to fly out with great speed. Liu Di reacted quickly, and he started shooting them in the air. He reloaded quickly, and with just one move. After a cooldown, he would immediately take up a stance, and he fired, breaking all the plates. The entire crowd was staring at him with their mouths hanging open. Tiancheng gritted his teeth, deciding to leave out the idea of the competition. Liu Di continued to fire at the dishes with incredible speed. The captains watched in horror. Heishan couldn't believe that an ordinary person could shoot like that. He peered into the crowd to see who it was. With a gun, he only saw Liu Di and got angry. He decided to put everything on the line and win the game. The ground was littered with broken plates. A very large crowd has gathered behind it, and the floor below it is filled with bullets. He lit the cigarette in his mouth with the hot muzzle. Ludi thought they were too slow, so he decided to take a look. Then he went on. Qingwen didn't know what to think. Heishan was sure that Mr. Yan would lose. The old man carefully counted his steps. The commander considered it impolite to ask for such a thing. Duan knew that a superior had to concede even in games, so there was no point in asking. But Mr. Yan Yi had no idea that they were asking for anything from him. Heishan envied the Yan family for having so many talents. Mr. Yan recalled how they had let Tai Si leave. Heishan immediately interrupted the conversation about Tai Si, wanting only one thing. Mr. Yan clarified who he was talking about. He pointed. Lu Di was approaching their gazebo. Mr. Yan assumed that he wanted to take it away. He warned that Liu Di was very physically weak, so he wouldn't be of any use. Heishan didn't believe him. In the end, he won the game. His combination in the game was called 9 Dragon Tail, which even the champion couldn't figure out. Mr. Yan tried to contradict him, but suddenly someone else's hand appeared on the chips. Who put a piece on the board? Mr. Yan didn't understand what he was doing. Ludi advised to review the position of the black chips again. Huan took a closer look. He asked about the name of the move. It was a trick called collapse. Duan appreciated his act of pretending to be a sheep. Heishan praised him for his move, now that his defenses were breached and he had to fight to the end. Mr. Yan looked up from his game and thought about his lunch. They went to a large-scale lunch. All the guests were seated at the huge table, and it wasn't often that Mr. Yan could have lunch with the representatives of the Heishan and Manhwa families. The boys looked at him nervously. Mr. Yan asked them not to be shy and eat while Qingwen was making a speech. Qingwen talked about their ambulance, a new series of medical equipment that they will be holding charity events to promote. And it wasn't about profit, so she was hoping for investment. The commanders thought about it, and someone had a question. It was Feng Yu who was dissatisfied with her charity work. He told them about their new contract with Mr. Liu. Ziming promised to raise the project's profits through influence and popularity. Feng Yu insisted to agree because there was nothing illegal about the app. Qingwen also addressed her father, who was keeping silent. Ludi calmly ate the meat. There was a clap in the hall. Tian Cheng was in complete agreement with his friend, having enough experience in running a business, and decided to reveal his fast company. Duan was delighted with the new generation. Ms. Nan called Ro Yi an ordinary small-time salesman, which she couldn't imagine. Tian Cheng didn't think so, knowing that they wouldn't be able to compete with her if they were in the same realm. Mr. Yan saw no need to remind him of Mrs. Nan's incredible intelligence. Ludi grinned as he called them trash. The guys immediately flared up, asking again. What he meant was that the 3 of them were just ordinary trash. Feng Yu couldn't believe such words in public. Ludi knew that they were rotten on the inside, even though they were successful on the outside. Tian Cheng didn't feel that he had the right to judge them. Ludi didn't really want to talk, but he wasn't happy with clowns talking nonsense. He had always been told that you need courage and masculinity when you are young. He was waiting for them to put on a show so he could nominate them for the funniest event. Feng Yu didn't understand what he was talking about. The girls watched what would happen next. Ludi reminded that he also helps in organizing a charity event, and they're going to spend it on the waterfront, close to Huitian Square. Feng Yu was offended that he compared the ruins on the beach to Huitian Square. Tian Cheng scoffed as he listened to his ramblings. Ludi considered it the best place for a charity event, dilapidated houses and slave farmers without pay. Tian Cheng gritted his teeth in anger. He demanded proof from him. Ludi asked them to wait, and in an hour they would be in debt for 500 million. Mr. Yan interrupted, disappointed in him. Tian Cheng offered him some air, but Ludi wasn't finished yet. A hand slammed down on the table. Feng Yu jumped in anger, not allowing himself to be insulted by Lady Nan. They were all waiting for her to answer. Ludi grinned, so I decided to tell you a little bit about it. Mrs. Nan looked at him with an awkward smile. Mr. Yan ordered to watch the words in front of her. He took a cigarette out of the pack. Tian Cheng advised me to check my nerves, but suddenly he clenched his face in anger. The cigarette was lit with a lighter. It was Mrs. Nan who did the favor. He calmly blew out smoke. Everyone at the table didn't understand what was going on. Tian Cheng turned to the lady, trying to understand. But Mrs. Nan did it just because Mr. wanted to smoke. Mr. Yan stood up from the table, unable to believe that she had called him master. She was willing to give her life for him if he ordered it. Mr. Yan wanted to know what kind of relationship they were in. But until Liu Di gave her an order, she couldn't say anything. The phone in my pocket rang. Tian Cheng picked up the phone. He was informed that they would soon go bankrupt. He was getting nervous, but he asked me to tell you more. They started telling him about the app Gemini in one of the communities of which he was exposed, how their routes destroy the environment. Tianjin couldn't believe that a certain community could kick a company out of the market. But not only did they expose it, they also released 120 new travel routes for free. He dropped his phone in shock while the other side was begging for help. Tianjin fell back in his chair, clutching his head in panic. Everyone watched in silence as he went into mourning. He realized that this was Liu Di's doing and asked him about his attitude towards the twins. Ms. Nan realized that the god of music, Di Yi, and the director of Gemini Company could be one person. Liu Di pretended that it was just a coincidence, as his friend Tian Jia is the CEO of this company. Tianjin knew that this was directly related to him, but he hadn't seen him interact with anyone. Liu Di felt that he didn't have enough opportunities for his own ideas. Tianjin abruptly climbed up on the table, and he jumped on Liu Di, wanting to lower him to the bottom with him. At that moment, Lady Nan rushed towards him. She kicked Tianjin right on the table, causing him to fall. He flew off the table towards his friends. Liu Di thought this was the best time to start the concert. Feng Yu looked at him in shock. Ziming also didn't understand what was going on. Mr. Yan begged me not to neglect him. He started to bow, but Liu Di tried to calm him down. Mr. Yan asked him about his next plans and whether he wanted to continue staying in the Yan family. Liu Di was only willing to leave with a clear conscience. Heishan laughed out loud, believing his guesses to be correct. He invited him to talk about the country's affairs. Armored vehicles were driving along the road, and they drove right into the Yan estate. Soldiers with weapons entered the house. Gradually, a huge crowd filled the room from each side. Heishan spoke about his state-level order, ordering everyone he cared about to join the army with him. Duan thought his behavior was too cruel for him to bring his troops here. But it is only through his ruthlessness that he has achieved what he has. Heishan ordered his boys to be kicked out while they were having adult conversation. Mr. Yan ordered the butler to lead the guests away. Everyone hurriedly started to leave the hall. Ms. Nan decided to clarify, but Liu Di was fine. After a while, only Liu Di and the commanders remained in the room. Liu Di noticed that Heishan eventually lost the game. The general was impressed that he was able to subdue the brats. But Liu Di wasn't going to become his soldier. Dun suggested that you become a real policeman rather than some kind of soldier. Heishan gagged him. Liu Di formed up in front of the general. And the general asked me to agree without pleading. He really appreciated his actions, but now he wants to ask him to complete a dangerous task that could take his life. Liu Di didn't understand what he was talking about. Duan presented them with a government draft that would be a death sentence for an ordinary person, but not for Liu Di. Liu Di demanded more details. Heishan couldn't just give him a state secret, and he demanded that no other people's ears be heard. Liu Di concluded that he wouldn't listen to them. The general was beginning to get annoyed by his childish antics. Footsteps sounded at the gate. The guard soldiers ordered the old man to find another place to walk, but the old man decided to show them something first and then make a decision. Soldier asked him what he wanted. The old man took out a badge from his pocket. They immediately took up a stance, realizing that the foreman was standing in front of them. It turned out to be Master Tu, who had received it for his treatment on the battlefield and wanted to see an old friend. The soldier ran to report on his visit. Heishan already wanted to take Liu Di out by force. Suddenly, a voice came from behind. Heishan didn't know what Senior was doing here. They all greeted the master. Liu Di didn't expect to see it either. Old Man Tu was surprised by Liu Di's presence. Everyone immediately began to seat him at the table. He glanced at the alcohol with a displeased face. Liu Di offered him a homemade tincture of the highest quality to sample. Old Man Tu confessed that he wouldn't give up Liu Di to anyone, since he was the only one helping him in the hospital. Heishan explained about his conscription order. But the old man didn't care at all. Mr. Yan wasn't ready to commit a crime. Heishan reminded him that Liu Di was not an ordinary person at all. Mr. Yan didn't understand what he was talking about. Heishan reminded them of the training of his soldiers. But several of his soldiers got into an altercation with Liu Di, and in less than a minute, his entire team was on the floor. And they all suffered at the hands of Liu Di. Mr. Yan couldn't believe it. Even though he brought a lot of his own soldiers today, they wouldn't be able to beat Liu Di in a fight. Mr. Yan looked at him in shock. I thought I was just too blind. Old Man Tu recalled his status and understood what Heishan was trying to achieve, and he knows what his country needs. Heishan wasn't surprised by the elder's enlightenment. Duan knew how often he was asked to return to the service and take over departments. Old Man Tu believed that everyone was responsible for their country and asked them to stand on his side. Heishan couldn't believe what he was suggesting, and he was prepared to take action in Liu Di's direction if the need arose. Heishan was willing to follow his orders. He asked Liu Di if he was interested or not. But Liu Di had already guessed their plans, even though he wasn't that experienced. Heishan couldn't believe it. He realized that Mr. Yan was related to the Inji company. And if you reveal the identity and plans of the country on the internet, you can create a resonance. Mr. Yan didn't know what to say. Haeshan started to make guesses, but Old Man 2 definitely had nothing to do with it. Ludi concluded that he was right, so I advised Mr. Yan to be careful with Feng Yu. Mr. Yan knew that as someone from a poor family, he would want the family business, and he was afraid to ask Ludi for help. Ludi didn't think that he was supposed to be following him. He grinned. He was going to send Feng Yu to hell for any wrongdoing. Mr. Yan did not expect such a harsh measure. Ludi recalled the incident at the bank, where all the actions were common recklessness from the attackers, but were disguised so that he could judge their identities. Haeshan was impressed by his observation skills, but insisted on participating in his program. Old Man 2 guaranteed that Liu Di would not divulge their secret information. He was tired of discussing this topic and asked Liu Di to take him home. Ludi agreed unconditionally and they started to leave. Haeshan offered to go with him to discuss the plan on the way. But Old Man 2 was already annoyed. They stood awkwardly after being rudely refused. The entire manor was surrounded by soldiers. The Paris couldn't understand what was going on and why Liu Di stayed inside. Feng Yu was sure that Liu Di was the cause of all the problems. At that moment, the doors opened. Liu Di came out with Mr. 2. The soldiers immediately greeted the elder. The boys were glaring at him, but they also stood in a row. Ludi had a couple of ideas to improve Miss Nan's business, so he was going to contact her in the future. She agreed with a smile. Ludi thanked him for his help, but the old man knew that he couldn't be stopped if he didn't come. The guy didn't understand what he was talking about. He predicted a bright future for him and wanted to help him establish ties with the state. Ludi thanked him. 2 cars appeared next to them. She stopped right next to them. It was Haeshan who offered me a ride. The old man ignored him and asked Liu Di to go faster. The cars drove on. Old Man 2 didn't expect Liu Di to be able to defeat General Hei's soldiers. When he saved it, he noticed an amazing organism that its genes are able to improve themselves. Ludi considered this to be an ordinary piece of luck. He asked where Old Man 2 got this artificial eye from, what he gave him when they first met. The old man didn't remember until the end, and I think I found him in the hospital. Ludi decided to accept it. The old man laughed and put his hand on her shoulder. He considered him lucky for such talents, and was confident that he would take on such a responsibility if his homeland called him. Ludi didn't expect that he thought so highly of him, and he promised to do his best. The boys were standing in the road. Tiancheng hit the tree in rage. He was now bankrupt because of Liu Di's fault, not planning on not helping him anymore. Feng Yu didn't know what to do against such an influential person. Tiancheng was already in a frenzy, ready to ask his mercenaries for help. Feng Yu was going to help him with this matter. Suddenly, they heard strange noises. A series of explosions began in the forest. All the soldiers were covered in dust and smoke, which caused them to cough. They heard a thud on the car. The soldiers turned their heads to the top. Suddenly, they were covered in ninja punches, and I rushed to the car where the general was sitting. A bolt of lightning formed in his hand as he was about to strike, and hit the glass with his hand, which broke the window. Liu Di realized that they wanted to kill Haeshan. Old Man 2 asked if he could stop him. Mo Tong warned that this kind of speed and strength is not like a human. So Ludi crouched down, cracking the ground beneath him. He jumped off the ground, and he jumped down to save himself. The ninja tore open the car door with one hand and threw it away. Suddenly, someone struck inside, but the ninja caught Haeshan's fist. In his other hand, he had a knife that flew straight at him. But before the strike, the ninja saw Liu Di in front of him. Liu Di ran into the ninja. I punched him in the stomach. From such a strong blow, the ninja flew away. Moding compared their strengths, and the similarity was 95%. Liu Di didn't expect that it was actually a girl. The boys watched from the mountain. Tiancheng couldn't believe the speed. Ziming reminded him of his previous words when he wanted to take revenge on Liu Di. He started to get nervous, deciding to take it back. Tiancheng started to run away to the car, leaving Liu Di at his side. Haeshan approached Liu Di after the fight, asking about his condition, but Liu Di was fine. He assumed that the general might have known who the mercenary was. From his clothing, the general assumed that he was a man from the International Organization of Assassins. A voice was heard approaching. Old Man 2 felt that the general owed Liu Di his life. Haeshan wasn't going to forget about saving him. The soldier gave out a report that the killer had escaped. Haeshan decided to hush up the case so that it wouldn't go to the press. They could feel their enemies getting stronger. Old Man 2 knew what to do. Liu Di found it strange that this had happened in the Yan family's manor. Haeshan didn't believe that Brother Yan could have carried out an assassination attempt. Liu Di was delighted by his calmness from this situation. He suggested that the reason for the attempt may be an attempt to stop the new program of the Chinese military. And Haeshan decided to spend more time promoting their research. Some time passed. Liu Di watched the movie and saw the transformation of a person. He hadn't expected this kind of difficulty in the Yan family's case. After a while, they met up with Qing Wen in the hallway. He asked her where she planned to go today. Father Yan informed her that Liu Di was now an honored guest of the Yan family, so she could no longer order him around. But Liu Di had something to say. Qingwen then confessed that she wanted to visit Mu Yang's psychological clinic. They went to the car, and we went to the hospital. Qingwen kept clicking her pen. Liu Di guessed that she was nervous about something. She wanted to know who he was. I wanted to know how wrong I was about him. Liu Di pondered over her words. Qingwen understood that he might not want to talk about it. He grinned, sensing the difference between attitude and status. Qingwen asked if he was joking about the event, but he didn't often joke about such serious topics. She wasn't going to blame him for her defeat. Then Liu Di asked to buy him a lot of snacks. Qingwen didn't understand why he needed snacks. Liu Di wanted to use them for the children to persuade them to participate. It turned out that he wants to ask disabled children to participate in the event. Qingwen agreed with his idea, suggesting that they have a children's party. They finally arrived at the hospital. Qingwen asked me not to tell anyone about today's business. Liu Di understood that all people sometimes need to go to a psychiatric hospital. The girl pouted at his joke. The doors opened and an unknown girl stood behind them. Modong revealed that she looks educated on the surface, but is actually wild. The girl's name was Li Mu-chan, a professor in the psychology department and a specialist in hypnosis. Mu-chan was glad that Qingwen had come. She asked me who the guy was. Qingwen had previously told her about Liu Di. Mu-chan was surprised for some reason. Liu Di greeted her. Suddenly, she licked her lips. They went to her office and Liu Di sat down on the sofa. Modong called out sharply. He found something interesting on the doctor's computer. Liu Di was curious. It turned out that there were a lot of details about Liu Di in her notes. There was a whole table of analysis about all his actions during all this time. Modong noticed how she had made a hypnosis plan based on all the statistics. Liu Di asked if there were any records about Qingwen. Qingwen came here at least 3 times a month for 3 years, but her file didn't survive. According to Modong, Mu-chan was a serious doctor. Liu Di didn't expect this outcome. There were footsteps in the room. It was Mu-chan who brought him the water. She explained that Qingwen was under a lot of psychological stress, so we need to let her rest. She was sitting right in front of him. Liu Di knew the first step of hypnosis, to make the brain worry. Mu-chan found his work as a driver tiring, so she suggested that he relax and unwind. It could send him into a state of deep sleep. The second step was to disguise the hypnosis as deep sleep. He put the phone down on the couch. Mu-chan pretended that this was a special opportunity just for him, and she was willing to give him a new experience for Qingwen's sake. She asked if he was okay. Liu Di was doing well. Mu-chan asked me to make myself comfortable. Liu Di laughed. A gold watch appeared in her hands. She started running them in front of his face, asking him to focus on them alone. The watch flipped open, revealing the face. Abruptly, she began to laugh. Liu Di realized that this was the process of hypnosis. Modong had performed a subconscious mind fusion, and now he had merged with hypnosis. Munang continued to speak so that he would feel a sense of relaxation and comfort all over his body. She tried to make him feel like he was walking on warm sand and the sun was shining brighter than usual. Mu-chan demanded to trust her completely and tell her all the secrets. She started counting down to 3. She finished it slowly. At that moment, he lit a cigarette with a lighter. He blew out smoke. Her face glowed sharply and her eyes went blank. He decided to ask her how innocent she was. Mu-chan revealed all her secrets about her first times. Liu Di suddenly became embarrassed and asked to stop. And he wanted to know why she was making the hypnosis plan for him. It turned out that it was Qingwen's request, but she changed her mind yesterday. While Mu-chan was reading the information about him, she became curious, so she decided to chat with him while Qingwen was sleeping. Liu Di asked why Qingwen was visiting them at the clinic. Qingwen has been diagnosed with passive personality syndrome, and all she can do is click a ballpoint pen. Liu Di asked her how she was feeling. Qingwen struggled with her true identity, but in reality, she likes it. He asked her where her illness came from. There were 2 reasons for this. Qingwen wanted to appear strong and not acknowledge fatigue, which leads to a distorted personality. And the second reason may be genetics. Liu Di sincerely hoped that Mu-chan would help Qingwen. He stubbed out a cigarette. He ordered her not to make plans for him, and he told me that he was well hypnotized. He snapped the lighter shut, and Mu-chan came out of her hypnosis. Liu Di pretended to have just woken up and stretched. She suggested that he take a break while she did her chores. She left the room. She woke up Qingwen, telling her that she had been hypnotized. Qingwen was shocked. After all, she had already asked me not to. Mu-chan interested her in the details, so Qingwen wanted to know more. Mu-chan found out that Liu Di had more than 80 personalities. So he's also a pervert. Qingwen asked me to stop joking. But Mu-chan was her doctor, and she couldn't lie. Qingwen asked what kind of person they were talking about. According to her, Liu Di was an ordinary person who knew a lot of good people. The phone rang. Qingwen picked up the phone. And I was shocked by the information I received. Qingwen immediately stopped by Liu Di's place because they had to go home. Liu Di assumed that something had happened to her older sister. According to him, she was involved in an accident or fell, which broke her arm. Qingwen was taken aback as to how he could possibly know about this. Liu Di had seen her older sister's energy recently, which foreshadowed disaster. Qingwen sighed, thinking that he was fooling around again. And she hurried it, because her older sister was attacked by bandits right in front of the house. Liu Di decided not to go, otherwise it might worsen her injuries. Qingwen didn't try to persuade her and decided to go alone. She left quickly. Motong showed the route without cameras between the scene of General He's assassination and Big Sister's mansion. Liu Di assumed that Yiwen's weapon was hidden there. He decided to let the generals catch the lady. Mu Chang came into the room with a plate. She served up some bright fruit and abruptly admitted that he was the most beautiful man in her life. Liu Di recalled how he had instilled his unattainability in her. Motong reminded her of Mu Chan's hobby of solving riddles. She blushed but offered to add herself to the Gemini app anyway. Liu Di decided to do this just to support his app. They correlated the phone numbers and added them. Mu Chan was confused by his nickname, Di-san, as if he was pretending to be that technological genius and was afraid that his account might be banned. Liu Di wasn't afraid of this. Mu Chan laughed at his joke. He got a text from TC, who discovered something. Liu Di grinned, and he asked me to keep it a secret so that I could have a trump card after the concert. The public pages were filled with news about the Gemini app and Diamornai. Feng Yu was delighted with Siming for being able to arrange a concert for Di right at the charity event. There was a video on his laptop where he introduced himself to the crowd as the vice president in charge of the charity concert. He announced that a DE concert would be held in Huitian Square, right under the open sky, and admission was free. Commentators hoped to get to the concert at any cost, and everyone immediately started buying tickets. Ziming paced up and down the room worried. He couldn't believe that DE had sent the message. The working people gathered in front of the Yin family's estate. The guys were loading a piano into the yard. Qingwen peered as the sheet fell off him. She immediately recognized the forgotten piano from the basement, but all of a sudden I recognized it as the piano from DE's video. There was a theory in her head that Liu Di might be connected to this, but she believed that this piano wasn't working and stopped the movers. She opened the lid over the keys. I clicked on one to check if it was working properly, but the piano was even well-tuned. One of the guys asked not to delay the delivery. The day of the concert arrived, and people called out DE's name. The boys watched the crowd. Meanwhile, Wu Qingwen, they set up a stage in the middle of the square, and the flyer asked me to thank Sister Yan for such a gift. Mrs. Nan and Qingwen clapped. The children suddenly called out to her. The boy asked to applaud after the concert. Qingwen promised to do it. On behalf of Inji, she thanked Miss Nan for the visit and apologized for the low-level scene. But she still admired her for her good deed. She absolutely didn't care about the state of the stage, wanting to look at the beautiful man. Qingwen didn't know what to say, but voices interrupted her. Kai Kai and Xin Xin also appeared at the event. They searched for their sister for a very long time and almost got lost. As much as they wanted to see Di, they decided to come to her event and support her. Qingwen sincerely thanked her little sisters. And I called the kids because the show starts soon. The boys promised that Liu Di would wait for her. In front of the stage, there were still shouts from the crowd waiting for Di to come out. The host presenting the charity concert of Di came on stage. Everyone started shouting even louder. And now I had to get Di on stage too. A silhouette appeared in the fog. When the smoke cleared, only the back was visible. Everyone was starting to lose consciousness from his appearance. He spun around, microphone in hand, and he began to sing his own song. He continued to sing, but the crowd stopped shouting. People noticed that the sound changed a lot. Meanwhile, at the event, the sisters introduced one of the performers to the guests. It was a boy in a wheelchair. She kept calling Liu Di, who never arrived, making the children wait. The stage lights lit up, and lit up Liu Di, who was sitting at the piano. He slowly began to play, and at the same time sing. Everyone immediately heard his voice and realized that Di on stage wasn't real. The entire crowd immediately ran towards another event. Qingwen felt the ground shake and went out on the balcony. There, a huge crowd of people could be seen chasing down the street. Everyone wanted to go to Diwei's concert, and they ran straight to their building. Ms. Nan asked for increased security and protection of children. The song continued as everyone stood under the building. The children also heard his beautiful vocals and started to smile. People couldn't understand who was singing so well. Even Old Man 2 on his sofa heard his song. I just wished him luck. Liu Di stood on the roof under the streetlights, introducing people to the hospital for treating sick children, which lacked funds and was ignored by people. Therefore, I thanked all those who came with good intentions, urging them to live in kindness. He whirled around and threw a small box. This box landed right in Qingwen's hands. He confessed to her that he respected her for her good deeds. And at that moment, he disappeared from the roof as if he had never been there. People saw in the window the heiress of the company, Inji, now wanting to buy up all their products. The twins didn't expect her to know him and were waiting for the gift to be unpacked. It contained that green pearl. Kai was very envious of such a gift, but Qingwen corrected it because it was the Eye of Immortality. The name sounded familiar to Xingxing. Kai recognized the pearl that she had bought for millions. Qingwen remembered how she had recently given it to Liu Di. The twins didn't understand why Di Yi had thrown it into her hands, and suddenly they realized that Liu Di might be Di Yi. Kai was shocked that this could be possible. Qingwen asked the sisters to keep this secret to themselves. She knew that Liu Di wouldn't want to reveal his identity. She was interested in their thoughts in a way they hadn't realized before. The sisters wanted to know the answer. Qingwen thought that they were from completely different worlds. Xingxing became the most popular streamer only because of Di Yi. Qingwen is sure that it was Liu Di who lost tens of billions in the casino. The twins were worried that he wouldn't forgive them for their past behavior, and they wanted to go home. Qingwen didn't expect this, but they were going to urgently move all of Liu Di's things to the best room on the 5th floor. After saying that, they immediately sped away. Qingwen thought that Liu Di was going to move. The stage at Feng Yu's event was completely empty. He stood there in complete shock, having lost 500 million in 1 second. He clenched his fists in anger. He didn't want to go to the bottom alone, intending to drag Liu Di down with him. Feng Yu was waiting for Ziming to appear. Ziming and his singer were already running down the street. They were trying to escape, but the singer stumbled and fell to the ground. He asked Ziming for help because he couldn't get up, but he gave up on it, deciding to save only himself. Ziming managed to steal $300 million to live safely for the rest of his life. But at this moment, a guard appeared in front of him. It was Mrs. Nan. She knew immediately that he would try to escape. Ziming grabbed his bag, preparing to run back, but there was already another crowd behind them. Mrs. Nan received an order from Mr. Liu Di that Ziming had argued with him. Ziming pretended not to know, so Ms. Nan decided to pass on a message from Liu Di. She pointed a sharp finger at him, reminding him that Ziming had promised his right leg for the loss. Ziming's screams resounded all over the street. The next day came. In the news, they reported about Inji's global monetary losses and about the appearance of Di Yi. At the meeting, everyone was waiting for Feng Yu to explain. He decided not to explain anything because he understood everything. Mr. Yan was terribly disappointed in him for this attitude. But I was happy with the work of Qingwen, whose event will save the day. Feng Yu blamed all the problems on Liu Di, who was lying to his face. Mr. Yan slammed his hand down on the table. He noticed that Feng Yu had lost ground, so he decided to remove him from the management of the company. Feng Yu didn't argue and got up from his chair. He left the room roughly. Everyone at the meeting was offended by his behavior, which also drags our company down. Mr. Yan stopped them from arguing. Feng Yu took the elevator and left. The guy in the elevator noticed how difficult it was for him to communicate with these old people. He didn't care about their opinion anymore, and he just wanted to defeat Liu Di. After that, he ended up on the doctor's desk. The doctor tried to convince him otherwise. After all, the drug was developed quite recently, and there were no tests yet. Feng Yu wanted to know the success rate of the operation. According to the doctor, the percentage was no more than 10%. Even that number was enough for him. The doctor did not want to hear his approval and understood that even a successful operation goes against the law and humanity. The guy was not happy that he refused the boss in the operation, so he also mentioned the whole of humanity. Feng Yu believed in the doctor's talents, wanting to give him a chance to show off, and this opportunity can give it worldwide recognition. These words convinced the doctor, and after half an hour, the guy finished binding Feng Yu on the bed. The doctor again warned him about the unknown outcome of the operation, but Feng Yu wanted to get started quickly. He carefully inserted the syringe under the skin. They watched the result with their mouths hanging open. His pulse rate started to rise sharply. His entire body tensed as he began to scream. The guy began to worry that Feng Yu might not survive the operation, but the doctor noticed a completely new reaction, and the physique was different from normal people. If the operation is successful, Feng Yu will reach incredible physical fitness. Feng Yu continued to shout. The boy continued to get nervous as he watched him. At this moment, the patient opened his eyes. He stood up, tearing at the rags. The boy admired his strength. Feng Yu could feel the power of God in his body. The doctor was monitoring his vitals. The medicine was surprisingly suitable for his body, which strengthened his body by hundreds of %. Feng Yu got to his feet. He was about to leave, but the doctor asked him to check his strength. He thought about the idea of revenge against Liu Di. He gripped the table with his hand, wishing he could make Liu Di pay a big price. The corner of the table crumbled under his power. Meanwhile, at Inji's, the meeting discussed the company's monthly performance. The door to the room opened abruptly, followed by Feng Yu. Mr. Yan was displeased with his behavior. Feng Yu announced the successful second stage of development. The man couldn't believe it was possible. The guy presented him with the documents for him to look at. Feng Yu explained that he had tried the medicine on himself, and it worked. Mr. Yan was horrified that he had acted recklessly, but he was willing to risk everything for the company. Everyone at the meeting was happy with his success because it could solve all their problems. Feng Yu suggested inviting General He to the laboratory to see the result for himself. The general arrived on the roof by helicopter. They took the elevator down to the lab. He clarified whether the experiment worked exactly, but Mr. Yan decided to give it a try on its own. The general gave the order to strike. The guy was kneading his fists as he approached the car, and he swung, hitting with all his might. He hit the force measurement machine, which gave out 200 points. Mr. Yan estimated his level as that of a world boxing champion. Feng Yu took off his jacket, ready to strike, and he swung. His punch blew up the scale of the car. Mr. Yan was shocked by his strength. The general demanded to arrange a fight between them in order to see real results. The guy was getting a little nervous. Feng Yu explained that this guy was no match for him. He started hinting at the battle with Liu Di. Mr. Yan understood his insinuations, but thought it was nonsense. But the general knew about Liu Di's strength, wanting to see him in battle. Feng Yu also agreed with him. Liu Di, meanwhile, was lying on a rock by the shore. He was being watched on cameras. The man could see Di's facial features in Liu Di. Everyone was horrified that their control system was hacked, taking not only the lighting, but also the speakers. It had already been an entire night, and he was waiting for either Di's find or the hacker. The guy came with the news that the hacker's IP address had been found. He demanded it in order to deal with it personally. According to him, the hacker was in Egypt, at the Golden Tower, but at the same time in the North Pole. The man aggressively hit the table, taking it as a joke, but the hacker even left them a channel to talk to them. The screen turned on. The hacker immediately left a message for Captain Dong Ming. The man was shocked that the hacker knew his name. He was sad that he had caused them trouble, but glad that there had been no losses. Dong Ming started texting him back. He demanded a location from him, to which the hacker just laughed. The man swung the ashtray in anger. I sent him an archive of files. Dong Ming was immediately surprised. He helped them solve a large-scale money laundering case and asked for compensation, but Dong Ming couldn't forgive him for the situation with General He's power grid. The hacker doubted that he would be able to catch it and offered to sleep with friends. Dong Ming asked who the hacker was, and he introduced himself as DC. Dong Ming slapped the table with his palm. Now he was sure that the hacker was Chinese and a fan of DE. It collected information about DC, whose danger level reached SSS. Dong Ming wanted to capture him, intending to fight him for the rest of his life. Liu Di sat down on a rock, stretching. It was finally time to deal with Feng Yu. At that moment, he received a call from Hong Xin. He jumped down from the boulder while answering the phone. Mr. Yan was calling him for an important experiment in the company. Liu Di asked him to wait. Hong Xin reported that Liu Di would arrive in an hour. 10 minutes later, he was standing in the elevator doorway. Liu Di thanked him for waiting. General He didn't understand why he was talking about the hour of time. Mr. Yan didn't understand how he got through the access control, since the security system cost 200 million. Liu Di confessed his skills, so he was able to hack the system and add a couple of chips. And he knew that they had called him to fight Feng Yu. The guy was sure that Liu Di would lose to him. He flexed his muscles, causing his shirt to tear right on top of him. Liu Di didn't appreciate his show-off. Feng Yu was going to destroy it. He was about to pull away, causing the floor to crack. In an instant, he lunged at him with his fist. Everyone tried to warn Liu Di, but Liu Di stood there calmly. He took it down with one kick. Feng Yu flew away with a huge explosion, and he was lying in the wall, foaming at the mouth. Liu Di was disappointed that they called him a mutant. He advised using such powerful technologies on people with pure consciousness. Suddenly, he remembered that he had sent Mr. Yan a letter to the legal department. The man was wondering what the message was, and then a notification came. He was informed that Feng Yu had used his position to embezzle the company's assets and kidnap Qingwen. His eyes widened in shock. The doctor was trying to revive Feng Yu. He stood up, immediately starting to laugh. Feng Yu abruptly started acting like a sick person. Mr. Yan didn't know what to say. Liu Di recounted a quote from an old acquaintance who explained that a person is responsible for the ups and downs of their country, so he was willing to help transform the Ministry of War. He left the building. Liu Di felt that he would soon be hunted by bandits, so he decided not to return to the Yan family's home. Moding had warned about his upcoming upgrade, so he would need to find the mechanized site on his own. Liu Di didn't understand the meaning. Moding had shown that the playground was the best place on the planet, and it now belonged to Haishu University. Liu Di decided to restore the old relationship since it was here. He went to Haishu University. There was a lecture about artificial intelligence, which can be used to create a new production facility. He suggested that we think about whether a person who manages artificial intelligence is a good leader. Moding explained that artificial intelligence is also of high and low quality, and after updating, it will be able to become the highest level itself. The system update has started. The man left the classroom after the lecture. Suddenly, he saw Liu Di and recognized him. He couldn't believe that he had met him again. After all, he hadn't seen him in years. Liu Di admitted to having a problem, so he went back. The teacher assumed that he was Guo Chen's intermediary. He didn't know who it was, so he explained that he wanted to buy an abandoned hall to create experimental products. The teacher noticed that they had a common goal, not understanding why they didn't work together. He suggested that we stop arguing and try to make a big contribution. Liu Di compared it to a no-strings-attached task. The teacher knew about his traumatic brain injury and suggested that he find a normal job and stop dreaming. He left without giving an answer. Gokhan served as the chairman of a real estate company. They hadn't seen each other in 3 years, and this guy was already the chairman. Liu Di called him right away. Gochen didn't immediately remember it and immediately thought that he needed something. Liu Di told him about the purchase of an abandoned warehouse and suggested that they discuss it since they have a common idea. Guo Chen didn't think they were equal, but he thought he was talented and asked about his current status. Liu Di immediately dropped the call. The teacher was sitting in his office. He didn't expect that even Haishu University couldn't give him a patent. A number of emails were displayed on the computer. He stared at the contents of the letters and couldn't believe his eyes. It showed a bionic material that absorbed radioactive waves and could make buildings invisible. There were 3 beams to refract light, which could optimize solar energy technologies. There was a letter dedicated to Liu Di. They claimed that he had achieved great academic success and was ready to share his achievements with their university, hoping that the professor would support him. He slammed his hand down on the table. The director was willing to support such a talented youth. He suggested that the professor summon Liu Di to the university to discuss the terms of the patent in person. An hour later, he arrived at the office. Liu Di was willing to grant 6 patents to the professor for his inventions on behalf of the university. The director gave Liu Di the right to buy the abandoned warehouse. He was willing to buy it, and he wanted to donate 100 million so that Haishu University could build a better science and technology center. They were extremely grateful to him and were honored for such a student. He went to the Lianshan district, where there was an abandoned factory. Liu Di was standing on the road. He wasn't surprised that this was one of the popular areas. Liu Di walked to the factory's door. The update was downloaded 100%. Liu Di opened the doors with both hands, and a room appeared before him. He immediately summoned Motung. Motung yawned as he returned from his nap. Liu Di wanted to find something fun, so he pulled the lever. The car started making noises. Motung reported a problem that caused the system to crash. It was a large-scale electromagnetic resonator with unlimited energy charge that was made by student Li Hai. Back then, Liu Di wanted to try to fix it. The system gave him better maintenance skills. He was looking at one of the cars, and he thought the equipment was too valuable to just leave behind. Motung explained about the network amplifier, which can increase the amplitude tenfold and create your own network. And another device replaces sunlight, making it possible to grow plants in the dark. Robot dogs appeared below him, and drones were flying over them. He immediately recognized the quadricopters that helped monitor the warehouse from anywhere. There was a knock on the factory door. It was a bed and linen delivery service. The guy was shocked that someone could live here. Hag opened the doors, from which both couriers were startled by surprise. They started moving the bed in. We decided to ask him why he was living alone in an abandoned factory. Liu Di pretended to be hired to look after the warehouse. The couriers sighed, and they decided to leave already, saying goodbye. He lay down on the soft bed, thinking it was the best place. Next to it was a record player that played music. He sat up from the bed and looked at him. Motung reported that there are more than 100 defective products in the factory, and if they are improved, they will have an unlimited production cost. Liu Di asked to register an investment company, giving each researcher of experimental products $100,000 to continue creating. After good results, the company will be able to provide various support and investments. Motung accepted the order. He was going to transform the factory into a different world. And that was just the beginning. The Yan family sat at the same table. Mr. Yan couldn't believe that Feng Yu had been a bad person all along. He asked if Yi Wen had noticed anything while she was living with him. The girl immediately apologized. He felt sorry for Liu Di for suffering so much all this time. Qing Wen realized that he was protecting them. Mr. Yan knew that Liu Di hadn't returned for 2 days, which meant that his conscience was clear. He promised to do his best to thank Liu Di personally. Qing Wen was standing on the street by the fountain when a silhouette appeared in front of her by the car. She immediately called out to Liu Di, but didn't finish speaking. After all, it wasn't Liu Di, but the butler who was hurrying her. She asked who the movers were. It turned out that they were helping Liu Di pack. Qingwen immediately knew that this was the way to find him. And she got into the car, telling them to follow their car. Eventually, they arrived at an abandoned factory. Qingwen realized that Liu Di was now living here. So I decided to go straight there. Quadricopters flew around the factory. Motong warned of an early visit from the workers, who would finish the repairs in 3 days. Liu Di was satisfied with his work. Liu Di decided to buy a car because he was tired of running on foot. Meanwhile, in the international car sales company, Seaway, employees were standing inside, and they saw a silhouette in the distance. He went into the company, and the employee immediately noticed him. The girl immediately warned her colleague about a new client. The friend was disappointed that her friend fell in love with everyone, especially with such a loser in cheap clothes. She reminded him not to judge a person by their appearance, and was about to approach him. The girl stopped her after noticing his beauty, so she decided to pick up this customer. She introduced herself as Xiaolan, intending to serve him. Liu Di immediately wanted to buy 4 cars. She immediately showed him an exhibition of economy-class cars. Liu Di immediately demanded other cars. Xiaolan was angry and demanded to look for cars in another place because she has her own things to do. The guy bumped her shoulder, and she called out to him. But it was Mr. Z. He asked her to bring a glass of water while he took care of this client himself. Mr. Z introduced himself as the store manager after hearing that he wanted to buy a special car. He offered to take him to a VIP showroom. They went and discussed it. Suddenly, Liu Di noticed something. There was an elite car parked there. Mr. Z appreciated its taste because it was a classic McLaren. He was good at speeds, but the car was very old, so no one bought it. Liu Di immediately asked about the purchase method. It could only be purchased by VIPs who spent 30 million yuan in their store. He handed him a gold card, intending to buy a nice car and a plane that could be issued in the name of the parent company. Mr. C was going to do his best to complete everything in a short time. Liu Di was hoping for him. Later in the Rongtin building, the tallest building in Shanghai, Liu Di was in the elevator with the girls and the security guard. They arrived at the floor with his office and went into the hallway. Everyone greeted Mrs. Haydn of the Fubo company. The secretaries greeted her at the creator company, inviting her to go to the lounge to relax. They apologized to her, as Xiao Shuang couldn't see her due to the lack of a record. The girl was shocked that he still continued to take advantage of the commotion for profit. Liu Di wondered how his staff would handle such a client. The secretaries were nervous, but they were going to deal with the client. One of the girls came up, asking the reason for the visit. He introduced himself as an investor. The girl decided to give him permission to go to the office for his long journey, even though he does not have a record. And they invited him to come with them. They went to the break room. The girls served Mrs. Haydina coffee, and she told them about the flowers they had brought to improve her mood. Haydina hoped that they could arrange for her to meet Mr. Zhang. The girl promised that there would be a meeting. They didn't find Liu Di's preference, so they directly asked for the desired drink. Liu Di asked for a glass of water, and the person he wanted to see would be coming soon. He wrote that he had arrived at the place and offered to eat together. Haydina was shocked that he was negotiating in such a state when the Gemini company couldn't even provide information about him. Liu Di asked her for advice. She advised to learn not only the good, but also the bad sides of the enemy. And she cited the example of the company Creator. The company was good at everything and without flaws, but the management didn't have enough ambition. The assistant complained that his mistress had told him too much, but Haydina appreciated his data and the potential to become a businessman, wanting to offer him a job. At that moment, Ajia entered the room. The girls immediately jumped up to greet him. Ajia walked up to Liu Di and offered to eat some stew. He introduced Liu Di to the girls as the director, the one he was talking about. Haydina apologized to him for not recognizing him earlier. I ran after them. She offered to join them. Liu Di didn't mind at all. After all, he had booked a table at the Spice restaurant. He walked past her. Haydina turned around, asking for his contacts. Liu Di agreed to give her the number of her Gemini account. They went to Aunt Lee's restaurant. The woman recalled that the last time they ate at her place was at the end of school, and they became very thin. Ajia agreed that they lost weight because they didn't eat her food. My aunt asked them to eat more. Liu Di remembered their long-standing rule that the last person to finish their meal would have to leave. And Jia announced the start of the competition. He was immediately surprised by Liu Di's eating speed. After a while, the bowls were already empty. Jia warned about the staff meeting at 2 o'clock and called Liu Di to go with him. He didn't want to because he still had to clean up. Jia inquired about his affairs, surprised that he didn't want to participate in the meetings. He had heard from the professor that he was engaged in trading on the stock exchange. Liu Di thought inviting Jia to join the company was the best idea. Jia regretted not being able to introduce Liu Di to the company, but was willing to take responsibility for his affairs. He promised to take care of his company, but there was one thing he needed to be there for. Ludi didn't understand what he was talking about, and Jia sponsored the alumni meeting, which will be held on the top floor of the office. Ludi didn't know that Ajia was so vain. Ajia wanted to show everyone what success Ludi had achieved, so that everyone knows how incomparable he is. Ludi decided to put the topic aside. Ajia was about to leave for the meeting and left the cleaning to Ludi, and he asked me to take the sports car back because it's too noisy and big. Ludi started sweeping the floors, and at this time he sang along to the song. At this moment, people appeared in front of the doors. It was Shi Yan, his ex-girlfriend, along with her mom and stepfather. The man shook Ludi's hand, not expecting to see him there. The woman was happy to meet him, asking about business. He got straight to the point, trying to figure out why they were here. The woman asked him to take a break from work and talk to them. They moved to another place, and she asked me not to take offense at her. The man tried to subdue her. So he got down to business, explaining that they had come for help. They had heard about their close relationship with Ajia and would like to see the local chief. Ludi said that for the meeting, you need to buy shares of his company. The man reported that the group gave a death order. The woman said that Ajia holds too high a position to be friends with him. But according to Liu Di, Ajia was different from ordinary people. The woman handed him money for help if the meeting took place. Just for the sake of his ex-girlfriend, he was willing to discuss this with Ajia, and he left the table. The woman was displeased with his arrogant nature, but he was the only one who could help them. An alumni meeting was held on the roof of the building. Dongming compared the event to a vampire family dinner. Liu Di sensed that Dongming had some health problems. He told about the struggle with a first-class hacker who still cannot find. Liu Di advised him to take his time, hinting that he might be near or far away. Dongming was confident that the search would be successful. At this moment, they were called out from behind. The guy turned to Dongming, denouncing that he was near a madman. Dongming was angry at Hao Han, telling him to leave them alone. A friend advised me to leave them alone, offering me a drink. Dongming wanted to teach them a lesson for their arrogant behavior. Ajia approached Liu Di, not understanding why he was hiding in the corner. And I invited him, because the event will start soon. Dongming thanked the sponsor of their evening, Ajia, on stage. He took the stage announcing the main star of their evening, and his good friend Liu Di. The guys didn't understand why they should introduce a loser so formally, and Ajia decided to reveal his true identity. Everyone demanded to speak quickly. Suddenly, Xian's parents were trying to get into the event, calling their daughter their boss's classmate. But Jia immediately suggested that the work contract be postponed until later. The man agreed, offering to discuss it faster. Otherwise, he too will regret the missed opportunity. But he still didn't think anyone was more valuable than Liu Di. The woman didn't understand what he was talking about, or why an ordinary waiter was so valuable. The guy started laughing that he couldn't be compared to high-ranking people. A helicopter began to approach the building. Liu Di admitted that he did not have a car because all the cars he liked were of the highest class, so he presented the helicopter as a gift. A man got out of it. He handed him papers for a private jet and an antique car that was already downstairs. Liu Di was satisfied with Manager Shou's performance, feeling relieved. The director appeared at the event, who was pleased with such a wonderful class. He thanked him for the 3 patents, considering him the real pride of the school. And we decided to thank him for donating $100 million because it was a significant help. Everyone was staring at him with their mouths hanging open. The woman was sad that they had the wrong opinion about him while he was a successful man. Everyone started coming up to him, trying to praise him and suck up to him. Another helicopter appeared above the building. A young man was looking out of the helicopter. He introduced himself to Li Dao from Inji, intending to discuss something important, but Jia couldn't hear what he was saying. Liu Di was watching him closely. The guy insisted that the helicopter land first to resolve issues. He finally landed. Hualong, president and founder of Inji, China's second richest man, stepped out of the helicopter. He called Ajia young and talented, who was able to handle the creator company in a short time. And he came to meet the real creator of the company. Liu Di also admired his personality. I introduced myself to him. He was surprised that Hualong decided to visit them personally. The man didn't expect Disane to be so young and talented. Liu Di explained that it was not necessary to come to buy shares, but Hualong didn't even try to buy them for such a high price, and only came here to relax and socialize. Liu Di knew that he would never let Inji absorb them. Hualong laughingly recalled the many companies that tried to declare war on him, but they ended up turning into dust. Liu Di was going to disappoint him, because he really was officially declaring war on his company. Hualong didn't expect such a move, but warned that the company would sink along with it. In case of defeat, Liu Di demanded to admit defeat in the Gemini application, but if he lost, he would give him the main data of the company. Hualong was satisfied with the conditions. The headlines were full of executives arguing, but Zia did not expect such a fast work from the media, and it was interesting who took such a shot from this height. It turned out to be Liu Di. He got a text from Haidina asking about his plans for the evening. Liu Di announced his day off tomorrow and the resolution of an important case. Ajia asked for more details, but Liu Di only said about the meeting. He went to a meeting. Haidina was surprised that he wanted to talk to her about investing at such a time of crisis. His company had roughly 500 billion in assets, and if he sold even 10% of it, his company would take off. Haidina clarified once more, reminding him of his predicament. Liu Di lit a cigarette, reminding her that he wouldn't beg her. "And I came to tell you something interesting." She got a text message on her phone. He sent her a document that calculates all the risks of investing, and this can help her make a decision. Haidina couldn't believe that he had revealed her favorite company to invest in, which was actually a fake. Liu Di called this insight and observation. The girl considered him a natural investor. There was a sudden knock on the door. Mrs. Nan came into the room with a guard. She reminded him how he had promised to indicate their organization and had been waiting for the meeting for 5 days. Liu Di admitted that he was very busy lately and promised to contact him when he was free. Mrs. Nan considered him the most reliable person in her life and promised to wait. She left the room. Haidina didn't understand what was going on, but Liu Di was just making connections in various industries. Meanwhile, at Inji's, Hualin reported that Liu Di had gained a lot of popularity even though there was no war yet. He asked about the progress of the Gemini extermination program. The guy said that they have already blocked the application on all sites and notified the companies that cooperate with them to refuse to work with Liu Di. Hualong was waiting for them to come up with a product promotion strategy. Tomorrow, they plan to update the partner search function to become a direct analog of Gemini. Hualong had entrusted him with this confrontation, but if they lost the battle, he would leave the company. Meanwhile, Jia announced a war with Inji to his colleagues, so he invited the creator and founder here. Calling Daisan into the room, Liu Di acknowledged that Inji is quite strong, having led the market for more than a decade. He asked them to look at the results of their app, which proved them to be working hard, but they all made a mistake. Liu Di decided to remind them that they were the best. After all, people always look up to the strongest, so they achieve greatness. She wanted to know their next steps. Liu Di didn't expect them to ask this of him and asked about the important criteria of the app. The man thought that these are things that will satisfy the user. Liu Di reminded them about the partner by interest feature, which gave them a great response from the audience. But he ran into problems, so he was only able to write the main code. They were waiting for a global work to improve: design, testing, code. Everyone started volunteering for help. Liu Di thanked everyone for their hard work. Everyone at Creator works hard. The guy discovered the problem and asked Disen for help. He pushed it away, offering to decide. Liu Di sat down at the computer and began to solve the problem at high speed. In the end, it saved the changes, which immediately fixed the problem, and everyone applauded the leader. In the Inji app forum, the comments were full of garbage. They couldn't understand what was going on there. The guy was desperate because they cannot repeat the technology of Gemini. He kicked the guy out for being powerless. He got a call from his boss. He picked up the phone in fear, but he didn't have time to say anything because Hualua was giving him one last chance. And if he didn't succeed, he would take all the responsibility. He was informed about the update of the Gemini app. The guy decided not to recreate the technology, but to destroy it. The twins' activity skyrocketed. Everyone in the company jumped for joy. The employees were happy that they were able to install the new Gemini scene technology. The guy asked the C2 not to worry. After all, for such money, he was ready to easily deal with the twins. 20 million yuan was deposited into his account. Now he must deal with his opponent while holding the title of King of Fortune. They wrote to him, feeling that he was up to something, but he had everything under control. They asked him to hurry up, wanting to play as soon as possible. He couldn't find a single loophole, as if the app wasn't created by a human. A purple screen appeared on his phone. At first, he didn't understand what it was. It was a hole in a tree where you can talk about everything in the world. He started crying abruptly, not wanting to hurt people, but he needed the money. Every night, he recalled the people who said goodbye to their lives because of his activities. Nora asked him to be kind to himself, wanting to find freedom in his soul. The guy told his friends that he was deciding to change his lifestyle and asked for a request. He introduced himself to people as the King of Fortune, and he confessed his mistakes but was able to realize them only thanks to the twins. The man offered him $20 million to destroy the twins, but he liked the app too much. Everyone was watching his broadcast. The police immediately caught up with him, arresting him for rumors and slander. He was going to cooperate with the investigation because he reported it himself. All the comments were dissatisfied with the opponent of the twins. The guy reported about the resignation of the big dog, not knowing what to do. He didn't understand the man's panic because now he had to deal with the Gemini code. The guy was waiting for further action. He was asked to wait, and he threw all the blame on him. Ludi stood on the stage in front of the crowd. He asked them to remember their mission, which was not the war with Inji. Ludi continued to ask the app's priorities, which are the user's interests. The meaning of Gemini was to help you find your soulmate. The guy called out that music is also a criterion. Ludi agreed that music stirred people's emotions, so this would be their next step. One person asked if he wanted to destroy Inji. Ludi hoped for help to fulfill his dream, wanting to provide users with the best possible content. He solemnly announced Liang Ji as the head of the music project. Ludi was sure that strong people would survive the difficult situation, and all colleagues would look forward to the success of the Gemini music project. In 2 hours, the music platform will launch, and almost 1 billion people were waiting for it. The guy promised to complete all the tasks. His colleagues supported him, promising to do everything. He came closer, asking for an area for meetings and discussions. Ludi accepted their request. They went out with Ajia to the roof. Ajia thought his requests were too high, and Ludi thought that he was afraid of a war with Inji. He knew very well how strong they were. Ludi gave them this assignment because of his good attitude towards the staff and his trust in Ajia. But I wanted to remind you that he doesn't know everything about Inji. But Jia didn't understand what he was talking about. Ludi asked him not to worry about it. Meanwhile, at Inji's, the guy was outraged that the twins were trying to take away his music. His assistant offered to sue him for copyright when he added it. The guy thought D-San was too illiterate and young. Ajia reminded Ludi about copyright, but Ludi was going to settle this matter right now. He put up a post that the Gemini app calls talented artists to join their platform, offering to send songs to the mail. Ajia thought it was too simple an attitude going to contact the lawyers. But Ludi created a music wizard that will allow the author to see their rating when they upload music. Ajia felt that the function was not bad, but someone had already sent work, so he still went to the lawyers. Ludi asked him to take his time with the music master, but Ajia wanted to use it as soon as possible to prevent mistakes. Comments: everyone was waiting for a new platform from the twins. Ludi started recording videos for Dee's audience, suggesting that they do the same as him. He officially announced his contract with the twins, and his songs were already in the app. Ajia's phone was bursting with notifications. He was thrilled with the music master that he could work on his own. At the table sat the heads who wanted to join forces and crush the twins. Otherwise, it will ruin them. They were ready to listen to him. Now he was going to wait for Ludi's mistake, and then attack him with the 4 of them and ruin the company. There was a knock on the door. Everyone turned their heads to the voice that called out to Inji's chairman, Mr. Lee. He stood up, introducing himself. It was the police who accused his company of copyright infringement. He tried to explain that everything was legal in their company. The employee reminded me about Dai Yi's songs, that he had signed a contract with Gemini, so he filed a lawsuit against Inji. The room filled with footsteps. Journalists arrived to try to question him about this crime. Ajia was standing in the doorway, and Lee knew it was his fault. Ajia demanded compensation from him because the incident was their fault. In his opinion, 2 songs cost a maximum of $1 million, so he is not sorry. But the company creator demanded only 1 yuan in compensation. Everyone stood up from the table, trying to find a trick. Ajia knew exactly what they were doing at that table, and he clarified that he felt sorry for them without suing. The men asked him what he wanted. Ajia hoped that after the launch of the new platform, they would congratulate him, to which they agreed. And in addition to compensation, he demanded a public apology. Mr. Lee realized that he was the only one being sued. And Jia confirmed his words because they were the only ones who could stand up to Inji. He clenched his teeth in anger and still bowed that everyone immediately began to shoot. Articles were filled with information about the loss of Inji. Mr. Lee threw all the papers off his desk when he read this, and he abruptly started typing a new post. He informed all the people that in a day, it will be possible to listen to music in Inji completely free of charge. Commenters didn't like the reputation of their platform, but it was a nice gift. Gemini also released a post saying that they are introducing a monthly membership fee of 15 yuan, which is divided 50-50 with the artist. Commentators were happy with this price and payment to artists. Mr. Lee was confident that when their platform was launched, it would become popular and attract the attention of their users. So I suggested that you spend $10 million on a lottery and invite 2 popular artists, and an online concert should be held in their app in a day. The door to the room opened, and the silhouette came in. Mr. Lee was displeased that he had entered without permission. The awkward guy wanted to break the good news. He sent his employees to continue working. The guy handed him the code for the twins. Mr. Lee guaranteed that he would receive the money. The guy sat down at his laptop while they watched. He inserted the USB stick into the laptop, and suddenly I started to get nervous because the working code stopped working. The man supported him because he can decrypt the program. Mr. Lee asked me to deal with it quickly, but he needed time. The countdown to the launch of Gemini Music has begun, and Gia was sure that their experience was superior to Inji's. Inji had 1 minute left ordering free access. They did it right away. Suddenly, there was a problem in their office. The number of new users at the twins grew at a tremendous rate. All employees were glad that Inji users joined them. In the news, everyone reported that due to the lack of electricity, the work of the Inji was suspended. Employees were shocked that such a thing could happen. Rumor has it that all their computers blew up. Ludi considered this as karma for evil intention. He thanked everyone for their hard work, offering to take a break before difficult tasks. The employees were very motivated. Mr. Zhang Yang was congratulated for being the first employee to be fired from Gemini, suggesting that Li Daodo was a bad person. Tao Ti thought it was terribly rude. The man reported about multi-stage protection, and each level requires its own password. Dowdy started to lose his temper, kicking him to solve problems. The Inji app had 3 million active users. The company creator posted a post, going to update the online broadcast function in 3 days, inviting you to register. Dowdy hit the laptop in anger, deciding to give up on the online concert. And he was going to do something risky that could ruin him. He made a call to find the killer. The man guessed that he wanted to order D-San and demanded 40 million. Dowdy was shocked by the price. The man told about the reformer that he can kill without leaving a trace. For Dowdy, money was not a problem, demanding to kill D-San in 3 days. The man put down the dumbbell and laughed. He immediately decided to take up the case. Gemini already had 6 million active users with a paid subscription, and Gia called it a real miracle. Ludi supported his words, and they bowed to the employees for their work. Ludi announced bonuses that start at 300,000, and for outstanding participants, it started at 1 million. Everyone started idolizing them. The woman turned to Liang Ji, not understanding a job where you can't see anyone for 3 days and nights. The guy laughed, explaining that he was just having a difficult time at the company. Auntie was confident that the company could handle everything, and she said to him, if he wants to marry their Xiaotan, he needs capital. But the question was answered by another voice. Ludi rewarded Liang Ji for her services with an apartment in the city center and a house in the suburbs. The woman was speechless at the news. Ludi certainly cherished such a valuable employee. Xiaotan was confident that Liang Ji would achieve more success in the future. Motong congratulated Liu Di on being assassinated again. He was given the killer's stats. His name was Sa Ke, and he was diagnosed with bone cancer 3 years ago. But during that time, he was miraculously cured. I showed him the video of the killer. Motong revealed that it belongs to a poker club hitman organization codenamed 9 Spades. The man looked familiar to Liu Di, and for some reason, Na Yuan. Motong had warned that he would fly over in 3 days to kill. So I was going to reveal the secret to Wen as well. He asked how strong they were, and Motong confirmed their incredible strength. He was hailed from behind before leaving, and they handed me a piece of paper recommending that we strengthen security for the next 3 days. Xiaotan graduated from a prestigious medical academy in the UK 3 years ago. He recalled that Wen also continued his studies in the UK, which might have changed him. Ludi asked not to offend Liang Ji because he is a good person. She was surprised that he wasn't worried about his own safety. Ludi was not afraid of 9 peaks, asking not to interfere. Motong did a behavioral analysis and concluded that she had a relationship with a poker club. She explained that she really loved Liang Ji. Ludi was sure of this. Otherwise, she would have fled the country long ago. And he asked Motong to keep an eye on her to find out the organization behind her back. He was leaving, deciding to pick up Liang Ji. Ludi was delighted with his girlfriend. Liang Ji himself was in awe of her. News filled the Gemini company as it won the battle. Mr. Lee lit a cigarette, and he asked me to do anything, accepting any punishment. Hualong didn't think he was responsible for what happened, because the creator was really strong. But he asked for one more request. Execution depended on Daoda's mood. Hualong started to get angry for this attitude, giving him a chance to apologize to the creator on his behalf. Dowdy didn't even think of admitting defeat, intending to kill him. He stood up laughing madly. So Hualong ordered the guards to bring him out. He continued to laugh as they led him away by the hands. Hualong couldn't believe this craziness. Ludi went back to the abandoned factory. So I decided to get to work. There were many robots running around. He got a call. It was Haidina. He asked what was the matter. She informed him about the cooperation that he advised her, which was successfully completed. Ludi praised her for her work, but she asked him to come and sign the contract. He informed her that Ajia would come to her later to solve all the problems. Haidina reminded him that she had done a great deal for him, demanding his gratitude. Ludi told about the building opposite his company, where the employees of the witness company will be located, giving her the position of CEO. He immediately said goodbye. She pouted deeply, not understanding how he could ignore her hints. A plane arrived in the city. The man sniffed. It was Sake who didn't appreciate the poor air, and he complained that the driver was late. The guy apologized, asking for their next route. Sake ordered him to be taken to the beautiful Chinese women for a rest. The driver didn't mind, but he wanted to show the foreigner the real beauty. Almost a day has passed. Sake was lying in bed with a fat girl, nervously smoking a cigarette, feeling some kind of deception. The girl next to him woke up, glad to see him. He was very angry. Ludi released a post saying that Disen will go live in Gemini. He bitterly admitted that he had made a lot of enemies and someone wanted to kill him, but decided to just launch a broadcast called Online Killing. Commenters were shocked by the title, afraid to watch it. Tauda sighed as he smoked a cigarette. He started calling to tell the killer to hurry up. But they can't compete with Nine Peak, telling him to pack up and run. Night fell. Sake walked through the forest, and he tried to sneak around unnoticed. A boy sat on a lamppost with binoculars. He told his brother that the idiot had finally arrived. Ludi praised him with a smile, offering him a rest. He was lying quietly on a chair, watching him from multiple cameras. And at that moment, he started broadcasting an online murder. He greeted his audience. Everyone started commenting, discussing the name of the broadcast. But the fun was still ahead of them, and the killer was already out the door. Everyone started telling him to run away before it was too late, and they began to take an interest in the technique on which the broadcast takes place. Everyone saw Sake sneaking around on the camera, but he still didn't know about it, trying to choose the most secret route, wanting to use the sewer pipes for silent entry, and he was going to destroy it once and for all. Ludi added comments with reasoning for more viewing pleasure. Everyone liked the broadcast, knowing that the killer had no idea. He started to open the manhole, knowing it would be a legendary murder. But he couldn't open it, as if it was tightly closed. Ludi apologized, but blocked his path. He begged God to open the lid. And at that moment, it finally opened. He went down the drain, and already managed to build a diagram in his head. Ludi gave the order to start the water. All the audience sympathized with the guy who was about to be washed away with water. Water poured out of the roof, which made him afraid. He was even more aggressive now. The audience didn't want to let him go without punishment. Suddenly, he heard the echo of barking in the sewers. Sake didn't expect the dog to be in such a place. A robot dog appeared in the sewer, which caused the audience to be moved. He kicked her as hard as he could. But suddenly, the dog's claws popped out. Ludi started introducing a new dog, a second-generation killer. The dog had grown in size and was bigger than him. She threw a punch with her huge paw, pushing the guy away. Sake immediately started running away while Ludi laughed at him. He tried to open the door and run away. But the police were already on the street, and they detained him on the spot. Sake ran at him with a knife, but he was kicked first, sending him flying into a tree. The audience was shocked by the turn of events. An international hitman surrendered. It was a clear day. Ludi praised Little She for his work, but he reminded me that arrogance is appropriate only with your own capital. So I decided to give him a part of my capital and opened the box with an iron hand, because the boy did not have a second hand. It was his first creation that was ahead of technology. Tears welled up in the boy's eyes, and he burst into tears of gratitude, rushing into his arms. In the evening, he met Hualong, who was disappointed in himself, but Liu Di was just starting the show. The man didn't understand what he was talking about. A screen appeared in the sky. He played a video of Di Yi singing his song on the screen. Everyone immediately started opening their windows and watching. Other people watched with their mouths hanging open. Hualong was surprised by his quick thinking. He realized that his goal was not to beat Inji, but to beat all the companies on the internet. Ludi was flattered by his words, but they were just starting to work with users. The video continued to play on the screen. He was not only impressed by Gemini, but also by such technologies. He wanted to work with him and offered to help each other since he has the most successful startup. Ludi grinned, doubting that he needed any help. He said that 3 floors below was his new company, Witness. The man got angry, not understanding why he needed a new office, and asked about the research group. Ludi admitted that he has a whole warehouse of interesting inventions. The man did not expect this. He proved that he can reach heights even without anyone's help. The man doubted that he was always the best at everything, looking for a catch, and lit a cigarette. He knew that Liu Di was one of the most successful businessmen in China. He felt that he was different from the others, and he felt guilty about that killer incident, knowing that Liu Di didn't have a sense of competition. He clenched his fist, intending to beat him not in the business world, but in physical strength. The lighter fell to the ground and broke. Liu Di didn't know the person who could stop his development. He picked up the lighter from the floor. Liu Di knew that when money appeared, one must constantly look for a way to multiply it by clutching a lighter in one's hands. In the end, he handed him a metal ball. Liu Di didn't appreciate people who bullied the weak. Suddenly, he turned his gaze and threw a ball with a strong power, knocking out a man on the roof. The man didn't even notice that someone was there. Liu Di wasn't worried, explaining that they were just another hitman. The man wanted more specifics. After he had proven his excellence in all areas, he ordered him to publish an article about his defeat. He took out a black ring from his pocket, calling it a certification that only the best of the best can have. And I gave it to him as a gift. Hualong released a post that he was very impressed by the communication with Di San, so he admitted defeat. He said that there is still a lot of work waiting for the creator company, advising other internet companies to work hard on development and prepare for survival in the global market. There was a new business shark in the news, Di San. Mr. Yan had no doubt that he was a talented guy. He wrote to him, wanting to meet with him to discuss something. Liu Di immediately agreed. A car suddenly appeared on the road, which caused the driver and Mr. Yan to be surprised. They crashed right into the bus. Their car overturned. Only the injured arm was sticking out of the window. Liu Di was sitting at the table with Duan and Sake. The officers had already been interrogating him for 6 hours, and if it wasn't for Liu Di, they would have stayed even longer. There was a card in his hand, and I assumed it was his ID card, which 9 spades must have. Mo Tong explained that this card is a source of destructive power that is given to every thug, so they should study it. Liu Di asked them to borrow this evidence. Duan was surprised that he wanted to take the evidence. Now he was in his debt. Mo Tong suddenly reported Mr. Yan's accident. He jumped up, warning Duan of an accident. Then we went to Inji Hospital. They quickly ran to his room. Liu Di decided to send Duan first, wanting to talk to Yiwen first. He walked over to the drooping girl. He took the book from her hand. The girl gave him a murderous look. Liu Di scoffed, not expecting this from her. She waved him back. Yiwen was aggressive. Liu Di found out the information that she did not visit the orphanage for charity, but to pass on information to the killer. The girl frowned at his words. Liu Di also found out about her child, who was not from Fengyu. She clenched her teeth in anger, wondering how he knew. Liu Di gave her a chance to justify herself so that she could keep her life. Suddenly, the doctor reported the patient's brain dying, so urgent help is needed. Yiwen immediately ran into the room. They all stood over him, worried. He lay with his eyes closed, not moving. The twins begged to save their father. The doctor was going to collect information about Mr. Yang's brain activity so that he could think of a treatment plan. Liu Di asked for forecasts from Mo Tong, but he needed more time. He also clarified whether he found the information at his request. Liu Di asked the doctor for permission. He whispered a name to him, and Mr. Yan's heart started beating rapidly. The doctor thought it was a miracle. Shang Xing asked if they could save their father. Liu Di explained that a woman named Manhwa had arrived at the donor center to help them improve their condition. The twins thanked him for his help. Liu Di thought it was the right thing to do since Mr. Yan was helping him. His heart continued to beat steadily. Qingwen asked where Liu Di was when his father was involved in the accident. Duan didn't understand what she was talking about. She showed him the video of the accident. There was a guy in a shirt and blonde hair who looked like Liu Di, and she read their last message, where her father had offered to meet and talk. Duan had already investigated and confirmed an ordinary accident. Liu Di was sure that this was no ordinary accident, reminding him of the shirtless figure. His name was Chu Beiming. Yiwen recognized the name as she recalled the boy. Liu Di wanted to understand what he had forgotten at the scene of the accident, demanding an explanation from Yiwen. Everyone looked at her. The girl did not know anything at all, because they had not seen each other for a very long time. Liu Di realized that it was useless to wait for the truth after catching Beiming. But when he was about to leave, Yiwen stopped him. She claimed that Beiming had nothing to do with it. Liu Di knew that this wasn't true, knowing about the child she shared with him. Yiwen was shocked by his words. Liu Di knew how she hid it from her father, and the child fell into the hands of the reform organization. As long as they threatened her with a child, they forced them to become murderers to get rid of Mr. Yan. Yiwen didn't understand how he knew that. It was just a guess, but he was convinced by her reaction. And the task of killing Mr. Yan that Yiwen was given, he did it for her because she refused. The girl was taken aback, not knowing what to say. But Liu Di wasn't going to let Beiming go just like that. Yiwen reminded him that Beiming was much stronger than him, especially since she had a rank of a 7, and Liu Di had a maximum of a 9, so she wanted to beat her. Liu Di only advised me to do my duty to Elder Yan. He asked Mo Tong about Beiming's transformation level. Mo Tong explained that Liu Di was the first stage of the new humanity, and people are not like him, so it can be considered that he is in the sky and they are underground. Ludi himself was delighted with the amount of power. Then Mo Tong decided to optimize his strength. He offered to meet Bei Ming in person. He went straight to him. Ludi stared in surprise at the house that he hadn't seen before. A silhouette stood on the balcony. He leaped sharply. He jumped up on the roof. Bei Ming was standing in the bedroom, looking at the person in the bed. He sensed that Ludi had come, and since he had joined the Yan family, he was now his junior. Ludi crawled out from behind the curtain, surprised at his awareness. Bei Ming has heard about his intelligence, suggesting that we create a great cause together. But Ludi didn't think he deserved it. He was immediately angry at the rude words. Mo Tong said that Bei Ming could receive brainwaves at high frequencies, so it has the properties of hypnosis. Bei Ming wanted Ludi to forget about his ego, but Ludi wasn't going to do that, wanting to see the consequences. Bei Ming started hypnosis, intending to cover his brain with corrosion. Mo Tong talked about his technology to increase brain activity and asked him to stop to study. Ludi listened to him, watching carefully. Bei Ming was waiting for the result of his hypnosis. The door to the room opened. It was Yiwen, who was trying to calm her boyfriend down. He wanted to do this for the good of the child, worried that Liu Di might harm him. At this moment, the wall was smashed through by the goon. Yiwen immediately recognized the spy from Nine Spades. He chased her for 3 days, and she gave him a lot of surprises. Bei Ming immediately tried to hypnotize him. Thug appreciated his strength, but he wasn't afraid of it at all, kicking the floor. Ludi was displeased that he was preventing him from conducting the experiment. The goon promised to take care of it later. Mo Tong gave him 3 seconds to awaken his powers, but asked him to be careful. He immediately used it, starting to glow with yellow rays. Ludi jumped back, disappearing from the spot, and he hit the goon. The goon immediately fell to the floor. Mo Tong reported a lack of energy in his body, and he can't maintain the release of power. He was afraid that Liu Di wanted to fight Bei Ming, but that wasn't the case. Liu Di suggested that Bei Ming continue working on people's brains while he continued his research. Bei Ming immediately admitted that Yiwen didn't kill anyone by running after Liu Di. He met it with a fist in the stomach. It sent him flying off the balcony. Liu Di had no intention of letting him go so early. Suddenly, he was grabbed by the leg. It was the Mad Feng Yu who had accosted him. Liu Di kicked it away with 1 foot to make it fall behind. When he came out on the balcony, he saw Bei Ming jumping off into the distance. Mo Tong called him a ghost that can bypass any surveillance camera. Liu Di considered him a good opponent and wanted to catch up and master the first stage, martial consciousness. They went to the battle zone. Mo Tong returned after changing into his teacher's clothes. He had upgraded and was going to train him. Mo Tong said that if he wanted to master martial consciousness, he needed to pay attention to his body, and his physical condition wasn't suitable for such a transformation. Back then, Liu Di decided to start by changing his body. Mo Tong spoke about the metabolism that allows blood, skin, and organs to develop in the same rhythm. Liu Di asked for advice on how to speed up his metabolism. The first advice was to consume a large amount of food, the second, a wild expenditure of energy, and the third, strengthening the vigor of cells with the help of external forces. A food delivery service knocked on the door. Mo Tong ordered it because he was worried about him. At this time, 2 more tools were in the process of being produced. At this time, digestion improved, energy efficiency increased, and muscle metabolism increased. Liu Di started eating like a madman. Mo Tong reported that they released the suit with an electric pulse, which can help it consume more power. And then he showed me a water chamber, which increases cellular activity and accelerates metabolism and multiplies cells. Liu Di was extremely pleased. He immediately put on this suit. Mo Tong recalled that creating this costume was difficult. Liu Di wanted to show him people's abilities. He went to the bathroom in a suit and mask. Mo Tong estimated its endurance to be superior to 99% of the creatures on the planet. He was going to prepare enough ingredients for it to grow. The same courier who had already delivered 10 orders was constantly running up to the door. Duan went to the crime scene in the cave. It was Bei Ming who was killed, with injuries to his right chest and shoulder, fractures and bleeding. The employee reported that the wounds were inflicted 20 days ago, and he died only 3 days ago. Duan was still waiting for Liu Di, who had been gone for an hour, to arrive. Upon examination, it turned out that the body of the deceased suffered severe changes. Finally, Liu Di arrived. Duan asked him to examine the corpse, because they were going to arrest Bei Ming, but he died suddenly. Liu Di immediately found out that this was not Bei Ming, but a doppelganger who had been implanted with a voluntary consciousness. Duan sensed a bit of excitement from him. He thought it was because of his frequent exercise. Meanwhile, at the Enji hospital, Mr. Yan was still in the ward. The news was filled with his condition and how the Enji company started to lose stock dramatically. Meanwhile, in the company's conference room, the employees would turn to Qing Wen, handing over responsibility for her family and company to her. She had heard that everyone started selling shares at a cheap price to destroy the company, and demanded to trust her that she would be able to turn the situation in their favor. Someone else laughed at her. It was Feng Yu who didn't believe her words. She didn't know what he was doing here. Feng Yu told about his new position as head of mergers and acquisitions at Viet Biotech and wanted to buy up all their shares. He immediately submitted a contract for the purchase of shares in the company, waiting only for the signature. The men immediately started signing the papers. Qingwen begged him not to, but they all left her, jeering after her. Qingwen fell to her knees in frustration. They tried to support her, asking her not to despair. It was the butler, Alfred. He believed that there was still a chance, and he needed to raise money and buy up all the shares before Feng Yu beat them to it. Qingwen realized that he was right not to give up, but she needed the money. At that moment, the worried twins ran into the room. They reported that Feng Yu had taken over their house and chased them away. The news reported about the creator, who were at the peak of their earnings. She realized that Disan could help them. Ludi went to his company. I went into the office. He was met at the reception and informed about the meeting with Ajia. Ludi asked me to make an appointment, and if anything, send it straight to the office. The girl immediately accepted the order. The sisters ended up in his office. The reception desk informed them of Disan's presence, intending to escort them to the office. She escorted them to the office, not being allowed to go any further. Disan asked them to sit down. Qingwen began to explain her difficult situation, begging him to help her buy out the stake to keep it for her family. Ludi lit a cigarette and was not happy with her suggestion. She was trying to find a way to get help from him. Disan said about the document on the table, and if their answers satisfied him, he would help them. There were business questions about Inji on the paper, and Qingwen was surprised that the questions hit the mark. Ludi knew that the company would collapse if these problems were not addressed. The paper also included his email address and asked him to send the answers there before the transaction. They left his office. Qingwen noticed the similarity between their lighters and Liu Di's. After the meeting, they rode in the elevator. She guessed that Disan, Di, and Liu Di were the same person. The twins asked her about Disan's face. She said he was really beautiful. At that time, the little sisters asked them to take Disan and leave Liu Di and Di to them. The girl sighed heavily. Liu Di asked why Qingwen hadn't been implanted with a special consciousness like his. Modong explained that almost all Inji shareholders have the same personality, but Qingwen has two, and if she changes, the implanted consciousness will be ineffective. He started to dial the number, knowing that Bei Meng was extremely unlucky. The man on the other side was waiting for his instructions. Liu Di asked Hualong for a loan of money, which surprised him. He didn't want to get involved in a loan, so he decided to use a friendly loan on favorable terms. The man resigned himself, asking about the amount. Liu Di needed 260 billion. Hualong spat out the tea from this amount. He thought about it, asking about the time frame for the refund. Liu Di decided to postpone the discussion until the meeting. Hualong only asked for some time to collect the money. Then they said their goodbyes. He immediately demanded to withdraw money from the company's accounts, all deposits, reserves. The company was in chaos. 2 hours later, Hualong was sitting in his office discussing other matters. He received a letter to the post office. This company has collected the required amount. Hualong wondered what he wanted in return. In the meantime, the stock exchange was selling shares. Qingwen sat nervously, worried about her company. Feng Yu only laughed at the situation. Kai Kai was waiting for her sister to come up with a plan, since Disan didn't like their answers. Qingwen wanted to make a decision on the spot. The host announced an auction for half of Inji's shares. He hit the hammer, which announced the beginning. Feng Yu was sure that they would make a lot of money this time. The guy raised his hand, but a notification came about a successful online auction. The host hit the hammer, announcing a successful auction and the winner. Mr. Liu Di bought the shares. At this moment, he opened the door, demanding congratulations for the purchase. The twins were happy to see him. The guy demanded to expel him because he has no right to enter the auction. But the guards didn't have the authority to kick him out. He took the cube out of his pocket. The room fell silent. Feng Yu realized that they were out of luck this time. People didn't understand what they were doing here. Liu Di had declared himself a major shareholder in Inji, and now he was the one making the decisions for it. The host announced the winner that he was able to buy up the shares in less than a second. Qingwen thanked him, intending to find the money and buy back the shares from him. But Liu Di did not intend to sell the company, but guaranteed that the Yan family would stay in it. She didn't know what he was doing. Liu Di only forced her to listen to his orders. First, he ordered Feng Yu to be sent to jail, and then informed the company's top management about the meeting in an hour. From Qingwen, he demanded a plan to restructure the company's policy. He went to Inji's. When the elevator door opened, he was met with insults. It was Chen Chen, who hadn't seen him in a very long time. She immediately snuggled into his arms, thinking that he missed her too. But he was trying to get away from her with his own business, trying to get away. Chen Kan informed her that a new boss was coming to the office today, and Qing Wen should be happy to see him. He closed the office doors. The entire council was seated at the table. Qing Wen greeted the new owner of the company. Everyone applauded him. Chen Chen saw this and couldn't believe it. Qing Wen handed him the new plan as he requested, but Liu Di immediately rated it as the worst grade. Qing Wen was furious because they were wasting a lot of time on this plan. Liu Di didn't change his mind. She reminded him that he wasn't doing anything, just watching, so there was no point in his presence. Liu Di reminded her why he had helped her at the last minute. Qing Wen lowered her eyes. He explained that he had seen her despair and that it could help her grow as a person. Liu Di announced 2 pieces of news. He would only be managing 1 project, and Qing Wen was the new chairman of the company, taking full responsibility. He asked them to remember to rely only on good news. And I didn't want to get calls without positive news. Everyone was very inspired by his words. Qing Wen couldn't believe it, and Liu Di just left. But then she thanked him for everything. A whole month has passed. Liu Di was standing on his hands on the roof of the sphere. Motong was impressed by his strength, which he didn't expect. His body was proof of his tenacity. The release of his consciousness had already reached 75%, which was incredible. Drones equipped with air cannons flew over it, and their shots, less than 50 meters away, can cause a person to lose consciousness. He got to his feet, and I decided to get ready to go. The drones continued to fly over it. Motong wanted to hear his body sensations. Liu Di felt a slight numbness on his skin, but nothing else. This was only before the first crisis, and it will not have a target before the threat. The drone suddenly fired. Liu Di immediately felt it. The drone hit him in the arm while he was trying to cover himself. Motong knew that as the strength increased, so did the resistance to pain. He felt that he needed to be more careful. He felt as if his body couldn't keep up with his thoughts and he wasn't in control. Motong explained the presence of leather armor. He was in awe of his abilities. If he gets rid of the armor, he will become even stronger, and no one can compare to him. But to release his battle consciousness, he needs to get into danger and participate in a real battle. He saw washed-out scenes appear in his mind's eye, followed by bright lights. Motong realized that he could sense the future of humanity because it was equivalent to a new coming. He wondered what changed people so much. Motong spoke about the product that helps humanity go against the current, stimulates growth, and violates the laws of evolution. Liu Di assumed that there were other new people besides him, but one of them only appeared in 2,000 years, and the chosen one should participate in the evolution of the world. And its mission was to increase the technological dimension of the entire world. Liu Di did not expect the title Chosen One. The sun was setting brightly in the sunset. Another 2 months passed. He was sitting on a sphere, and Motong didn't expect such a rapid development. His body refinement had reached almost 100%. With his eyes closed, he could feel the mosquito flying towards his hand. He swatted it down in one sharp motion. Motong reported that his fan was in trouble. And an hour ago, there was a violent brawl in the best nightclub in Shanghai. Liu Di was already itching to try out his new body. Motong didn't allow him to get involved because the fight involved an ordinary brat who wouldn't help them. But it was better than nothing. Meanwhile, in a small town in Texas, the man sat down at the typewriter. I started writing a letter to my friend. At this moment, he was informed of some bad news. He demanded to explain everything slowly and clearly. Their agent K was imprisoned in Huaxia prison and put away by Dai San, who was considered one of the reformers. The old man demanded to come over. The man agreed with a smile. But as he approached, a pool of blood appeared. It was the old man who shot him with a revolver because you couldn't go near him. He was informed that the check of documents for entry to China was relaxed, and it is possible to come there. He wrote ordering them to kill him, and I shot my monitor. There was a news item about a list of poker club deaths. He cursed Dai San for killing his children, intending to destroy him. Meanwhile, in the conference room, An Hu was sitting with his arm in a cast. The guy tried to explain that it was necessary to take revenge on people who just broke in. At that moment, his phone rang. He was immediately informed that the same people had made a rout elsewhere, injuring the third boss, Men. He was furious that they dared to attack them. The man tried to force him to listen to the advice and give these people the territory. He stood up, bursting with anger, because it was a complete mess. He ordered the brothers to mobilize their forces to kill them today. The boys were ready to follow him and fight together. An Hu appealed to Lady Nan, suggesting that only male strength should be used. He asked her to pack up her things and go home without coming back here. She wanted to fight together and die together. An unknown person appeared in the doorway, not understanding the dialogues about death. It was Liu Di, who just wanted to punish everyone as they deserved. An Hu begged him to make the decision for them. They reported that a gang of unknown people had appeared in Shanghai and were making a mess. Ludi took out a cigarette from the pack. Mrs. Nan set it on fire again with her lighter. There was a bleeding wound on her cheek. He noticed her immediately, and he asked who would dare to do such a thing. She didn't see anything wrong with it. It was just a scratch. Anhu continued to talk about the Raging Dragons, which is led by 3 brothers. The second and third were martial artists, and the older one never showed his face. The system gave out information about Chang Lon, Chang Hu, and Chang Liu. Zhang Long recently returned from overseas and was given an A rank of 5. Ludi was unwilling to let them harm their people. He asked again who dared to harm Lady Nan. They were both silent as the girl averted her gaze. And Hu admitted that it was done by Chang Bao, the 3rd leader of the clan. Back then, Ludi decided to deal with him first. Mrs. Nan asked him not to go there because it would ruin his reputation, but he didn't want to put up with her being bullied. She hadn't expected this from him. Liudi dipped a cotton swab in the disinfectant. He gently treated her scratch. Everyone was delighted with their relationship. Then they gathered and went into battle. They came to the massage parlor. The guy reported a difficult situation because Chang Bao came here with 30 henchmen. Ludi demanded to wait. The boys insisted on going with him, not wanting to let him go alone. But Ludi went inside alone. Lady Nan didn't know if he could handle it on his own, but Anhu promised to come to the rescue if anything happened. A second later, Chang Bao was knocked out on the floor in front of them. They recognized him immediately. Ludi immediately reported back, ordering them to pick him up. Everyone was in shock, admiring him. He started to walk away as the boys chased after Chang Bao. He was captured, didn't understand where Liu Di came from, and interfered with his massage. Ludi just didn't want to waste any time. He began to threaten his brothers that they would come for revenge, but he wasn't going to die before they did. Enhu ordered them to call their brothers to come to the abandoned stadium in the evening and fight to the death. Chang Bao was acting up, predicting that his brothers would beat them. Enhu kicked him, reminding him that they were the He Li clan, so they weren't afraid of people like him. Evening came. The 2 gangs met. Ludi was sitting on a chair with Chang Bao tied up next to him. The man demanded to let him go without a fight. Anhu was offended that only Chang Lung came to the meeting without his brother. Ludi was smoking quietly next to Lady Nan. Someone was watching them from the building. The man predicted that the He Li gang would end today. The other one had heard about DR's boss, who was doing a good job. He asked him not to take it seriously because they have a big difference in numbers. Ludi told Anhu to continue fighting even if he fell off his feet. He didn't know what to say to that. He handed Lady Nan a black armband. Mrs. Nan didn't understand what was going on, and Liu Di was about to go into battle. He tied the blindfold around his eyes. One of the brothers said that if he didn't die, he would become a hero. Here he was, standing alone in front of a huge enemy crowd. Liu Di was satisfied that as many as 600 bandits with leveled-up strength had come here, which was a great opportunity to level up. They rushed at him in a crowd. Liu Di pushed off with 1 foot. I ran at them, too. The men were serious, holding weapons in their hands. He punched one in the face, frustrated at their slow speed. Motong was delighted with the speed of neural communication, which reached 240%. He took down a whole crowd with a single blow. He unleashed his potential by releasing energy. His fists multiplied several times as he threw punches. The bandits flew away one by one. Finally, all the bandits fell down at once. He heard a gunshot from afar. He managed to dodge the bullet with a single movement of his head. After that, he instantly disappeared from the place. The sniper couldn't find him, but he was already behind him, attacking. He pressed his head down, intending to guide him on the right path. Ludi took off the blindfold and his metabolic rate reached 100%, and he once again improved himself. The man realized that there was a new leader in the Shanghai underworld. Mrs. Nan came running over, looking pleased that she thought this was the breakthrough of the He Li gang. Ludi explained that he did this to train his skills and for the sake of demonstrating the consequences. She blushed, thanking him for his help. The battle was officially over, and the main gang of the city was defeated by Mr. Liu Di. Everyone was shouting in support of the leader. Meanwhile, in Duan's office, he was evaluating the capabilities of Dar, who was dubbed the god of street warfare. Duan admired his blind fight against the crowd. And I wanted to watch the video, but there was a glitch, so all the cameras were broken. But all the participants were injured, and one even died. Duan didn't understand what Liu Di was trying to achieve and demanded that the car be prepared. He drove up to his apartment. He knocked on the door. Liu Di opened the door for him. He addressed him by the name of DR, but Liu Di pretended that he was mistaken. Duan recalled that he was Liu Di, the boss of the creator company, but it was interesting how he managed to become a mafia boss. Liu Di continued to pretend that he didn't know anything. Duan reminded him of his heroic act last night when he had given the order to stop the investigation of that fight demanding Dar's gratitude. Ludi stared at him, silently chewing on an apple. He imagined that if he were Dar, he would help his benefactor investigate the smuggling case. I asked him to find out the details of the case, but Ludi immediately refused, especially since he is not Dar. Dunn thought that Dar didn't have a girlfriend, which offended Ludi. He showed a picture of a certain girl on his phone. Ludi suggested that he open a marriage agency when he retired. Duan was about to leave, but he reminded her once again that kindness comes at a price. Ludi explained that if he was Dar, he would take care of things and then help him with the human traffickers. Duan laughed, taking the hint. He told me about a certain gift. Duan was also interested. Ludi reminded him of the international assassin. Duan immediately frowned, wanting to know its location. At that moment, his car started to drive away abruptly. The two of them charged at her. They jumped right in front of the car. Yudi kicked through the windshield. Then the car stopped abruptly, and the driver's door was kicked out. The angry guy got out of the car. Immediately behind him was Ludi, who hit him with all his strength. He fell unconscious to the ground. From his bag, he took out a map. Duan wanted to know his transformation level. Ludi grinned, not expecting Duan to want to give him a title. But there wasn't such a high rank in their rank system. Ludi wanted to get at least a medal for stopping a dangerous attack. Duan asked if he wanted to go to the assassin's lair, offering to send a couple more people with him. But I immediately changed my mind, not wanting to let him go with his men. Ludi asked that a couple of experts be sent to his lab to help him. Duan thought that he had received someone else's inheritance, since he could make discoveries in the transformation of the human body. Yudi could raise his soldiers to A-level 7 in just a month, which would help them take out the other gangs. This idea immediately attracted the general. Ludi offered to make a deal and ended the dialogue, but Duan still didn't think to let him go. Ludi was going to join the Li gang, promising to cause more trouble. The general remembered his words when he had denied any connection with Dar, but he's willing to make a deal when he finds proof to do so. He went to a nightclub. The gang had been waiting for the chapter for a very long time. He was informed that the boss of the Li clan had locked himself in the study, and his condition was unknown. Yudi immediately rushed there. He opened the door with a single kick. There were Li's men lying around, and a fat man was sitting at the table. The girl next to him was choking on Hu. Lady Nan was standing in the back with her hands tied. Ludi didn't understand what was going on. The girl threw the soulless An Hu to the ground. The fat man had been waiting for him to appear for a very long time. He wanted to kill them all, telling them not to stop. Luchi gave an order to Xiaochong. Fat man didn't know what he was talking about until the girl was already holding onto his head. She spun his neck around, causing him to fall to the floor. Xiaochong tried to explain that she only worked for them because they wanted to know about him. Ludi didn't blame her because they were lying people. Later, at the headquarters of the Li gang, men were walking there with suitcases. They started walking into the room. There was Chang Bao tied up and a fat man on the floor. The man was delighted with DR's intelligence for taking out 2 clan bosses without evidence. Ludi asked them not to worry because another guest would be arriving soon. The guy reported that Chang Lung had arrived here. The men were shocked by the news. 2 masked men appeared in front of them. They were people from the Quan gang who, at the request of their master, sent Aru congratulatory gifts. They pushed the wheelchair toward him. Under the red blanket was a ram's head. In the opinion of their boss, fresh game goes well to the table. Xiaochong abruptly pulled away and knocked out 2 guys at once. They immediately fell to the ground. Ludi was horrified by their arrogance, wanting to teach them a lesson. One of the windows shattered abruptly. A huge crowd stared at him. It was Chang Lung who was looking for Diara, intending to deal with him on the spot. Everyone was looking at him in panic. Xiaochong tried to hit him from behind, but he hit her first, not afraid to kill her. She managed to land. Ludi asked her to rest. Moteng explained about Chang Lung's subconscious power, which had already reached level A10. Back then, it wasn't surprising that Xiaochong had suffered so much. He didn't want to hurt them, but they're too infuriating. Chang Lung scoffed at his words. I lunged at him, wanting to kill him. Ludi wanted to watch his attempts. With just a flick, he flipped it away. Chang Lung landed on the furniture. He sat on the floor while Ludi demanded to get up. He tried to convey to them that if they harmed him or his team, he would pay them back tenfold. All 3 of them were now kneeling in front of him. Mo Tong reported that his hypnosis skills with sound hallucinations had achieved the effect of Bei Ming's hypnosis. Ludi decided to give it a try right away. He clicked his ballpoint pen. He turned to Chang Lung. He stared at him with glassy eyes. Ludi wanted to know if he had seen Bei Ming. It turned out that Bei Ming was their leader, and Chang Lung was willing to give his life for him. This was the pavilion of Bei Ming, who creates godlike people. Ludi asked Mo Tong to see if Chang Lung was communicating with Jing Sheng, the chairman of the board of directors. Motong found out that they go to the same church once every 5 days. He looked down. I saw the ring on his finger. He remembered Hualun's words about the key to the highest circle. Duan arrived, marveling at Liu Di's quick work. He had a child abduction case in his hands. Unfortunately, this was just the tip of the criminal iceberg. He was informed about a new case in the underworld, as many gangs abruptly began to close their businesses. Duan asked about his next move. There were rumors that a new serious business would soon open: hotels, restaurants, shops, and high technologies. Duan was interested in the words about high technology, doubting that such people could even read. According to sources, all decisions in the criminal world were made only by DR. Duan did not rule this out, suggesting that they no longer monitor the criminal world because it is not their business. He asked where Mrs. Fei was now. The employee told how she has been having fun and burning out her life since she arrived in Shanghai. Meanwhile, Wang Ke's Shuriti in Wan Hall at the coffee shop, the waitress put a cappuccino on the table. Liu Di thanked her, and I was drinking coffee next to the big temple. At this moment, a bell rang there, and Liu Di started to approach the gate with guards. One of them immediately demanded a pass from them. Liu Di showed the ring on his finger with a smile. They immediately greeted him, asking him to leave communications equipment at the entrance and pass the Eye of Fate check. It was a pupil scanning device that gave recognition information about club members, and Mo Tong decided to substitute Chang Lung's information for Liu Di's. Eye of Destiny called him God's child, inviting him to participate. The guards also greeted him. Liu Di noticed that this Beihei organization is very strict in protecting the building and the identity of the visitors. When he walked into the hall, there was a crowd of people who were wearing black cloaks, holding out a similar one to Liu Di. The man began the ritual, informing them about the mission to preach their teachings. Liu Di appreciated their strength after hearing about the Northern Darkness Pavilion. The man asked people to tell about the progress of their mission. One of them reported to the messenger that preparations were well underway. Mo Tong gave Liu Di his biography, and it was the president of the North China Bank. He was informed that 12 publishers were ready to cooperate with them. Another said that he sent 3 followers to the army, and soon there will be discord and chaos among the soldiers. One of them suspended the acquisition of a medical company, so he begged him to give him another chance. Liu Di immediately recognized Jing Sheng, the chairman of the board of directors. The messenger was sure that he was a broad-minded person and decided to cancel his punishment too, and just warn him. He ordered them to prepare for the opening of their northern temple. Liu Di was interested in their game, where everyone goes about their own business, but supports one goal. He suddenly took off his cloak and went on stage to meet the messenger. Liu Di started clicking on the pen, mesmerizing the crowd and pretending to be the god of the great realm, while Bei Ming was just his subordinate. All the people started bowing to him. Motong was satisfied with his hypnosis. Liu Di granted them all the status of messengers, and they are bound to pursue the god of the north. But in order not to distract the northern god Bei Ming, they are not allowed to inform about the meeting. From now on, all the worshippers in the temple will have to obey Liu Di. They listened to him unreservedly, wanting to know the name of their new god. Liu Di introduced himself as Di Wu, and now they obey his orders. Motong was terribly proud of him. Liu Di was also satisfied with their work. He went home. Liu Di was sitting in the lotus position. Motong spoke about the first stage of the new man, the liberation of combat consciousness. Although Liu Di was physically stronger than most people, Bei Ming's abilities were exceptional. Motong informed him about the second stage of the new man, limited release. But to do this, he will need to update the modifications, and after the analysis, change his gene. Liu Di wanted to perfect his genes. Motong thought this was the best solution. The food delivery service knocked on the door again. The courier gave him a drink as a compliment, but Liu Di suddenly kicked him in the stomach, and I appreciated the killer's good Chinese. But it was too banal a method, and Liu Di immediately revealed it. The courier was lying on the ground with a cup in his mouth. A guy with a bat appeared on his doorstep. He recently joined a poker club and would like to compete with the strongest players. Liu Di had too much to do to toy with him. Motong said that the guy is at least level 8, but he has a sixth sense. So he walked past him to the car. The boy gritted his teeth in anger, wanting to fight Disan. Liu Di suggested that he defeat his brother first. He went to the Hengjiang River. There was an event at the club. Liu Di drove up there in a car. The girls were immediately dissatisfied with his appearance. The security guard stopped him, telling him that people with a capital of at least 300 million can enter the club. Liu Di handed them a card to check his capital. It showed hundreds of billions of dollars, which caused the guard to panic and immediately apologize. He let him go straight to the club. A singer was singing on the stage and people were sitting around behind sofas. She performed her own songs. Liu Di was already sitting on the bar drinking a cocktail, but he missed Ajia's company. At this moment, he was called out from the side. It was the singer from the stage who was immediately hooked by Liu Di's appearance, so she introduced herself as Yu Fi. He introduced himself in response and wanted to tell me how he earns money. He said he was a programmer and a gangster. Yu Fi revealed that after arriving in China, she fell in love with the artist Di Yi and now met Liu Di. Everyone watched them leave together, envious of this loser. When they left the club, they were met by an unknown person. It was a man with his own guards who considered Yu Fi his woman. She thought that he would become a hero and save her, but Liu Di left them to her. Liu Di quickly ran away. Later, he hit the guy against the wall, causing him to bleed. A crowd of battered guys lay nearby. He watched on the system as Yu Fi beat up her abusers. So he went back. Yu Fi pretended that the boys had left peacefully. Liu Di didn't believe it, but he was surprised. He confessed that he needed to deal with several murderers. Yu Fi admired his strength and courage, but initially she thought that he was scared and ran away. Then she offered to return home. As they approached her car, Liu Di was surprised. She gave him permission to ride it. Moding said that the girl was extremely rich, and her family is one of the oldest business families in Europe. They drove quickly through the mountainous terrain. The girl was enjoying a dashing ride. Finally, they arrived at a luxury hotel. Yu Fi told them about the presidential suite where they could go up and have a drink together. Liu Di decided to politely refuse her because he was on his own and it was time for him to go. This really upset the girl, and she really wanted to meet him tomorrow and spend time with him. Liu Di immediately agreed. He went about his business. At that moment, he received a notification. It was Yu Fi showing him her new pajamas. Motung was surprised by her nature, but Liu Di found it indecent. The day came. Disciple Liu Di and that guy were fighting in hand-to-hand combat. Liu Di praised them for their work, but by the look of it, he was very annoyed by what he saw. Xiaoxia was very interested in fighting him, and Kun Sen was delighted with this kid's strength, wanting to defeat him. Liu Di suggested that they stop by the office if they were suddenly hungry. They continued to fight in the forest. Motong reported that Kun San had a new stroke awakened, and his new consciousness would soon wake up. Although Xiaoxia didn't have any special abilities, Kun San still can't beat him. The next day came. Kun San was sitting in the forest, having breakfast. Next to him, Xiaoxia was oiling his iron hand. Liu Di ordered them to get up, offering them something to eat when they were tired. He opened the bag, which contained a pile of miscellaneous food. They immediately started eating everything greedily. Liu Di still had things to do, so he decided to leave. Kun San announced that their duel with Xiaoxia would take place in the evening. Liu Di drove up to a luxury hotel. Yu Fi got in. She wanted to know how to get attention from him. Modong had told him about her energy that allowed her to seduce anyone, and he could feel Liu Di's pulse quicken. He cleared his throat nervously. Yu Fi was more interested in finding out for herself, but she asked if he liked girls who worked with the mafia. Liu Di didn't hesitate to give a positive answer. Then she decided to stop by the Quang clan, wanting to see her old friends. Because of her abrupt embrace, the car frolicked on the road. After a while, they arrived at the clan. Yu Fi asked him to follow her. She abruptly opened the office door. There were a bunch of battered guys sitting there. Yu Fi clarified where their boss was, but according to the guys, their boss was defeated by a real demon. The girl was disappointed in Changlong. One of the guys started pestering her, offering to deal with the offenders and then celebrate their success. Liu Di called out behind him. Suddenly, they recognized him because he was the one who overthrew their boss. So everyone started running away from him right away. She didn't understand why he was called that, so Liu Di decided not to tell her. Yu Fi didn't believe him and went to fix her makeup. She went to the ladies' room. Then she started typing abruptly. Yu Fi demanded help, throwing off Liu Di's photo to get information about him. Liu Di's car was driving on a winding road. Modong reported that Yu Fi's people were looking for information about him. Liu Di wanted to get help from him to fake an identity. She received a message that it was a simple civilian from China and an employee of Inji, but Yu Fi still wanted it at all costs. Yu Fi decided to go to the biggest gang in Shanghai, since the Quang clan had fallen. He dropped the girl off and went to park. The girl came into the room. At the reception desk, she was asked for her name, as if she was at a job interview. But Yu Fi wanted to see their boss right away. The guy at the front desk was ready to see her off. It was a huge honor for the man to meet them, wanting to hire her. Therefore, I was immediately ready to appoint her to the position. But Liu Di appeared in the doorway. I asked him to keep quiet. The man appointed her lobby manager. Yu Fi held his hand as she prepared to attend to other matters. They went to the Wing 10 building. Yu Fi knew that they were leading the international market and asked for their help in finding children. Ah Jia felt that this was the beginning of a huge project, but suggested that he go to the hospital or the police first. But Yu Fi was willing to entrust such a matter to close friends. Liu Di and Ah Jia exchanged glances. He only asked her for 2 hours. Yu Fi thanked Liu Di for accompanying her. She asked if he liked female police officers, but Liu Di only wished her luck. Yufi was sure that he was already infatuated with her, and the car started to drive away. She received a message that in 3 days the ghost-eating children will be caught. Mo Tong didn't believe that he didn't want to help catch her, but Liu Di wasn't interested in her work. The next day came. Kun San offered them a truce to conserve their strength. He wanted to get rid of those useless bastards first, so that he could prove his ability to compete with Di San. Liu Di felt that he wanted to say something. Kun San reminded me that 26 hitmen from the poker club are going to execute the death sentence at midnight today. He didn't want to talk about it, knowing that he would want to do it all alone. Liu Di said that the killers will be 27 men and 3 women, and they're all hiding around right now. And 2 of them are in the bushes. Kun San was convinced of his super consciousness. Liu Di decided to finally give him a chance to compete with him. Kun San realized that he wanted to compare the number of people killed. At this moment, Xiaoxia gave him a certain bracelet. These were new technologies with a built-in screen. Yufi received a message that they should contact the Special Forces team to avoid terrible consequences because a large number of reformers appeared in the city. She immediately asked Captain Duan to take security measures, but he had a trump card up his sleeve, Zun Sheng. Duan demanded that many police cars and ambulances be prepared and that 30 solitary confinement cells be released to meet with foreign friends. He asked Yufi to forget about worrying, wanting to do everything possible to catch the kidnappers. Yufi believed that his negligence would lead to disaster, but Duan felt lucky tonight. Feng Yu was lying on a waterbed with the girls, wanting to kill one lying rat. The girls started praising his physical fitness. He felt like a god among his people. Someone was watching them from the roof. It was Liu Di, who leapt towards them like a bullet. Feng Yu immediately sensed it. But before he could, Liu Di fell into the pool with an incredible force that pushed everyone away. Feng Yu fainted while lying in the pool. Liu Di solved another poker club problem. Kun San quickly jumped on the rooftops with a bat in his hands. He swung at one of the cars. With one blow, he smashed through the roof of the car. Then he dealt with one of the problems. Suddenly, he realized that Di San was very fast at his job, and he didn't have much time left. He threw a grenade in one direction, and he blew up one side of the house. Kun San was satisfied that he had solved another problem. But he got a call right away, because grenades were strictly forbidden in the city, and now he has to pay the bills of the innocent. 20 minutes later, an ambulance arrived at the house. Duan watched as people were carried into the car on stretchers. Yufi noticed that 26 people were injured, and they were all A-level reformers. It turned out that they weren't as good as they thought they would be, but there were still 4 B-level reformers left who hadn't been seen yet. She wondered if their god could handle it. Duan asked her if she knew what level this god was on. Then he squatted down to show them clearly. He demonstrated that his strength was at the 7th level. They were roasting vegetables and sweets over a campfire. It was Liu Di and Xiaoxia who were sitting in the mountain area by the campfire. The boy felt that Kun San was injured. Liu Di assured him otherwise because his heart was just broken. He ensured that the person he killed didn't have a tattoo on his arm. Kun San decided to drink to their desperate desire to please their master. Liu Di asked what exactly he knew about the poker club. He realized that Liu Di wanted to know more about them and told how he had followed their participants. And it turned out that their headquarters were located in the state of Texas. For Liu Di, this was enough information. Mo Tong was going to do the rest of the work. Kun San advised him to think of a way to escape the poker club's death sentence, since they still hadn't met the aces and the 2 strongest jokers. Xiaoxia started hiccuping from the alcohol, assuring that Di San would be able to kill them all in peace. Liu Di was sure that they would meet them very soon. Kun San suggested to prepare for the meeting, but Liu Di already had an idea. Xiaoxia fiercely gripped the bottle in his hands, causing it to crack. Mo Tong abruptly reported about the awakening of an unknown force and the presence of a special gene. Kun San didn't understand what he was turning into. Liu Di hit him on the back of the head to make him fall asleep and not harm anyone. A crowd of people stood at the edge of the hill. It was one of the heads of the poker club. The 3 twins reported that they were the only ones left, but the man considered them even superfluous, wanting to deal with him alone. They promised to kill Di San's receivers when the boss got rid of him. After a while, they reached the same bonfire. Standing next to them were Liu Di and Kun San. The guys took deuce of diamonds for a traitor who sided with the target, wanting to end his career today. He asked Wujia to kill Di San, intending to help only after dealing with the deuce of diamonds. Wujia threatened Liu Di with his sharp sword. He used a certain spell, and there were many copies of Wujia that pounced on him. The system detected the use of amphetamine, starting the neutralization of the substance. Wujia had a poisonous fog in his body, which can cause hallucinations. Liu Di was very bored fighting such a banal opponent, and his voice was mutated, which led to an auditory resonance. He found them very boring and asked what was up with these guys. Motong reported that they are connected to each other and can control a common magnetic field. All the guys started casting spells against Kun-san's attacker, but he cut off the spell with the bat, and he rushed towards them, wanting to kill them. He struck out, but a dome-shaped shield formed around them. They wanted to see if he had any abilities. Xiaoxia's hand stretched out and shook. He began casting spells, sending metal into them. The guys couldn't figure out what exactly was going on, but their shield was abruptly torn apart, and Xiaoxia threw a powerful punch at them. Kun-san couldn't believe his eyes that he had solved the riddle of the chain bridge. Xiaoxia gave him a threatening look, suggesting that he fight again. Kun-san tried to calm him down by refusing, but he made a mad dash for it, suggesting a duel. Kun-san was able to defend against his bat strike without understanding what had come over him. They continued to fight each other. Ludi was happy with Xiaoxia's result, and Mo Tong warned that Kun-san would need to rest soon. There was a step behind him. It was Wu Jia who swung his sword at him, trying to kill him. Ludi lightly gripped the blade in his hands, completely forgetting about it. The blade cracked from his grip into small pieces, and a second later he punched him in the face, offering to try his own hallucinogens. Wu Jia fell to the ground with a fit and foaming at the mouth. Kun-san kept running away from Xiaoxia, screaming in fear. Ludi offered him his candidacy for the fight. He was happy with his suggestion. Kun-san immediately warned him that the boy wasn't the same as before. Xiaoxia lunged at Ludi. He couldn't believe that a great man would be killed by his own drunken brother. But Ludi defended against his punch with his hand. He asked him to try harder. Xiaoxia was only amused by this and he swung it. But Ludi jumped back, dodging the powerful blow. Ludi noticed that his strength had gone from level A7 to at least B4 in just one go. Xiaoxia was lying on the ground, fast asleep. Kun-san sat in terror by the fire, not understanding what was wrong with these people. Ludi called him over because he still needed to check his strength level. He was afraid of accidentally injuring Ludi. It was very hard for him, so he handed him a pack of cards. Ludi was shocked, not understanding what he had to do with the deuce of diamonds. He confessed that his wife was a member of the poker club and was a deuce of diamonds, but is now dead because of the Joker. Now it was clear that he had challenged the killers to avenge his wife. Ludi was going to take him to meet Master Tuo. Kun-san didn't know how strong Master Tuo was, but he taught them with his brother, so he wanted to show it off. Kun-san didn't know if he could become as strong as them. There were black cards on the table. Moding said that the black substance in the blood allows the poker club to identify its teammates, and Ludi asked. Motong asked for time to check. An hour later, a flask of the substance was in his hands. It was a metal substance that was extracted from an illegal mine in North Africa. This substance had very active atoms, and they had both positive and negative charges. It could transform into any shape, but it could also be all-pervading, like water. Ludi understood why Yan and Rose gloves were so sharp. It was a very valuable coating substance because it was almost unkillable. Ludi asked me to find the time to purchase that mine in North Africa. Motong accepted his order. He said that the chain bridge has a special chain that allows it to control the magnetic field. But the problem was that such genes are difficult to recreate, and first you need to save their code. And after the second stage of the new humanity, he will be able to break through the program. Ludi realized that he might also have the chain bridge genes. Motong suggested that he collect the top-ranked B genes to get all their abilities. Now it was clear why new people should not be envious of simple human abilities. Some time passed. Yufei informed the captain about several bloody murders, after which they received messages and suggested that they mentally prepare because the killers were not easy to deal with. Duan thought that this guy would be extremely valuable for their experiments. The boys were lying unconscious. Next to the sleeping Xiaoxia, the upside-down Kun-san did 2,000 push-ups on his hands. Yufei didn't believe that this was really happening. Duan was delighted with this guy's abilities, wanting to take him away and study his abilities. He ordered the soldiers to deal with them. Meanwhile, in the state of Texas, he was informed that 30 of his dispatched assassins had been killed or arrested. The old man was in shock, not understanding how this had happened. He took 2 pills from the jar. I drank them straight away. He wrote a letter begging for attention to his company, wanting to bring new blood to the poker club. He was promised to talk to the team members, but first they need to contact the 2 jokers. One of them was an out-of-control psychopath, and the other was a natural killer. He was sure that Disan wouldn't find them, and they still had time to deal with him. At the same time in Texas, the man was asking about the situation. The captain was informed that their system had been taken under control, and now all operations were invalid. It was a hack by hackers, and they had a surveillance system installed with a wireless transmitter range. It turned out that the hacker left them a message so that they would not panic and deal with the system. The captain asked everyone to check out a hacker named DC. After 5 minutes, the system removed the system restriction. He wrote them a thank you note on the screen, Programmers reported that the hacker was no longer in the system and control was back in their hands. At that moment, the phone received a call. The commander was informed that they were lucky because otherwise they could have been killed. The captain was ready to take all the punishments and find the hacker. He was informed that it was the same Chinese hacker. The programmer was ready to do anything at the request of the captain. The boss has assembled 168 of the best hackers in the world to attack the Chinese network. He believed that DC would take action if he had a national spirit. The captain was prepared to arrest the hacker when his location was revealed. Duan admired Yufi because she was able to quickly become the leader of the Haley group. This was only part of her mission, as the Child Eater case is well underway. It was extremely difficult to find him, but Duan was willing to put his men up to protect her. After the meeting, her car quickly left. A silhouette stood on the roof. Duan knew that he was secretly helping her. Yufi drove up to the social care center, realizing that it was being used as a cover. Ludi was standing behind her. She didn't expect him to be with her, but he decided to go along. Yufi admitted that she is an undercover agent and it can be dangerous. But in his presence, the danger was zero. Yufi was charmed by his boldness, but this wasn't the time for exploits. She ordered him to get out of here right away while she finished the mission. The door of the shelter opened and a man stood behind it. The man was very happy to meet Yufi, but according to their agreement, she was supposed to come alone. He understood that such a girl should always be with a guard, inviting her to come in. Then she still decided to take it with her. Yufi sat down on the sofa. The door to the room opened and the girl who was called the Child Eater appeared behind it. They couldn't believe it was a woman. The girl sat down opposite, considering it an honor to work with such people. She handed him the folder of documents she had requested. She was very interested in working with the influential Haley gang. But as she wanted to know their true identity, her eyes glowed with a fierce light. Yufi didn't understand why she was asking such strange questions. She knew that Yufi was also an officer, but she was curious about her position in the Special Operations Group. The girl snapped her fingers, and the guards suddenly pointed their guns at them. Yufi was stunned with fear and surprise. The Child Eater advised to think before making decisions, because 4 shotguns were pointed at them. And even if they are reformers, for any movement, they are finished. Yufi was starting to get nervous that Liu Di would get hurt because of her. Finally, it was his turn. The girl introduced herself as Hong Ying, and she had heard a lot about Mr. Dr. Yufi turned to look at him nervously. Liu Di didn't even know about his popularity, since he is known even in Japan. Hong Ying had known about it for a long time, and she was finally convinced that it really existed. Liu Di sat down next to Yufi. She apologized to him for being incompetent, but she didn't have any information about Yufi, so she wanted to know if she was a police officer or an undercover agent. Liu Di clarified where they had moved the goods that he had recently sent them. Hong Ying understood everything, considering him to be a real talent. She knew how he had announced the purge of the Haley gang, and now he was in business. Liu Di was filled with rage, repeating his question once more. Hong Ying became nervous and reported that they had sent all the goods to the Binnenberg Medical School in Europe. This information was enough for Liu Di, and he suddenly threw a lighter. It immediately exploded in the air, and the guards' faces were hit by a bullet. He slapped Hong Ying across the face. Yufi was trying to figure out what was going on here. He introduced himself as Dr. At first, she didn't believe it, because she had already studied his biography. Liu Di was sure that she would only see what he wanted. With one hand, he opened the door of the metal safe. Yufi still couldn't believe that he could be a reformer. There were footsteps outside the door. Liu Di immediately asked her to solve a couple of questions. The door opened abruptly, and there was a crowd of guards standing there who didn't understand what was happening. Yufi took down several people with one foot. She demanded the truth from Liu Di, wanting to know his true identity. Liu Di pretended to tell her the truth at the first meeting, that he was a programmer and a mafia boss. She couldn't believe the truth. 3 minutes later, he placed a folder of papers on the desk. He wanted to destroy Hong Ying, but Yufi wanted to leave her to the law. Liu Di stopped his foot right in front of her face, and there was a loud thud in the house. It was Liu Di who kicked her head in with one foot, causing the floor to crack as well. He didn't want to leave a devilish creature alive. They calmly left the shelter. There, an unknown man jumped off the building. He introduced himself to them as the commander of the Kyoto sniper team, and his code name was Nail. He was framed by Duan to protect them. Liu Di was pleased with his shooting skills. He thanked Liu Di for the hint, since he couldn't find the target right away. Suddenly, Yufi realized that he had deflected the sniper's position with the light of his lighter. Nail had heard from the brothers that Liu Di was an army general. Liu Di asked for more details about the brothers. He was the 3rd child in the T family, and his name was T-san. Liu Di abruptly turned around to leave and wanted to go to Europe to deal with the real opponents. T-san wanted to go with him because he had to help at the right time. Liu Di admired his sniping abilities, but they weren't enough to fight the freaks in Europe. Tison asked me not to underestimate him. Suddenly, a bullet appeared in Liu Di's hands, and it was a demonstration of his carelessness. This bullet could have been a posthumous one for Yu Fai. But the guy wasn't bad, so he didn't mind giving him a few acquaintances. He gave him a task to deal with the stolen things from the shelter. Tyson is responsible for the case if it involves child trafficking in China. Yu Fai immediately asked to take her to Europe with her. It was a pretty good idea because she was a European agent and she can help. She offered her car in case she didn't have one. But he didn't need a car if he had a private jet. He was coming aboard, urging her on. Yuffie couldn't believe that Di and Dai-R would be the same person and wondered if he could also be Di-San. They came to Europe University in St. Petersburg. Inside, there was a long corridor with a bunch of rooms. 2 children were sitting in one of the rooms. Junior was trying to find out from his sister if they would be able to go to heaven after death and see their grandmother. At that moment, the door to the room opened. There was a scary man in doctor's clothing, ordering them to behave themselves during the experiment. The helicopter pulled up to the medical school. They came out of it. All the passers-by thought that they looked very much like superstars. Modong did an analysis of the terrain, and the vibrations of the ground were abnormal. Ludi asked what the chemical ingredients were, and they turned out to be ashes from burning people. Yufei doubted that they would find the right hangar in such a large place, but Ludi was confident of success. The guard immediately began to expel them because this was a restricted area. But Ludi hit him with a quick flick of his hand. They opened the doors. It looked like a warehouse and the room was full of dust, but the path underfoot was clean. Yufei was a little scared, offering to go back, but Ludi refused her sternly. He stepped on the glass and it cracked under his feet. Ludi fell through a window in the floor and jumped down. Yufei could smell the strong smell of blood, even in the corridor. They opened one room. The eye immediately started analyzing. Modong reported that the chance of transformation would be extremely small. The doctors noticed a stranger. Ludi slapped one of them sharply in the face. The doctor pressed the emergency button, and a siren sounded throughout the building. Ludi wanted to kill them all, since they were only demons in human form. He started covering them with punches. Yufei couldn't believe it was still the same guy from the club. The headmaster realized that someone was trespassing on their territory. One of the doctors was able to report to the professor that an unknown person broke into the laboratory and tried to kill the scientists. He asked to take 10 people with him to check the condition of the genetic limiter. There were footsteps in the corridor. There were a lot of people there. From the hole above, the room began to fill with purple gas. Yufei collapsed to her knees trying to fight the gas. Motong said that it emits bioelectric waves, and they are contraindicated for ordinary people. The door to the room was smashed in. They wanted to teach the reformer a lesson because he was going to lose almost all of his power, and they were ready to shoot to kill. Ludi didn't understand where they got the information about the reformer from. He was confident that they would be up to the task of killing him. Everyone was shocked with his calm demeanor, realizing that the limiter had no effect on him. The man was sure that he had killed a lot of people and was a reformer. They are lucky that the professor can foresee his future actions, and he is really strong. Ludi decided to show them who the real devil was. The man lunged at him first with his fist, wanting to knock the confidence out of him. Ludi grabbed his powerful fist with his hand. I hit him back with my head. He immediately fell to the floor as if he couldn't move anymore. Everyone rushed after the head, intending to kill him. Ludi dealt with each of them very easily, not wanting to just kill them. I decided to show them purgatory on Earth. He kicked one of them. While he was dealing with the others, one of the guys tried to run away. Ludi managed to jump on top of him, causing him to cry out in fear. The corpses lay in a pool of blood, and everything starts to go up in flames. All the corpses lit up at once. He ordered them all to be burned so that they would feel all the pain. Yufei couldn't understand what kind of horror he was doing. Ludi turned to her with a cigarette between his lips. She stared at him with shocked eyes. Ludi began to walk slowly towards her, trying to explain why he was doing such things. Yufei was already sitting on the floor, pinned against the wall. He was only following the rules of survival by picking her up. He carried her out of the burning building like a hero. He kicked down the door to the professor's office with one foot. The professor was horrified that Liu Di was able to get inside. Ludi decided to catch up with him as well. He ordered the guards to stop him. His guards ran at Liu Di, who was putting Yufei on the floor. Ludi took down 2 guards with a single blow. The professor couldn't understand what Liu Di was trying to achieve, but he only wanted him dead. The professor offered him anything, but Liu Di wanted to show him the full extent of his despair. With one hand, he threw it into the distance, causing it to fall directly into the fire. He sat down at the computer, and Mo Tong explained that the base was named after the Greek god Hercules, and you can't use the internet here without leaking information. Ludi concluded that they were trying to create demigod humans in the laboratory. He asked Yuffie if she knew the name of the government's transformation base. Yuffie immediately gave out the name Medusa. Mo Tong found another interesting piece of information. Yan Yi Lin had given birth to a child before the transformation, and the child's genes were just perfect. He was a real-born god. It was right behind the secret door in that wall. Mo Tong started using his abilities, and the door in the wall immediately opened. They went into the room together. There was a room with a playground where a boy sat alone. He was playing with different things. Ludi sat down next to him, trying to play together. Yuffie was afraid that he would want to harm the child, but it turned out that this was a different game of chess, so Ludi wanted to join him. Yuffie couldn't believe that a child could play chess all by himself. Suddenly, strange sounds were heard from the side. In the next room, there was a cage with a man locked inside. Yuffie was horrified by the sight, not believing that anyone could experiment on people. He was lying on the floor, bleeding profusely. Yuffie opened the lock, and she could only wish him peace of mind. Then she left the room. The boy was delighted because no one could beat her before, and Ludi won as many as 13 games. Then he was ready to leave with it. Ludi decided to ask him for a name while stroking his head. From birth, he was given the name Devil, Mo Tong, so he could be addressed as such. Mo Tong was delighted that they shared the same name. Ludi didn't like the meaning of the name, so he decided to give it a new name. He introduced himself to the boy in return, offering to call him Liu Di Jr. The boy was extremely dissatisfied with this name. Ludi laughed, realizing that he was extremely bad at nicknames. Yuffie reminded them to leave quickly before the fire started. The boy did not appreciate her appearance. In his opinion, the dress did not suit her. Yuffie was annoyed that he called her aunt, but the boy still felt right. Liu took hold of the metal door. He yanked it out with one hand, lifting it up so they could get out. They left the room when the fire broke out. The lab completely exploded. People gathered near the helicopter. Ludi patted the boy, leaving him to Yuffie because he had things to do. Yuffie begged them not to leave, but Ludi needed to meet an old friend and suggested that she use her FBI connections to complete the assignment. The helicopter began to fly away. This was seen by the man who was under the ruins. The guy begged her to wait because she was his goddess and savior. Ludi's car pulled up to the rehabilitation hospital. He stepped out of the elevator. I wasn't even surprised by the presence of reformers. One of them immediately flew off. Ludi walked on. The man in the hospital room couldn't believe that D-San was standing in front of him. Ludi was surprised that he was having such a boring time. He knew that he wouldn't live long, not understanding why he was killing innocents. The man did not understand the purpose of his visit, since he already knows everything. Ludi only wanted to restore peace and security to the people. The man was still confident of his immortality. At that moment, a letter appeared from the typewriter. He immediately took it out and asked if he knew anything about the children that Chainbridge had stolen. He has already asked to confess and return the children. The man jumped out of bed, calling Liu Di a dumb boy for not understanding the poker club's abilities, and promised to meet him in hell, ripping off all the medical equipment. Ludi didn't care about anything. He wanted to give him a terrible death. He began to write that the Chainbridge would arrive here very soon, so the meeting was inevitable. The old man was waiting for a gift from his children, D-San's head, not knowing that he was communicating with him. There was a knock on his door when they came to play bridge. He took out his revolver, intending to teach everyone a lesson, regardless of the outcome of the game today. The old man opened the door with a smile, and his friends were standing outside ready to win. An hour later, they were sitting at a table playing cards. Ludi burst into the room, ordering the guests to leave so that he could talk to the host. The old man didn't expect D-San to appear. The guests were not happy that he interrupted their game. He took out his revolver, starting to shoot immediately. All the guests immediately scattered. Ludi sat down directly across from him, offering to play with his deck. But the old man was surprised that he was still alive and was able to escape from the chain bridge. Ludi realized that he wanted to kill him just like the others. He clutched the deck of cards in his hands, realizing that he also had a lot of cards. But Ludi was only going to destroy it with one. The old man started coughing with nerves. He realized that Ludi had already met Teacher Ko. Ludi reported that he was already dead because he had committed suicide. He started shouting in rage, assuring me that the Joker would take care of him. After all, he doesn't even understand the ultimate meaning of a poker club. Ludi slapped him sharply across the face with his fist. There were 2 clown cards in his hands. And they are at least B-class reformers, maybe not as strong as the Joker, but they can destroy his empire. Meanwhile, in the hospital, the man suddenly woke up. He slowly got out of bed. He opened the door as he left the room. The man went to another room, where a guy who looked much better was lying. Suddenly, he fell down next to him. The guy got up from the bed, deciding to assume the name Lin R. He had spent too much energy trying to have a good time now. Meanwhile, the hospital was still on fire. Yuffie watched the man whose arm was burning under the rubble. She asked if he was sure. But the captain did not believe her words, as an ordinary person can kill 14 reformers in 1 hour. He concluded that Yuffie had been drugged and was only hallucinating. She tried to convince him that this man had managed them even in 10 minutes. Moreover, in China it is called God. He asked not to talk nonsense, and it was better to look at the information provided, where Liu Di's rank was compared to 27th. Yuffie was telling the truth when she offered to meet him in person. One of the soldiers ran up to the commander, asking for further instructions. Whole building burned down, so nothing can be returned. According to the expert, there was a gas explosion. He asked her to return to the headquarters to have a full health checkup. Yuffie reminded him that he had to follow her orders. Suddenly, the commander noticed an unknown child. There was Liu Di Jr. in the helicopter, and Yuffie called him hers, the kid who was abducted. The captain was horrified that it was so difficult to control her. But she didn't break the organization's rules at all with her behavior. The captain allowed the child to be taken away, but asked him to return to headquarters. The helicopter and cars started to leave. Behind him, I could see the hand of a man climbing out of the wreckage. They came to the north of Europe. Yuffie headed to the headquarters with the guards and the baby in her arms. The captain asked me to leave the child here and go to the office for a full examination. The full exam was supposed to take 3 hours, and she was against it. The captain reminded them that they were being chased by the Chinese god of war, as she said, and while there was still time, it was better to check their health. Yuffie demanded a little respect, since he was also a Chinese citizen. But the captain treated him normally, but he wanted to stay here since this god is very strong. Yuffie asked them not to overdo it and not to leave the child here, which could bring terrible consequences. But the captain considered this a simple alarm. An alarm sounded sharply in the building. An employee urgently stated that the headquarters had been attacked. They did not understand where he came from, in order to gather all available forces to delay. Yuffie was sure that he was already dead, but how could he have so much power? The captain realized that she recognized him. Liu Di Jr. explained that this guy is a vortex bug. He couldn't understand what the boy was saying. Yuffie thought that this guy might have come from the experimental lab. The captain believed her after seeing his incredible strength. The guy could fight with several employees at once. The captain considered these to be normal conditions for the survey. He decided to make himself a cup of coffee before meeting the Chinese god. Suddenly, he noticed something. The guy killed a whole crowd of his people. He asked her to run with the baby while he held the monster. The doors began to crack, and at that moment, the guy knocked it out with his foot. He was glad that he had finally found them. The captain charged to stop him, but the guy was able to hit him harder, right in the stomach. Yuffie begged not to touch the child. She could withstand any attack from him. The guy, in fact, came only for her, considering her a queen. Liu Di Jr. immediately recognized the vortex worm, and the guy recognized his little neighbor in her arms. The boy advised him to get out of here, because soon his friend will come here, and he will deal with him. The guy didn't believe him right away, but the boy kept threatening him. He decided not to kill him, since they had been neighbors for 4 years, but ordered them to stop provoking him. The boy knew that his friend would be here soon. The boy had never heard him talk so much. At this moment, the window was shattered by Liu Di's appearance. Liu Di appeared from behind the guy with falling shards. They immediately rejoiced at his appearance. The guy realized that Liu Di was going to ruin his fun. But Liu Di only wanted to kill him, the black and white Joker. Liu Di took off, and I gave the guy the first punch. He started to growl in pain but didn't move at all. Yuffie was shocked, as if he was an immortal. Liu Di even liked it a little. The guy was shocked by his behavior and self-confidence. Liu Di swung his fist at him, glad that he had finally met a person who was able to achieve a second strike. He threw a lot of punches at the guy because of his rage, because he was the first one who was able to arouse his anger. Everyone watched as he covered it with punches. The captain realized that this man was the god of China. Finally, the guy fell in a pool of blood. The boy had no doubt that his brother would win easily. He introduced himself to Liu Di as the captain of the North American division of the FBI and admired his strength. I asked him to join his defensive team. After all, those who are in his team gain a lot of money and an advantage. Transforming people was fashionable right now, and Liu Di would be free. Liu Di wanted to know what was going on in their company of heroes. The team of heroes consisted of B-class reformers who were scattered all over the world, with whom they solve important world problems. Liu Di still decided to join them, assuming the code name Di Liu, for which the captain sincerely thanked him. The captain handed him their badge for using their resources. Moding said that the badge contained a communication module, an identification and geolocation module. Liu Di called them over, preparing to return. The captain clarified exactly where Yuffie was going. She decided to contact the master and establish a relationship with him so that they could meet again. The captain watched her go. The Ludi sensor on his phone was missing. He realized that he had recruited heroes that he couldn't control himself. The helicopter landed in the forest. The boy screamed with delight. There, Kunsen and Xiaoxia were sitting by the fire tree. Xiaoxia was very happy to see his brother. I immediately became interested in his events, but Ludi asked me not to worry. He decided to introduce a new person to their family. Ludi introduced them to Ludi Jr., who had suffered at the hands of the mercenaries. The boy immediately greeted his new brother. Xiaoxia greeted him kindly, patting his head. And then he introduced Kun San that he was a baseball player. He assumed that the boy was Ludi's illegitimate brother, knowing that he would easily defeat him. Ludi Jr. couldn't take it seriously after all. He was eating fried chicken. Ludi laughed at him. He tossed the bag to Kun San like a gift. Inside was a hand with a tattoo of the fool who killed his wife. Kun San couldn't believe his eyes. He didn't know how to thank him for what he had done, wanting to give his life for it. Ludi didn't believe such big words. They came to his house. The boy's eyes darted away from such unusual surroundings, and now this was his home as well. A robot dog and a drone ran up to him. He really liked his brother's house. But Ludi had a few rules for him. First, he was not allowed to climb the shelves, and secondly, not to approach the assembly line. He specified whether he can use the product assembly line. Then Ludi suggested that he try to fix the robot, and only if successful would he give him permission. Yuffie watched him from the corner. Ludi was surprised that she decided to return, as she was about to return to her duties. She explained that they were both now with the FBI, and she wanted to protect him. Ludi didn't know if he looked like he needed to be protected. Suddenly, a different voice was heard in the room. Mrs. Nan was walking around the room, inspecting his house with various technologies. Ludi called out to her. She immediately glanced at Yuffie, who she didn't like. Ludi decided to show her the robot at the reception right away. The robot greeted Miss Nan, welcoming her to the hotel. She didn't understand what it was, but the robot was created with the help of artificial intelligence, which works according to the program. Yuffie was always surprised by his versatility, not knowing that he was also an inventor. He and Mrs. Nan sat down on the sofa. He said that he had prepared design drawings and now he only needs a reliable manufacturer. Mrs. Nan decided to help because she had a couple of friends that have modern factories. Ludi asked them to offer them a price that they would not refuse and buy out the necessary factories. He received an unexpected call. It was his mother. She suddenly reported that she felt like she was about to die. Ludi was no longer surprised by this news since she was referring to the game. She said that she was very annoyed with Zhao Chun, who constantly asked about her single son. Ludi suggested that we meet tomorrow to discuss everything. She decided to wait for him tomorrow night, intending to cook a delicious dinner. He dropped the call inside. The girls overheard his conversation, trying to go with him to his home.